The wealthy and flirtatious CEO Yi Yuxiao never fails at her hunting games. Unexpectedly, she fell for the rising star Fan Jing. At this moment, Yi Yuxiao was still bragging to her friends at the bar, claiming she could win Fan Jing over in 3 months. She even showed off some intimate photos with Fan Jing on her phone. Her friends immediately recognized Fan Jing in the photos. They mentioned that although Fan Jing is good-looking, he has quite a temper. They were surprised Yi Yuxiao won him over so quickly. Yi Yuxiao looked smug, saying that although she hadn't won him yet, the game was almost complete. She raised her glass again, determined to win Fan Jing. Everyone toasted to celebrate. Yi Yuxiao secretly vowed to make Fan Jing willingly become hers. Fan Jing was preparing for an audition. His assistant comforted him not to be nervous, saying the green light they saw was a good omen for today's audition. Fan Jing remained silent, focusing on his script, feeling confident about the audition. The assistant mentioned that if he passed this drama's audition, popularity wouldn't be a concern. Fan Jing just smiled, believing he should give it his all. Before finishing the sentence, he suddenly noticed danger ahead. He warned the assistant to be careful, as they were about to crash into a red sports car. The assistant was nearly in tears from panic. There were sparks and flashing lights as they braked and swerved. Fan Jing's head hit the car window, nearly splitting open. The assistant screamed Fan Jing's name. Fan Jing got out of the car holding his head, telling the assistant not to panic, saying he was fine. Yi Yuxiao also got out, apologizing while striking a pose. She said she was busy checking messages and missed the red light. Her attitude nearly infuriated Fan Jing, who immediately scolded her for lacking common sense. But she was more focused on his beauty instead. Fan Jing checked the car's condition himself, concluding it probably couldn't be driven. Yi Yuxiao observed Fan Jing, thinking his eyes looked beautiful even when angry. Fan Jing instructed his assistant to handle the accident while he went to the audition. However, Yi Yuxiao stopped him, insisting he should get checked first. Fan Jing impatiently told her to deal with the accident with his assistant and not meddle. But Yi Yuxiao ignored his attitude, brushed his hair aside, saying it wasn't good to audition while injured. Fan Jing touched his forehead, realizing he was indeed hurt. Yi Yuxiao asked him to wait there and left alone. When she returned, Yi Yuxiao brought a first aid kit, offering to help with emergency treatment. Fan Jing clearly didn't appreciate the gesture, saying he had a first aid kit in his car. But Yi Yuxiao insisted since she caused the accident, she had to personally treat Fan Jing's wound. She tried to put a bandage on Fan Jing, who refused, saying he wasn't comfortable with physical contact. Yi Yuxiao put on a pitiful expression, saying she didn't mean to be troublesome, but was worried. Fan Jing suddenly felt guilty and reluctantly agreed, blushing. Yi Yuxiao immediately brightened up, brushed aside Fan Jing's hair, asking if it hurt, then treated the wound while taking the chance to flirt. She complimented Fan Jing's looks, declaring it was love at first sight. Fan Jing was incredulous. Yi Yuxiao quickly apologized, explaining she had just returned from abroad and was more open-minded. Fan Jing was speechless, feeling she was doing all the sweet talking. Yi Yuxiao comforted Fan Jing not to be nervous, saying she would bandage the wound carefully. After treatment, Fan Jing touched his forehead and apologized to Yi Yuxiao. She seized the opportunity to ask for his contact information. Before he could respond, she leaned towards him, saying she wanted to give him her contact details. Unexpectedly, Fan Jing didn't fall for it, pushed her away, and left without looking back. His wariness only made things more interesting to her. Fan Jing checked the time. His assistant warned that not being able to get a taxi might delay the audition. Just then, Yi Yuxiao offered to drive Fan Jing to the audition. Fan Jing found Yi Yuxiao very persistent and didn't want to get involved, so he refused. Yi Yuxiao smiled brightly, asking if he wanted to be late. Fan Jing sighed, realizing he had no choice but to compromise. Yi Yuxiao thoughtfully opened the door for Fan Jing, her phone lying on the passenger seat. Friends had offered to introduce her to new targets. She agreed but found a more appealing target on the way. Fan Jing rushed to the Spirit Fox audition site, but was told he was 15 minutes late and couldn't audition. Fan Jing hoped for another chance, but the agent only expressed regret. Just when Fan Jing felt devastated, Yi Yuxiao patted his shoulder, saying she could help but had a condition. Fan Jing felt Yi Yuxiao was threatening him, but she claimed she just wanted to help. At this moment, people around started mocking Fan Jing, saying he deserved it for being a diva and wasting opportunities, criticizing his lack of ability despite his attitude. Fan Jing clenched his fists tightly, shook off Yi Yuxiao's hand, and left. The agent, who was just being diplomatic, started kicking him while he was down, saying Fan Jing deserved to be rejected for being arrogant. but he was quickly silenced by Yi Yuxiao's warning glare. Yi Yuxiao immediately used her connections and made calls to find opportunities for Fan Jing. Fan Jing was still grieving in a corner, feeling his hard-earned opportunity was lost. Unexpectedly, the agent who had just criticized him suddenly approached with a friendly invitation to audition. Fan Jing was pleasantly surprised but quickly realized it might be Yi Yuxiao's doing. Sure enough, Yi Yuxiao was waiting at the door, calmly greeting him. But Fan Jing just brushed past without acknowledging her. The next moment, Yi Yuxiao blocked his path. Fan Jing pushed her hand away, telling her to move. Yi Yuxiao grabbed Fan Jing's hand, calling him cold for not even saying thank you. This confirmed Fan Jing's suspicions. Fan Jing stated he never asked for help and wouldn't agree to her conditions. As he walked away, Yi Yuxiao grabbed his shoulder and pulled him into her arms, holding his waist. She explained she was just joking earlier and wanted to apologize, hoping he wouldn't be angry. She then touched his face, asked why his face was red. Fan Jing warned Yi Yuxiao again not to get too close. Yi Yuxiao clearly didn't take it seriously, wished him luck in the audition, but thought to herself she wouldn't let him go so easily next time. After walking a few steps, Yi Yuxiao sensed something. She lazily leaned against the wall, deciding to listen to how others were slandering Fan Jing. Two men were gossiping, criticizing Fan Jing as just a pretty face, saying he must have connections. Before they could say more, someone warned them they had wasted their trip today. Yi Yuxiao directly told them there would be no roles for them in this drama. The men became furious, demanding to know why she said that. Yi Yuxiao arrogantly stated it was because they offended someone she liked. Fan Jing successfully got his audition chance and began his self-introduction. Yi Yuxiao secretly watched from outside, feeling somewhat proud. Fan Jing demonstrated his abilities brilliantly. Two assistants privately discussed how surprisingly good his acting was, speculating he might get the lead role. Yi Yuxiao leaned against the wall, thinking how Fan Jing could capture people's hearts as soon as he spoke, making her want to conquer him even more. Fan Jing finished his performance, and while bowing, he caught a glimpse of Yi Yuxiao, surprised to find she had been watching his performance the whole time, and even applauded for him. But Fan Jing still didn't want any involvement with him and planned to leave. As they passed each other, Yi Yuxiao said he looked forward to meeting again. Fan Jing irritably replied there wouldn't be a next time, glancing at Zhong Siyuan before leaving. Yi Yuxiao cheerfully ran to talk to Zhong Siyuan, saying he should be grateful that he didn't miss out on a good actor. Zhong Siyuan stroked his chin, agreeing it wasn't bad. No wonder Yi Yuxiao specifically messaged him to watch Fan Jing's audition. Suddenly he noticed something. Yi Yuxiao was smiling brighter than flowers beside him. He suspected Yi Yuxiao was here as a fan. He quickly urged Yi Yuxiao to go home. Yi Yuxiao pouted, immediately identifying the suspect. Probably his father had complained. He then cozied up to Zhong Siyuan's arm, using Fan Jing's matter as a shield, hoping to be let off this time. He picked up the resume from the table, learning Fan Jing was the last candidate. He immediately had new ideas. Fan Jing received a message from his assistant that he passed the audition. Just as he entered the company, he was warmly greeted by two beautiful ladies who immediately noticed the new face. Yi Yuxiao appeared in a sharp, handsome suit, truly looking like a CEO. He skillfully put his arm around Fan Jing's shoulder, asking why he was so happy, then leaned in to look at the message on his phone. Fan Jing was shocked, demanding to know why he was here. Yi Yuxiao stood with hands in pockets, looking somewhat helpless, with bodyguards and assistants behind him. The bodyguard quickly explained that Yi Yuxiao was the newly appointed CEO and questioned which manager was responsible for Fan Jing, not knowing such important information. This complete reversal left Fan Jing speechless. Yi Yuxiao immediately played innocent, acting hurt that Fan Jing was treating him like a stranger. Soon his assistant reminded him about a fashion gala to attend. Fan Jing thought Yi Yuxiao's CEO identity was too coincidental. Yi Yuxiao asked his assistant if Fan Jing would be there. The assistant hesitated, shifting responsibility to Fan Jing's manager. Yi Yuxiao stroked his chin. He immediately arranged for Fan Jing to attend the fashion gala, then put his arm around Fan Jing's shoulder again, asking him to to accompany him. Fan Jing was shocked, thinking he must have misheard. Instead of repeating himself, Yi Yuxiao lifted Fan Jing's chin, telling him to dress nicely. Fan Jing attended the party as agreed. At the party, Chairman Chun was making empty promises and pressuring him to drink, hinting it was a good time to make connections and hoping he'd become the lead role. Fan Jing clearly didn't understand, politely thanking him for the favor. Facing Chairman Chin's pressure to drink, Fan Jing sensed something was off, but felt obligated due to his important status and prepared to drink. Fortunately, Yi Yuxiao appeared just in time, blocking the drink for him and standing in front, smilingly handling the social interaction. Fan Jing was confused that he was actually helping him out. Yi Yuxiao turned back to compliment Fan Jing's looks, saying everyone was drawn to him. Fan Jing blushed, thinking he was talking nonsense. Yi Yuxiao pretended to be drunk and fell against Fan Jing. Fan Jing tried to push him away, saying such a small amount couldn't cause drunkenness. Yi Yuxiao asked why Fan Jing was so guarded, but Fan Jing countered by asking how he would feel if a stranger suddenly became his boss. Yi Yuxiao said he'd consider it fate. Fan Jing didn't respond, but suggested he rest if he was drunk. Yi Yuxiao leaned in closer, asking if Fan Jing was worried about him. Fan Jing blushed, saying he just didn't want the CEO embarrassing the company. Yi Yuxiao knew Fan Jing wasn't being honest. Soon he noticed Fan Jing was sweating profusely. Fan Jing felt embarrassed, thinking it was because Yi Yuxiao was too close. Fan Jing pushed him away, saying he needed to use the bathroom. He noticed something was wrong. He felt hot and dizzy. Standing in front of the mirror, he felt not only dizzy but also weak. Seeing this, Chairman Chen quickly embraced him, lecherously asking what was wrong. Fan Jing was startled by Chairman Chen's actions. He loudly demanded to know what he was doing. Chairman Chen immediately wrapped his arm around his neck, saying he would take good care of him. In desperation, Fan Jing grabbed a jar from the table, ready to throw it, shouting at Chairman Chen to get away. Unexpectedly, Chairman Chen easily saw through this move, saying he must not have had enough to drink. Fan Jing finally realized Chairman Chen's plot and loudly demanded to know what he put in the drink. But Chairman Chen ignored him completely, grabbing his hair, thinking him ungrateful, and taunting him about being disliked by his manager. At this crucial moment, Fan Jing thought of Yi Yuxiao, attempting to use his name to intimidate the other party. But the other party wasn't scared at all, instead moving closer and licking his lips, suggesting Yi Yuxiao would approve of trading him for resources. Fan Jing immediately shed helpless tears, secretly wondering if Yi Yuxiao would really do such a thing. It was another moment calling for a hero's rescue. Just as Chairman Chun was about to succeed, Yi Yuxiao made a dramatic entrance, demanding to know what he was doing. His eyes were full of concern for Fan Jing. Chairman Chen clearly didn't take Yi Yuxiao's appearance seriously. After all, he thought himself an important client and told Yi Yuxiao not to ruin his fun. Unexpectedly, Yi Yuxiao directly confronted him and nearly twisted his arm off. The pain made Chairman Chen curse out loud, while still warning about their existing cooperation. Yi Yuxiao didn't care about these small projects and immediately canceled their cooperation. He stepped forward to put his coat around Fan Jing, gently showing concern. Chairman Chen was still raging behind them, threatening revenge. Yi Yuxiao fiercely declared he wouldn't let Chairman Chen off. Fan Jing was surprised that Yi Yuxiao would get so angry for his sake, but he didn't want Yi Yuxiao to see him in such a state and struggled to leave. However, due to the drug's effects, he almost fell, fortunately caught by Yi Yuxiao in time. Yi Yuxiao pulled him into his arms, comforting him softly. Yi Yuxiao took Fan Jing home and even intended to help him to the bathroom. Fan Jing insisted he could manage alone, but Yi Yuxiao felt he couldn't take care of himself in this state. Before he could finish speaking, Fan Jing interrupted, again emphasizing he could manage. Yi Yuxiao had to compromise, reminding him to call if needed. Then Yi Yuxiao called his assistant to investigate the Chairman Chen incident and check if anyone else was involved. After hanging up, he silently vowed to make Chairman Chen and his associates pay. A noise came from the bathroom, and Yi Yuxiao hurriedly opened the door, asking if Fan Jing was all right. Fan Jing had fallen beside the bathtub, somewhat dazed, telling Yi Yuxiao to leave him alone, saying a boy's chastity was most important. Unexpectedly, the next moment he was wrapped in a towel and princess carried by Yi Yuxiao. Fan Jing shouted for him to let go. Yi Yuxiao angrily asked if he planned to soak in cold water all night and torture himself to death. Fan Jing felt guilty, but still insisted chastity was more important than life. Yi Yuxiao thoughtfully put Fan Jing on the bed. Fan Jing mumbled that he felt hot and cold. Now it was Yi Yuxiao's turn to make a move. Fan Jing demanded to know what he was doing. Yi Yuxiao said he wanted to help, couldn't watch him suffer. Fan Jing blushed and asked what help he could offer. Yi Yuxiao told him to guess, making Fan Jing furious. He grabbed Yi Yuxiao's arm, telling him to get off the bed. Yi Yuxiao thought Fan Jing was really stubborn and asked if he knew what state he was in. Yi Yuxiao found Fan Jing not only delectable, but also strongly aroused his desire to conquer. He would take advantage of Chairman Chen's misdeed. Then he comforted Fan Jing, saying this wasn't the time to act tough. Fan Jing cried, telling Yi Yuxiao not to touch him. Yi Yuxiao continued his advances, saying this was the best solution and urging him not to endure it anymore. Fan Jing was almost unconscious, but before that, he still managed to say no. Quite impressive. Yi Yuxiao didn't care about anything else. He felt like he'd struck gold. Since the prey came willingly, he couldn't refuse such an opportunity. When sunlight filled the earth, Fan Jing woke up. He held his head, unsure what time it was. But he quickly remembered last night's intimate moments with Yi Yuxiao and realized Yi Yuxiao had changed his clothes for him. Yi Yuxiao mentioned he had slept until afternoon. Fan Jing then noticed Yi Yuxiao at the door, inviting him to eat. Yi Yuxiao apologized gentlemanly for his presumptuous actions, then wrapped his arm around Fan Jing's waist, slyly asking about his experience last night. Fan Jing hurried to draw boundaries, claiming nothing happened on Christmas Eve. Yi Yuxiao, eager about their bet, naturally didn't want to be uninvolved. Just as Fan Jing was about to restate their relationship, Yi Yuxiao's firm hand stopped him. Not wanting to spoil the mood, he urged him to eat first. He thoughtfully prepared a stomach-warming porridge with wolfberries, yam, and lean meat. He handed over the porridge with a bright smile, promising to make a real feast next time. Fan Jing skeptically tried a spoonful, surprised to find it delicious, slightly improving his opinion of Yi Yuxiao. When Yi Yuxiao asked about his performance last night, Fan Jing spat out the porridge he was drinking in shock. He angrily shouted Yi Yuxiao's name, but Yi Yuxiao was pleased, patting his back kindly, saying he was just joking. Then Yi Yuxiao seriously stated that Fan Jing was very charming last night. Fan Jing couldn't figure out what Yi Yuxiao was really up to. Yi Yuxiao felt things couldn't end just like that. Both of them had their own schemes. Soon Yi Yuxiao held Fan Jing's hand, asking if they could maintain this relationship. Fan Jing immediately understood he wanted a casual relationship, thinking the breakfast was just to get another night together. Yi Yuxiao hadn't expected Fan Jing to be so angry. He quickly denied it, about to say something to comfort him. But Fan Jing grew angrier, feeling every word was a lie. He grabbed Yi Yuxiao's collar, asking if he had actually developed real feelings. Yi Yuxiao admitted it without hesitation, looking very serious. Fan Jing blushed embarrassedly, but still insisted on maintaining boundaries, saying everything was just an accident. Yi Yuxiao grew angry, holding Fan Jing's chin, demanding to know why he was rushing to deny their relationship. He asked if Fan Jing was afraid of him. Fan Jing immediately turned away, admitting he feared more trouble. He reminded Yi Yuxiao of their superior-subordinate relationship, mentioning his assistant would bring scripts soon and it wouldn't look good if he was seen there. Yi Yuxiao was furious and stormed out. Fan Jing finally relaxed, remembering how Yi Yuxiao saved him last night. He felt his behavior might have been a bit excessive. Meanwhile, Yi Yuxiao was at a bar, still angry. His friend consoled him, saying it was just a casual fling and he could find someone else. Yi Yuxiao said this was different. He enjoyed pursuing the reluctant ones. His friend handed him a drink, thinking he'd met his match. Swirling his wine glass, Yi Yuxiao agreed Fan Jing was stubborn, remembering that night and thinking the challenge was worth it. His friend put an arm around his shoulder, wanting to witness his charm and proposing a new bet. Yi Yuxiao immediately agreed, looking confident. They clinked glasses, and Yi Yuxiao set the bet. Within 3 months, he would make Fan Jing willingly become his. After all, he took over the remaining business because of Fan Jing. As a businessman, he naturally expected returns. He couldn't give up easily now. Soon, he received a call from his assistant about gossip news spreading about him and Fan Jing, mostly claiming Fan Jing relied on a sugar daddy to succeed. The assistant asked if they should use connections to suppress the news. Yi Yuxiao felt this gossip would harm Fan Jing's rising career. but he quickly had a new idea. He decided to let the situation develop, creating some trouble for Fan Jing. After all, sometimes external pressure was needed to trap prey. Meanwhile, Fan Jing received a call from his father asking for money. Fan Jing acknowledged it. After hanging up, his assistant asked if his father was asking for money again, despite receiving some recently. Fan Jing said they shouldn't worry about that now. They needed to resolve the gossip news quickly. Just as they left the company, they encountered a group of reporters. The assistant thought it was unbelievable. Seeing Fan Jing, the reporters swarmed forward, wanting to interview him. Fan Jing was mentally prepared for this. The reporters asked if he would remain silent as before. Fan Jing felt reporters only wanted news, not caring about the victim's feelings. Suddenly, a horn honked twice nearby. Fan Jing noticed a white sports car in the crowd. Yi Yuxiao rolled down the window. The hint was obvious. Fan Jing got into the passenger seat, and Yi Yuxiao started making conversation. He said it was his first time seeing such a scene, joking that they'd become gossip subjects together. Fan Jing irritably asked if he found it amusing. Fan Jing then thought since it wasn't affecting Yi Yuxiao directly, of course he'd find it fun. Getting angrier, he rushed to deny their relationship again. Yi Yuxiao also became anxious, taking all the blame and trying to calm him down. Fan Jing suddenly felt he was being excessive. He didn't know why he always treated Yi Yuxiao coldly, so he stopped talking. Yi Yuxiao noticed something was wrong and asked if he was okay. Fan Jing said he didn't care, saying people would forget once the heat died down. Yi Yuxiao suddenly braked. Fan Jing was confused as Yi Yuxiao leaned closer. He said Fan Jing was just pretending not to care, but was actually affected. Otherwise, he wouldn't have forgotten to fasten his seatbelt. Then he helped buckle it. Yi Yuxiao patted his head, telling him not to act tough and promising to handle everything. Fan Jing blushed, not understanding why he cared so much. Unexpectedly, Yi Yuxiao kissed his cheek. Fan Jing exploded, covering his face, too shocked to speak. Yi Yuxiao raised his hands, saying he couldn't help himself, and told Fan Jing to take it as comfort. Fan Jing angrily said he didn't need such comfort and told him to drive, secretly thinking he must stay alert around him. They said goodbye in the parking lot, but after walking just a few steps, Fan Jing ran into Chairman Chen, who brought some thugs to cause trouble. He openly told Fan Jing that he arranged for those gossip photos to be taken. Fan Jing was surprised it was Chairman Chen's doing. Chairman Chen denied responsibility, blaming Fan Jing for being stubborn, then touched Fan Jing's face, warning him not to make things difficult. Fan Jing immediately slapped his hand away, telling him to get lost and calling him disgusting. This enraged Chairman Chen, who cursed loudly. At this crucial moment, Yi Yuxiao came to support Fan Jing, protecting him from behind, though Fan Jing couldn't understand his actions. Yi Yuxiao immediately punched Chairman Chen, making him spit blood unexpectedly. Yi Yuxiao warned Chairman Chen that Fan Jing was off limits to him. Chairman Chen, covering his face, thought this was the perfect chance for revenge and ordered his thugs to attack them. Yi Yuxiao told Fan Jing to leave first. Fan Jing was worried and didn't want to go. Yi Yuxiao swung his long leg and took down one of the thugs. At that moment, another thug targeted Fan Jing, preparing to hit him from behind. Sensing Fan Jing's danger, Yi Yuxiao pulled the stunned Fan Jing away, taking the thug's blow himself. Blood dripped onto the ground as Fan Jing called out his name. Yi Yuxiao kicked the thug away, clutching his injured shoulder and telling Fan Jing to run. Unexpectedly, he faced Red Hair's fist next. Though he noticed the attack coming, Yi Yuxiao was held from behind by another thug and took Red Hair's punch directly. Chairman Chen viciously ordered Red Hair to teach Yi Yuxiao a lesson, which was exactly what Red Hair intended. As he grabbed Yi Yuxiao's collar, ready to punish him, someone stopped them. Fan Jing held up his phone, warning the thugs that he'd called the police and everything was recorded by security cameras. The thugs were shocked, and after looking around, they saw the cameras were real. Chairman Chen told them to retreat for now. Fan Jing immediately checked on Yi Yuxiao's injuries. Yi Yuxiao was almost kneeling in pain, saying everything hurt. Seeing Yi Yuxiao holding his head, Fan Jing worried about internal injuries and suggested going to the hospital, but was refused. Yi Yuxiao pitifully told Fan Jing not to worry about him, acting coy and saying he only caused trouble. He also felt guilty about Chairman Chen's incident. Fan Jing was somewhat angry, explaining he never blamed him and told him to stop being moody. Yi Yuxiao took the chance to express his wish to pursue Fan Jing. Fan Jing was shocked, his face unconsciously turning red. Seeing no response, Yi Yuxiao started complaining, urgently trying to make Fan Jing leave, pretending to be strong and saying he could manage alone. Seeing Yi Yuxiao holding his ankle, Fan Jing felt responsible for his injuries and couldn't just leave, so he agreed. Yi Yuxiao couldn't believe it. Having achieved his goal, he stopped pretending. He immediately stood up and stretched, saying after hearing Fan Jing's words, his waist and legs didn't hurt anymore. Fan Jing became embarrassed and angry, asking if Yi Yuxiao was making fun of him. Yi Yuxiao quickly explained that the injuries were real, but not serious. Fan Jing decided to leave him be since it wasn't serious. But the next moment, Yi Yuxiao grabbed his hand, looking at him pitifully and asking him not to leave. Yi Yuxiao openly admitted taking advantage of the situation, but said it was all sincere, hoping Fan Jing would give him a chance. Fan Jing blushed at his words and told him to get up. Yi Yuxiao claimed he couldn't get up because of his injury. Though Fan Jing said he wouldn't help, his hand honestly reached out to support him. Yi Yuxiao smiled gratefully, knowing Fan Jing was just being tsundere. Just as Fan Jing helped Yi Yuxiao up, his phone accidentally fell. He told Yi Yuxiao not to move. When Fan Jing picked up the phone, he unexpectedly saw Yi Yuxiao's screen wallpaper. His expression became serious. While applying medicine to Yi Yuxiao's wounds, Fan Jing said he had something to ask. Yi Yuxiao told him to ask directly. Fan Jing mentioned that in the underground parking lot, he accidentally saw his lock screen, which used Fan Jing's photo. Yi Yuxiao looked innocent, asking how he could peek at a young man's private matters, but Fan Jing didn't believe this excuse. He pinched Yi Yuxiao's face, making him beg for mercy and complain about being rough with a patient. Then he explained it was just a secretly taken photo to cure his homesickness. Soon he held Fan Jing's hand again, saying things were different now. Now he could officially pursue Fan Jing. Fan Jing remembered he had indeed agreed to this request, but now felt it was a bit hasty. Fan Jing explained that he only agreed in the heat of the moment and should think it through more carefully after calming down. Yi Yuxiao asked what he meant if he wanted to go back on his word. He stammered but still felt this matter shouldn't be taken lightly. Before he could finish speaking, Yi Yuxiao leaned in. Fan Jing didn't know what he was planning, but had to be cautious. He quickly covered the other's mouth with his hand, warning him not to push his luck. Yi Yuxiao grabbed Fan Jing's hand, feeling that he was being treated like a wolf. Fan Jing thought Yi Yuxiao was no different from one. Yi Yuxiao didn't mind and kissed Fan Jing's palm, wanting him to know he wasn't joking about this matter. He suggested taking things slowly. Fan Jing decided to compromise and planned to check the injury on his shoulder first. Yi Yuxiao's entire shoulder was bruised. Fan Jing complained that those thugs were too brutal. Yi Yuxiao joked if he was worried about him. Fan Jing felt apologetic since he got hurt protecting him. Yi Yuxiao buried his head in Fan Jing's chest, telling him not to apologize since the company still needed him as their star. Fan Jing felt complicated. Originally, he thought Yi Yuxiao's pursuit was just novelty, and he had no time for relationship games. But now he decided to follow his heart, to try and trust Yi Yuxiao. Meanwhile, Yi Yuxiao was planning how to settle scores with Chairman Chen, but it was a blessing in disguise since Fan Jing had started to trust him. This trade wasn't a loss. The assistant told Fan Jing that the gossip news had been suppressed and Chairman Chen was under investigation for tax issues. The assistant was relieved they hadn't collaborated with Chen recently. Fan Jing calmly stated he had heard about Chairman Chen's matters, secretly guessing this was all Yi Yuxiao's doing. The assistant asked Fan Jing if Yi Yuxiao drove him home that night of the party. Fan Jing didn't answer, but joked about his gossip. The assistant continued, believing Yi Yuxiao had feelings for Fan Jing. Fearing word would spread, Fan Jing used Yi Yuxiao's position as boss to silence the assistant, telling him not to talk nonsense. The assistant quickly found an excuse to leave. Soon Fan Jing received a message from Yi Yuxiao inviting him to lunch. Fan Jing thought he really didn't miss any opportunity. Then Lu Kui came to chat with Fan Jing, saying he seemed to be living well lately, and introduced himself. Before Fan Jing could say anything, Lu Kui gossiped, asking if he had slept with the boss. Fan Jing glared at him angrily, but Lu Kui didn't mind and comforted him, saying such things were common. Fan Jing felt no need to waste words with him and just explained briefly, showing no friendliness. Lu Kuo persisted, still dancing in Fan Jing's danger zone, saying there was nothing shameful about it. He even told him that Yi Yuxiao used to fool around when he was abroad. Fan Jing was surprised and asked what he meant. Fan Jing warned Lu Kuo to think about the consequences, saying spreading rumors about the boss wasn't good. But Lu Kuo said he wasn't making things up, as his friend who owned a bar had recently introduced bedmates to Yi Yuxiao. After speaking, he envied Fan Jing, saying he had hit the jackpot with the boss and wouldn't worry about good resources. Fan Jing was angry and emphasized again that his relationship with Yi Yuxiao wasn't what Lu Kuo thought. Lu Kuo gave up, explaining he just wanted to get closer and understand the boss's preferences. Looking at his phone, Fan Jing felt deeply deceived. He made an excuse to decline Yi Yuxiao's lunch invitation. At this moment, he felt everything Yi Yuxiao had done for him was just a scheme. But soon he remembered how Yi Yuxiao got hurt protecting him, suddenly unsure what kind of person Yi Yuxiao really was. Fan Jing dressed up in disguise and came to the restaurant where Yi Yuxiao invited him. He asked the waiter about Yi Yuxiao's reserved seat. The waiter said Yi Yuxiao had arrived and asked if they were together, offering to show the way. Fan Jing agreed. He felt some things needed to be clarified in person. Besides, this was Yi Yuxiao's first invitation, and he didn't want to wrongly accuse him. But before he reached the table, he heard a familiar voice. Unexpectedly, Yi Yuxiao was already with someone else. The two were very intimate, and Yi Yuxiao was laughing happily. Soon Yi Yuxiao noticed someone watching him. He recognized Fan Jing's silhouette. He immediately went to grab Fan Jing, asking wasn't he too busy to come. Fan Jing immediately responded sarcastically, saying even if he couldn't come, it didn't stop Yi Yuxiao from finding someone else to dine with. Yi Yuxiao noticed his unhappiness, asked if he was jealous, and explained he was just discussing business. Then he reached out to touch his face, saying if he knew Fan Jing was coming, he would have saved all his time for him. Fan Jing removed his hand and asked word by word whether they were discussing business or bedroom matters. Seeing Yi Yuxiao's silence, Fan Jing said he wouldn't disturb his peacock display. Yi Yuxiao asked Fan Jing why he thought that way, grabbed his hand again, asking if he had heard something. Lu Kuo heard and came over, calling Fan Jing's name. Asked if he was also here for dinner. Learning that Lu Kuo was the one dining with Yi Yuxiao, Fan Jing shook off Yi Yuxiao's hand, saying he was just passing by. Yi Yuxiao was grinding his teeth in frustration. His relationship with Fan Jing had just made progress, and now it seemed all wasted. Lu Kuo felt Fan Jing always looked down on people, just like this morning. Yi Yuxiao immediately glared at him, asking what he had said. Lu Kuo stammered, explaining he thought they were just bedmates. Yi Yuxiao was furious. He warned Lu Kuo that if he couldn't control his mouth, their relationship would end right there. It started raining heavily outside. Fan Jing was still angry. He didn't want to answer Yi Yuxiao's calls, but the other kept calling. Fan Jing answered, saying he didn't want to be disturbed. Yi Yuxiao said he was right below his apartment. Fan Jing was shocked, especially since it was raining. He immediately got up to check, wondering what the other was up to. Yi Yuxiao looked up at Fan Jing hopefully, saying if Fan Jing wouldn't listen to his explanation, he would keep waiting there. Unexpectedly, Fan Jing just closed the curtains, saying he didn't want to hear explanations, and heartlessly hung up. Fan Jing looked at his phone, regretting not realizing Yi Yuxiao's flirtatious nature earlier. Yi Yuxiao kept sending messages, insisting on seeing him. But Fan Jing thought cutting losses early was the wise choice. Soon thunder started, startling Fan Jing. He looked outside worriedly. Looking at the darkened lights, Yi Yuxiao self-mockingly thought he was too confident, thinking Fan Jing would soften. Unexpectedly, the next moment Fan Jing appeared before him. Yi Yuxiao was delighted to see him, but Fan Jing had no intention of inviting him up. He just brought an umbrella and told him to get lost. Yi Yuxiao grabbed Fan Jing, pitifully asking him not to leave. He felt Fan Jing still cared for him and tried to explain. Fan Jing angrily pulled his hand back, wanting to cut ties with this scumbag immediately. He wouldn't listen to explanations. Before leaving, Fan Jing brought up Yi Yuxiao's earlier pursuit, saying it was time for an answer. Fan Jing said they weren't compatible and told him not to bother anymore. Yi Yuxiao was shocked by this rejection, his mind stuck on the words not compatible, unable to even hold the umbrella. Fan Jing's umbrella was given in vain. They stood frozen in the rain. Yi Yuxiao blamed Fan Jing for believing others' words over his sincerity, not even giving him a chance to explain. Fan Jing retorted, saying he knew best whether it was just hearsay or fact, then urged him to leave again. He hadn't noticed that the other was about to collapse. Fan Jing only realized when Yi Yuxiao was about to fall. Seeing Yi Yuxiao faint, Fan Jing immediately went to support him. Yi Yuxiao begged him not to leave and tried to explain, saying he hadn't lied. Fan Jing said it wasn't the time for explanations. But Yi Yuxiao insisted on explaining. Fan Jing carried him towards his home, comforting him that they could talk later. Yi Yuxiao showed a triumphant smile. Fan Jing was drying his hair while reflecting on how he'd gone soft on this scoundrel again. The other asked for Fan Jing's help, but it was more like seduction. Yi Yuxiao approached with his perfect figure. Fan Jing blushed and asked why he wasn't wearing clothes. Yi Yuxiao indicated his injured shoulder, saying he couldn't manage alone. Fan Jing couldn't refuse now, since the injury was his fault. Reluctantly, he agreed. Fan Jing carefully helped Yi Yuxiao dress, scolding him for foolishly planning to stand in the rain until death. Yi Yuxiao suddenly pulled Fan Jing into his embrace. Fan Jing was confused, asking what he was doing. Unexpectedly, Yi Yuxiao became emotional, complaining that Fan Jing wronged him, saying he'd die of grievance if not from the rain. Then, he placed Fan Jing's hand on his heart, saying he didn't care about others' opinions, but Fan Jing shouldn't misunderstand him. He kissed Fan Jing. Yi Yuxiao looked sincere, declaring Fan Jing was the one he truly liked. Rain continued outside. Fan Jing held a book, but couldn't focus, his mind full of Yi Yuxiao lying beside him. He felt that every time he tried to draw boundaries with him, it failed. Then he recalled Yi Yuxiao's sincere confession, suddenly feeling like a schoolgirl, unsure whether to trust Yi Yuxiao. Yi Yuxiao drowsily called Fan Jing, saying he was cold. Fan Jing pulled up his blanket, thinking he was bossy even while sleeping. Suddenly, Fan Jing noticed something wrong. He quickly felt Yi Yuxiao's forehead and found he had a fever. Fan Jing felt guilty for letting Yi Yuxiao stand in the rain. He softly called his name, asking him to get up and take medicine. Yi Yuxiao felt pain everywhere. Fan Jing wiped his sweat with a handkerchief, comforting him about the fever's discomfort. He planned to wipe down his body, but blushed when reaching the neck. Yi Yuxiao remained calm, even opening his clothes, making Fan Jing blush more. Yi Yuxiao laughed, saying Fan Jing was redder than the patient. Fan Jing said he talked too much. Then Yi Yuxiao started coughing. Fan Jing anxiously asked if he was okay. He fell into Fan Jing's arms, saying he wasn't well, and asked Fan Jing to join him in bed. Fan Jing complained about catching his illness, but honestly pulled back the covers. Yi Yuxiao jumped into Fan Jing's arms, saying he was so good. Fan Jing thought he was like a clingy child. Yi Yuxiao didn't mind, saying he could be even clingier, putting his leg over Fan Jing's and trying to kiss his neck. This made Fan Jing anxious, complaining he wouldn't rest even while sick. Yi Yuxiao said with his love nearby, he had to stay spirited. Fan Jing pinched his face, telling him to sleep properly or he'd throw him out. He pulled up the blanket, warning him not to catch cold again tonight. Yi Yuxiao looked at Fan Jing, thinking that despite all his past relationships, they were just transactions. No one had ever cared for him so thoroughly. Fan Jing found his smile a bit mushy and asked what he was thinking. Yi Yuxiao wouldn't tell his true thoughts, so he joked about making her take responsibility. Fan Jing was speechless, thinking he must be really sick. They slept in each other's arms. Yi Yuxiao realized it was his first time just lying in bed with a man doing nothing. Stranger still, he felt at peace. They held hands and spent another peaceful night. Fan Jing woke up first in Yi Yuxiao's embrace. The first thing he did was check his temperature with his forehead, relieved to find the fever gone. Fan Jing watched the sleeping Yi Yuxiao, surprised to see such a quiet and gentle side of him. He gently touched Yi Yuxiao's lips. Just as he was about to say something heartfelt, Yi Yuxiao caught his hand, asking what he wanted to say. Unexpectedly, Fan Jing immediately sat up, first declaring how annoying Yi Yuxiao was. But Yi Yuxiao didn't believe him, grabbed his hand, and pinned him down, saying he wouldn't let him go until he told the truth. Fan Jing quickly changed the subject, noting Yi Yuxiao must be better since he had so much strength. Yi Yuxiao blurted out a cheesy line, saying Fan Jing was his medicine, not only effective but addictive. He then took Fan Jing's hand and placed it on his chest, saying his heart was full of him. Fan Jing was speechless, but thought no one could resist Yi Yuxiao's cheesy lines. The intimate atmosphere reached its peak. As Yi Yuxiao continued with sweet words, things were about to progress naturally. But an interruption came quickly. Fan Jing's phone suddenly rang. Yi Yuxiao was annoyed and told him to ignore it. Fan Jing smiled and told him not to fuss. Looking at the phone, it was his father who frequently asked for money. Fan Jing's expression immediately turned serious. After thinking briefly, he answered it. He left the room while refusing his father's attempt to use his name for business. Yi Yuxiao lay in bed feeling annoyed, noticing Fan Jing's family photo by the bed, thinking his sure thing had slipped away. When Fan Jing returned, Yi Yuxiao put on his harmless expression and asked with concern what happened. He rested his head on Fan Jing's shoulder, asking if he needed emotional support, but was coldly rejected. But Yi Yuxiao didn't give up. He suggested doing something fun, but Fan Jing pushed him away, saying he wasn't in the mood. By now, Yi Yuxiao's patience was exhausted. He was about to explode, but managed to control himself. For the sake of their bet, he had to maintain his understanding persona and stopped pressuring Fan Jing. Fan Jing ruffled his hair and told him to go home soon, saying he had work to do. Fan Jing was shooting in the studio, with the photographer praising him. Chain glasses and shirt, a perfectly restrained look, even his gaze was dramatic. Yi Yuxiao was watching him on set. When the photographer called for a break, Fan Jing went to talk to Yi Yuxiao, saying a CEO didn't need to personally supervise the shoot. Yi Yuxiao didn't mind, winked at him, saying he was just invested in the company's project. Then he teased Fan Jing, asking if he didn't want to see him. Fan Jing neither denied nor admitted it, saying he never said such things. Yi Yuxiao patted his shoulder, noting he seemed distracted, then moved closer and held his waist. Just then, an assistant interrupted them, telling Fan Jing his father called again, asking if he wanted to call back. Fan Jing said no, and the photographer called him back to shoot. Yi Yuxiao smiled, telling him to go ahead, but he became suspicious of Fan Jing's father, feeling he always ruined their moments. He called his assistant to investigate Fan Jing's family situation, especially his father. Surprisingly, Fan Jing's family situation was quite complicated. Fan Jing's parents divorced 15 years ago. His father had various debts, and after Fan Jing became famous, his father started contacting him for money. Yi Yuxiao didn't know whether to call Fan Jing kind or foolish for willingly being his father's ATM. But Yi Yuxiao didn't see this as a bad thing, viewing it as a good opportunity to gain his trust. When Fan Jing heard a knock, he thought it was Yi Yuxiao coming uninvited again. Instead, it was his drunk father, complaining about unanswered calls. Fan Jing was already used to his drunken state. He reached out to support him, planning to talk when he sobered up. Unexpectedly, his father became belligerent, insisting Fan Jing endorse his new store. Fan Jing stated he had already refused and wouldn't change his mind. His father grabbed his arm, accusing him of ignoring family ties while living in luxury while letting his father live on the streets. Fan Jing suddenly lost his patience and pulled his hand away. He questioned where this family sentiment was when his father abandoned his wife and child, mentioning how he was deceived by another woman and left with huge debts. Unable to argue back, his father slapped him hard, accusing him of disrespect and demanding an apology. Fan Jing admitted his mistake was giving his father any money at all, angering his father, who prepared to slap him again. At that crucial moment, Yi Yuxiao came to the rescue. He caught his father-in-law's hand, explained he entered because the door was open, showed concern for Fan Jing, then suggested they could talk things through without violence. But his father-in-law was ungrateful, cursing and throwing things, ordering him not to interfere. Yi Yuxiao immediately revealed his CEO identity, stating he had an obligation to intervene. Fan Jing's father was stunned. Yi Yuxiao continued, saying he had violated the personal safety of a company artist and could face legal consequences. But suggesting this wasn't the best solution, he offered money on the condition that Fan Jing's name wouldn't be used for the store or endorsements. Fan Jing's father immediately agreed, and Yi Yuxiao promised to contact him. Fan Jing became anxious, saying he hadn't agreed. Yi Yuxiao tried to calm him, saying the matter was resolved, but Fan Jing pushed him away. He questioned why Yi Yuxiao acted on his own. Before Yi Yuxiao could explain, Fan Jing interrupted. Fan Jing told Yi Yuxiao to stop interfering in his affairs, then realized his words were too harsh. He touched Yi Yuxiao's face and apologized, explaining that wasn't what he meant. Yi Yuxiao graciously accepted the apology and showed understanding. Fan Jing made an excuse to clean the living room, but Yi Yuxiao knew he was just embarrassed. While cleaning, Fan Jing accidentally hurt his finger. Yi Yuxiao immediately came to check on him. Fan Jing smiled, saying it was just a small wound, but Yi Yuxiao told him not to move. He then began licking the wound. Fan Jing was too embarrassed to speak. Yi Yuxiao pulled Fan Jing's injured finger to his mouth, carefully tending to the small wound. Meeting Fan Jing's startled gaze, Yi Yuxiao lovingly kissed his finger, seriously warning him not to get hurt, not even small injuries. Hearing Yi Yuxiao's sweet words, Fan Jing's face turned red, turning away and telling him to stop saying such things. Seeing Fan Jing's shy, conflicted expression, Yi Yuxiao decided to tease him. He feigned confusion, explaining that as an actor, Fan Jing shouldn't get injured, then asked if he had misunderstood. Fan Jing realized Yi Yuxiao was teasing him and turned red with embarrassment and anger. Angrily standing up to leave, Yi Yuxiao quickly grabbed Fan Jing's arm, playfully begging him not to be angry and explaining he was just teasing. Then he took Fan Jing's hand and led him out, saying he wanted to take him somewhere. Fan Jing followed, confused. Soon, Yi Yuxiao brought Fan Jing to an amusement park. It wasn't until they were sitting in the slowly rising Ferris wheel that Fan Jing realized. He asked Yi Yuxiao in disbelief if this was really where he had planned to bring him. Yi Yuxiao confirmed, explaining he brought him here because he'd noticed Fan Jing looking troubled lately, hoping the Ferris wheel would improve his mood. He proudly added that he'd reserved the entire Ferris wheel so Fan Jing wouldn't worry about being recognized. Fan Jing placed his hand on the glass window, looking at the scenery outside, reflecting on how long it had been since he'd been on a Ferris wheel. His thoughts drifted to the last time he was here, which was with his parents. Just then, Yi Yuxiao's voice suddenly interrupted his thoughts. Regarding today's handling of Fan Jing's father, Yi Yuxiao seriously apologized, sincerely explaining he acted impulsively because he couldn't bear seeing Fan Jing troubled. Far from blaming him, Fan Jing comforted Yi Yuxiao, thanking him for helping. Fan Jing looked sincerely at Yi Yuxiao, saying that while he was used to such situations, this was the first time someone had stayed by his side when needed, moving him deeply. Hearing this, Yi Yuxiao embraced Fan Jing tenderly, confessing his desire for a chance to protect and care for him. Fan Jing was about to refuse, but suddenly remembered Yi Yuxiao's previous confession from some time ago. He had never responded, and now felt hesitant and touched, yet also inexplicably fearful and withdrawn. Uncertain of Yi Yuxiao's sincerity and his own ability to accept such feelings, he finally pushed Yi Yuxiao away, saying he hadn't decided yet. Faced with another rejection, Yi Yuxiao was hurt, but didn't want to pressure Fan Jing, suggesting they forget he mentioned it. Then Yi Yuxiao, understanding, said Fan Jing's distrust was justified, as he hadn't protected him well, letting others hurt him instead. He then promised to wait until Fan Jing was ready to lower his defenses, hoping he would rely on him more then. Faced with such sincerity, Fan Jing was moved, but couldn't help asking what if that day never came. What if he was just leading him on? Yi Yuxiao kissed Fan Jing's hand, comforting his anxiety, answering that even in that case, it wouldn't be Fan Jing's fault, as loving him was his own choice, and he would keep waiting. Fan Jing hadn't expected Yi Yuxiao to go to such lengths. Touched, he caressed Yi Yuxiao's face, finally deciding to follow his heart. Fan Jing seriously told Yi Yuxiao that although their relationship felt like a gamble, this time, he was willing to risk everything for him. After speaking, Fan Jing initiated a kiss with Yi Yuxiao, who froze in surprise. After the kiss, they sat properly, unconsciously touching their lips. Yi Yuxiao gazed appreciatively at the blushing Fan Jing beside him. Then, Yi Yuxiao turned Fan Jing towards him, possessively telling him there was no turning back now. He would forever be his. Hearing this, Fan Jing's heart raced, and he shyly protested about being Yi Yuxiao's person. At that moment, a hand wandered beneath Fan Jing's clothes, making his legs weak as he begged Yi Yuxiao not to continue here. Yi Yuxiao leaned close to Fan Jing's ear, softly assuring him no one would see, explaining he was just too happy to control himself. Fan Jing leaned on Yi Yuxiao's shoulder, speaking in a low voice about how he loved Ferris wheels as a child, but later felt the view meant nothing alone. Yi Yuxiao held Fan Jing's waist tightly with one hand, the other pressing against him, gazing at him lovingly while promising never to leave him alone and to stay by his side. Then, Yi Yuxiao lowered his head, slowly approaching Fan Jing's neck, but just as he was about to succeed, succeed. He recalled the photos he saw in Fan Jing's room and realized he might be able to make use of the Ferris wheel. Since Fan Jing accepted Yi Yuxiao's pursuit, Yi Yuxiao became increasingly clingy. When Fan Jing started filming, Yi Yuxiao followed under the pretense of visiting the set. At the Spirit Fox filming location, Fan Jing's manager Sister Yu approached Yi Yuxiao with a bright smile. Yi Yuxiao responded coldly, dismissing her. Turning around, he saw Fan Jing approaching in traditional costume, looking handsome and elegant, his eyes instantly lighting up. Fan Jing shyly asked Yi Yuxiao why he was staring at him like that. Without a word, Yi Yuxiao wrapped his arm around Fan Jing's waist, pulling him close and whispering that he looked so good he wanted to hide him away. Fan Jing pushed Yi Yuxiao away embarrassedly, stating firmly they were on set. Yi Yuxiao shrugged, suggesting he'd do more if they weren't on set. Fan Jing was at a loss with Yi Yuxiao's shameless behavior when director Zhong Siyuan approached, fortunately breaking up the situation. The director, script in hand, explained Fan Jing's next scene's emotional state and sword movements. Fan Jing listened attentively, indicating he understood, while Yi Yuxiao silently listened beside them. Then he voiced his opinion, seriously pointing out that the scene was too close to the cliff edge and dangerous, suggesting using a stunt double. At this, Fan Jing and director Zhong both turned to look at Yi Yuxiao disapprovingly. The director coldly stated that no actor gets special privileges in his production. Fan Jing immediately assured the director he would give his best performance. Then he turned and pulled Yi Yuxiao's arm, indicating they should talk somewhere private. Yi Yuxiao sulked, saying they were so professional and dedicated, and he was just getting in their way. Fan Jing helplessly told him to stop being childish, reminding him he was here to observe the filming. There was no need to just focus on him. Yi Yuxiao excitedly stepped forward, grabbing his waist, asking if Fan Jing really thought he was being childish. Then Yi Yuxiao complained that Fan Jing looked so good standing before him, yet told him not to focus all his attention on him. Leaning close to his ear, he asked if Fan Jing was deliberately trying to make him angry. Fan Jing blushed at Yi Yuxiao's words and sudden intimate gesture, unsure how to react. Fan Jing glanced back at the crew, and seeing no one was paying attention to them, suddenly kissed Yi Yuxiao. Then, fighting his embarrassment, tried to compromise with him, hoping they could meet halfway. Looking at Yi Yuxiao's handsome face, Fan Jing thought he must have been infected by him to do such a dangerous thing in public. Yi Yuxiao's anger instantly vanished. He took Fan Jing's hand to his face, smiling as he said he hadn't expected Ah Jin to be so bold. Then Yi Yuxiao pretended to have a revelation, teasing that Fan Jing actually preferred doing exciting things on set. Fan Jing angrily told him to shut up. After Fan Jing left to film, Yi Yuxiao immediately started chatting with friends on his phone. They teased that they hadn't seen him lately, wondering if he was too caught up playing with the little celebrity. Yi Yuxiao replied that things were just getting interesting. After a day of filming, Fan Jing lay motionless on the sofa, exhausted. Seeing this, Yi Yuxiao told him to take a shower and rest. Fan Jing weakly replied to give him 2 minutes, saying it had been a long time since he'd filmed such intense scenes, making his limbs feel disconnected. His phone suddenly vibrated beside him. Fan Jing immediately picked it up to check. It was a WeChat message from his manager, reminding him that Wu Yan would join the crew tomorrow and sent over his profile for advance review. Yi Yuxiao curiously asked what Fan Jing was looking at. Fan Jing replied while reading, telling him the second male lead was joining tomorrow and they had many scenes together, hoping for good chemistry. Hearing this, Yi Yuxiao told Fan Jing to stop thinking about work when he's so tired and leaned down asking him to think about him instead. Seeing Yi Yuxiao's face getting closer, Fan Jing asked if he wasn't tired too. Yi Yuxiao firmly replied that thinking about him made him energetic. Then he gently lifted Fan Jing's chin with his fingertip, intimately suggesting he could help him take a shower. Hearing Yi Yuxiao's offer to help him shower, Fan Jing was stunned for a moment before bursting into laughter. He then teasingly said he didn't know the young master's vocabulary included serving others. Yi Yuxiao lovingly replied, "Only for you." Then he suddenly picked Fan Jing up princess style, startling him speechless. Fan Jing couldn't believe Yi Yuxiao was serious. Yi Yuxiao smiled, saying, Your man always keeps his word. Fan Jing blushed, wrapping his arms around Yi Yuxiao's neck, obediently letting himself be carried. Yi Yuxiao carried him all the way to the bathroom door. He gently warned him to be careful before setting him down steadily. Yi Yuxiao opened the bathroom door and followed Fan Jing inside. As the shower water cascaded down, Fan Jing's white shirt became wet, revealing his toned figure. Faced with Fan Jing's unintentional seduction, Yi Yuxiao couldn't help but pin him against the wall, stating that his earlier words about hiding him away weren't a joke. Without waiting for a response, Yi Yuxiao held his nape and unhesitatingly kissed his lips. Pressed together, Fan Jing instinctively closed his eyes, tilting his head to receive the passionate kiss, his hands unconsciously wrapping around Yi Yuxiao's waist. After what seemed like forever, Yi Yuxiao reluctantly pulled away, his voice deep and magnetic, hinting at wanting to go further, expectantly asking if it was okay. Fan Jing, face red, started to refuse, saying he had work tomorrow. But before he could finish, Yi Yuxiao complained pitifully that he had meetings all day tomorrow and wouldn't see him for a long time. Though knowing Yi Yuxiao was exaggerating, Fan Jing still surrendered under his loving yet pitiful gaze. He softly compromised, only asking that it not affect filming. Yi Yuxiao eagerly agreed, fearing he might change his mind. He lightly bit Fan Jing's neck, the sharp sensation bringing Fan Jing back to reality, making him frown and cry out. He irritably said Yi Yuxiao must be born in the year of the dog. Yi Yuxiao immediately played along, saying he was Jing's puppy alone, making Fan Jing beam with joy as they fooled around together. The next day, Fan Jing arrived at the set for filming. After successfully completing a scene, his assistant returned his phone. During the break, Fan Jing sat in his chair, letting his assistant massage his shoulders, thinking about Yi Yuxiao and wondering if he would come today. Perhaps it was the power of thought. As soon as Fan Jing opened his chat window, Yi Yuxiao's message popped up. Their telepathic connection made Fan Jing wonder if Yi Yuxiao could read minds. Fan Jing wanted Yi Yuxiao to come, but worried he'd be tired after a long day. He stared at his phone, hesitating to reply, yet couldn't help but smile sweetly. His unusual behavior sparked his assistant's curiosity, who tried to peek. Fan Jing angrily scolded him, and the assistant apologetically laughed. While backing away, the assistant accidentally bumped into someone. They frantically turned around to apologize. Surprisingly, the person bumped into was Wu Yin, the second male lead who just joined the crew today. Wu Yin not only didn't blame the assistant's clumsiness, but also politely greeted Fan Jing, humbly introducing himself as a newcomer. Fan Jing smiled, shook hands, and exchanged modest pleasantries. The assistant sincerely apologized again, and Wu Yin patted their shoulder, indicating it really wasn't a problem. His approachable demeanor increased Fan Jing's good impression of his co-star. Wu Yin casually mentioned having an old friend who, like Fan Jing, was also at Xingyu Company. Before Fan Jing could ask about this friend's identity, Yi Yuxiao's sudden arrival interrupted their conversation. Yi Yuxiao sized up this stranger with hostility before turning to look at Fan Jing. Catching Yi Yuxiao's signal, Fan Jing hurried to introduce Wu Yin and Yi Yuxiao to each other. Surprisingly, halfway through the introduction, Wu Yin excitedly recognized Yi Yuxiao and rushed forward to greet his long-lost friend. It took Yi Yuxiao a moment to recognize that this stranger might be his old classmate Wu Yin. He tentatively confirmed if it was indeed Wu Yin, who then complained about Yi Yuxiao's slow reaction. Fan Jing watched their interaction in confusion, surprisingly asking if they knew each other. As Yi Yuxiao was about to explain their relationship, Wu Yin interrupted, saying they were old classmates. Wu Yin continued telling Yi Yuxiao that he had just mentioned to Fan Jing about having an old friend at Xingyu, never expecting to meet him the next moment. With Wu Yin dominating the conversation, Yi Yuxiao could only awkwardly agree. Then, Wu Yin tactfully excused himself, leaving space for Yi Yuxiao and Fan Jing. Shortly after, the assistant excitedly brought muscle pain relief patches, urging Fan Jing to apply them in his trailer before the next scene. Yi Yuxiao took the patches, worriedly asking Fan Jing why he needed them. Fan Jing casually replied, probably from using too much force during the action scenes. In the trailer, Yi Yuxiao held the patches, lost in thought about Wu Yin being an actor. Fan Jing lay obediently, asking how long it had been since Yi Yuxiao had seen his old classmate Wu Yin and why they didn't catch up more. A dark gleam passed through Yi Yuxiao's eyes as his hand mischievously slipped under Fan Jing's clothes, caressing his lower back while seriously saying catching up could wait. He had more important things to do now. Fan Jing's face instantly reddened, warning Yi Yuxiao to just apply the patches properly and not grope around. Seeing this, Yi Yuxiao changed tactics, quickly applying the patches and offering a massage. Fan Jing expressed great satisfaction with the massage, amazed at Yi Yuxiao's many skills. Yi Yuxiao leaned close to Fan Jing, intimately teasing that he knew many more things, and no one knew that better than Fan Jing. Then, Yi Yuxiao whispered in Fan Jing's ear, asking if he knew what he was thinking about. He immediately answered his own question, saying he was thinking about how Fan Jing would look being loved by him while wearing his costume. Hearing these bold words, Fan Jing blushed furiously, immediately turning to face Yi Yuxiao, angrily telling him to behave and respect work hours. Yi Yuxiao laughed, saying this was his highest form of respect. Seeing Fan Jing getting truly upset, he pulled him up and stopped teasing, while fixing Fan Jing's buttons. He lovingly and worriedly told him not to push too hard at work, suggesting he could ask the director to use a stunt double for some action scenes, for his sake. Hearing Yi Yuxiao mention the director, Fan Jing suddenly remembered that he had helped secure his audition opportunity and became curious about their relationship. Yi Yuxiao casually mentioned that the director was his uncle. Fan Jing repeated uncle flatly. A moment later, he realized and was shocked by Yi Yuxiao's vast network of connections. Seeing this, Yi Yuxiao assured Fan Jing not to worry, saying the director chose him as the male lead purely for his ability, joking that he couldn't order the director around. Fan Jing strongly agreed. Then, thinking of the director's professional attitude, he couldn't help praising how much he learned during filming. Unexpectedly, Yi Yuxiao instantly bristled, pinching Fan Jing's face and fiercely warning him not to praise other men in front of him. Seeing Yi Yuxiao's jealousy, Fan Jing laughed at his childishness while sweetly smiling. Looking at Fan Jing's smiling face, Yi Yuxiao felt ripples in his heart. He felt something strange, not understanding why he hadn't grown tired of someone he'd already won over, but instead wanted Fan Jing more the longer they were together. Yi Yuxiao bent down to embrace and kiss him. Fan Jing held his body close with one hand while the other pressed against the wall, blocking his retreat as their lips and tongues intertwined passionately. Clothes and shoes scattered on the floor showed how intense things had gotten. After what seemed like forever, when Fan Jing was almost breathless from kissing, Yi Yuxiao finally released him, ending their passionate embrace. Afraid Yi Yuxiao might lose control, Fan Jing shyly suggested, with a red face, that he should leave early to rehearse his lines. Yi Yuxiao sighed, saying he didn't want to let him go to work. Fan Jing seized the opportunity, poking Yi Yuxiao's forehead, accusing the mighty CEO of being lazy. Yi Yuxiao, dissatisfied, idly hummed twice. Just then a phone rang. Yi Yuxiao turned around, unsurely saying it seemed to be his phone. Once connected, his secretary reported that Dongyan Media was creating obstacles in their collaborative project. Yi Yuxiao asked what Dongyan had done. Fan Jing sat on the bed, listening to Yi Yuxiao's call. The name Dongyan seemed familiar. Then he realized it was CEO Chen's company. The secretary reported that while two artists had specifically reserved time for the show, the platform was deliberately making things difficult for Yi Yuxiao, stating they couldn't back down on matters involving artist rights. Then, Yi Yuxiao told his secretary to notify company executives of a meeting in half an hour. He decisively expressed readiness for a direct confrontation with Dongyan, willing to see it through. Yi Yuxiao's composed and commanding work demeanor completely overturned Fan Jing's initial impression of him being all appearance. He realized Yi Yuxiao truly deserved his CEO title. After hanging up, Yi Yuxiao turned to see Fan Jing's admiring gaze. His lips curved involuntarily as he asked if Fan Jing was captivated by him. Fan Jing stood up and asked if CEO Chen might be behind Dongyan's non-cooperation. Yi Yuxiao agreed, thinking that old Fox was likely stirring things up. Hearing this, Fan Jing guessed it was because he hadn't given face to CEO Chen before. Yi Yuxiao interrupted his overthinking, praising his rejection and comforting him that yielding would only invite more unreasonable demands. Fan Jing sincerely said that in all his time in the industry, This was the first time someone told him that adapting to and following so-called rules was wrong. Yi Yuxiao promised Fan Jing that as long as he was Xingyu's boss, he wouldn't allow anyone to step on Xingyu's artists. Fan Jing gratefully grabbed Yi Yuxiao's arm to thank him. Yi Yuxiao teased him about wanting a reward. Fan Jing blushed instantly, but gathered courage to tiptoe and give him a kiss on Yi Yuxiao's cheek, shyly thanking him for being responsible and dedicated to his work. Before leaving, Yi Yuxiao turned back with a flirtatious wink, happily hinting he'd want more rewards tonight. After handling work, Yi Yuxiao returned to Fan Jing's filming set. Wu Yin, who was watching the lead's film, noticed him and commented on how attentive he was to employees visiting daily. Yi Yuxiao was surprised to see Wu Yin, but quickly composed himself, asking what they were filming. Wu Yin explained in simple terms they were filming the love at first sight scene between the leads. Changing the subject, Wu Yin casually mentioned that off-camera, the female lead particularly admired Fan Jing and followed him around daily. Sure enough, Yi Yuxiao's face instantly darkened, his emotions churning. Seeing his mood sour, Wu Yin smiled smugly at his successful provocation. That evening, Fan Jing returned to the room, eagerly sharing interesting moments from afternoon filming, regretting that Yi Yuxiao missed seeing those two scenes. Yi Yuxiao sat on the sofa with arms crossed. With a gloomy expression, he said there was nothing to regret. Seeing his obvious displeasure, Fan Jing mistakenly thought it was due to company project issues. Faced with Fan Jing's concern, Yi Yuxiao admitted he was indeed unhappy, grabbed his wrist, and pulled him into his arms. Fan Jing followed the motion and straddled his legs. Just as Yi Yuxiao was explaining in detail why he was unhappy, the doorbell suddenly rang. Fan Jing got up to answer it. To Fan Jing's surprise, it was his female co-star from the drama, wearing rather revealing clothes. Faced with a woman dressed like this visiting him late at night, Fan Jing froze, unsure how to react. The woman spoke first to break the awkwardness, playfully asking Fan Jing to invite her in. Fan Jing came to his senses and politely declined, using the excuse that his room was messy. The woman looked disappointed but didn't insist. The next moment, she smiled and presented a bottle of massage oil with both hands. Fan Jing was confused. She explained that she heard from her assistant about his muscle strain and brought this specifically for him. Then she reminded him with a smile not to forget tomorrow's crew dinner. Fan Jing thanked her and saw her out. As soon as she left, Yi Yuxiao urgently pulled Fan Jing back, slammed the door shut, and pressed him against it. He nuzzled Fan Jing's neck, whining for him not to go tomorrow night. Fan Jing blushed at Yi Yuxiao's intimate gesture, turning slightly to maintain clarity, and asked why. Yi Yuxiao tenderly said they're busy separately during the day, only having evenings together, and wanted Fan Jing to stay with him. Fan Jing cupped Yi Yuxiao's face, saw the tenderness in his eyes, and couldn't refuse, only promising to return early after the dinner. Unsatisfied with Fan Jing's answer, Yi Yuxiao held his waist and threatened to make him too exhausted to get out of bed. Fan Jing was startled and warned him not to joke around. Yi Yuxiao interlocked their fingers. He seriously said he wasn't joking, then jealously stated he didn't like him being so close to that woman. After speaking, he sealed Fan Jing's lips with a kiss. Fan Jing was kissed until his face was red and clothes disheveled before being released. Breathlessly, he told Yi Yuxiao that what that woman thought didn't matter. What mattered was that he already had him. Yi Yuxiao remained sulky, saying irritably that he saw that woman sticking close to him all day. Fan Jing explained it was just work requirements. Fan Jing then realized something was really wrong with Yi Yuxiao's mood, as he kept dwelling on these minor details. When asked what was wrong, Yi Yuxiao finally exploded, angrily saying he regretted helping Fan Jing get this role. Fan Jing lost his patience too, having explained everything he could, and helplessly asked if Yi Yuxiao didn't trust him. Yi Yuxiao said he would trust him if Fan Jing threw away the massage oil from that woman. Fan Jing hesitantly told him to stop being ridiculous. Yi Yuxiao angrily grabbed the bottle, saying he'd throw it away himself. Fan Jing couldn't stop him in time. He watched helplessly as the massage oil flew in an arc into the trash can. He shouted at Yi Yuxiao to stop being unreasonable. Yi Yuxiao turned back in anger, admitting he was being unreasonable. Then he turned and stormed out, slamming the door. Fan Jing stared blankly as he left, unable to stop him. Meanwhile, Yi Yuxiao ran into Wu Yin right after leaving. Seeing his worried expression, Wu Yin suggested they go clear their minds together. They went to a bar where Yi Yuxiao silently drank while Wu Yin swirled his glass, subtly asking if Yi Yuxiao was dating Fan Jing. Yi Yuxiao looked up startled, asking why he would think that. Wu Yin explained that Yi Yuxiao rarely lost control of his emotions unless it was about something he really cared about, so he assumed something had happened between them. Sometimes outsiders see things more clearly. Hearing Wu Yan's words, Yi Yuxiao realized with disbelief that he had indeed lost control because of Fan Jing. Wu Yan had never seen Yi Yuxiao so troubled over anyone before. Secretly shocked, he couldn't help wondering if Yi Yuxiao was serious about Fan Jing. The next day, Fan Jing stared absent-mindedly at his phone while getting his makeup done, noticing that Yi Yuxiao hadn't contacted him since last night. Fan Jing was very anxious, worried that Yi Yuxiao was still angry and unsure what to do. Just then, he heard the director calling actors to their positions and had to temporarily suppress his emotions. The actress came to stand beside the director to watch Fan Jing act. Unexpectedly, Fan Jing's performance was poor, with frequent mistakes requiring multiple NGs. He even got injured during an action scene. The director couldn't help but call cut. Fan Jing walked up and volunteered to do another take. The director reminded him to adjust his state and stay focused while acting. Fan Jing nodded repeatedly to the director. He knew his reactions were slow because his mind was full of thoughts about Yi Yuxiao. Fan Jing recalled how he once lectured Yi Yuxiao about separating emotions from work, yet he couldn't do it himself. He was so lost in his thoughts that he didn't even notice the female lead approaching. When he came to, he told her he had something to tell her later. After work, alone in his trailer, Fan Jing realized how torturous it felt to go just one day without contact with Yi Yuxiao. Fan Jing realized that Yi Yuxiao's tantrum was because he cared, and he felt guilty for calling him unreasonable without considering his feelings. Looking at their past playful chat messages, Fan Jing felt more lost, unsure what to do, but knew he couldn't just wait anymore. Before Fan Jing could act, the trailer door suddenly opened. He was surprised to see Yi Yuxiao standing there. Yi Yuxiao rushed forward anxiously, grabbing Fan Jing's wrist and nervously asking about his injury from filming. Fan Jing told Yi Yuxiao it was just a minor bump, not really an injury, and asked how he knew. Yi Yuxiao said his assistant reported it. Fan Jing excitedly asked if he came specifically because of his injury. Yi Yuxiao turned his head proudly, saying, "So what if I did?" while pretending not to care, adding that he was just meddling since Fan Jing had plenty of people caring for him at the crew. Then, using the excuse of not wanting to disturb the crew dinner, Yi Yuxiao turned to leave. Fan Jing immediately grabbed him, saying he wasn't going to the dinner anymore. Flashback to when Fan Jing told the female lead he had something to say. He had told her he had a date and couldn't attend the dinner, then clearly rejected her feelings. Back in the present, Fan Jing leaned against Yi Yuxiao's chest, willingly compromising to make him happy. Yi Yuxiao, who had been irritated all day, wasn't going to let Fan Jing off easily. He decided to teach him a lesson, taking control and pinning him down, asking what he wanted. Fan Jing looked intensely at Yi Yuxiao, saying he wanted him to stay. Yi Yuxiao thought this was a good opportunity to make Fan Jing submit while he was feeling guilty. But outwardly, he appeared flustered, turning his head and stammering that he'd reluctantly agree since Fan Jing was being so sincere. Seeing Yi Yuxiao's serious face while stealing glances, looking so cute and tsundere, Fan Jing couldn't help but cover his mouth and laugh. Hearing the laughter, Yi Yuxiao became embarrassed and angry, saying he was still mad. Fan Jing laughed, saying he wasn't making fun of him, but was happy. Yi Yuxiao repeatedly asked Fan Jing in surprise if he was really this happy just because he forgave him, wondering if he cared that much. Getting Fan Jing's unhesitating confirmation, Yi Yuxiao was stunned. When Fan Jing tried to explain further, Yi Yuxiao didn't give him the chance, saying sweet words wouldn't make things right so easily. He loosened his tie and asked if Fan Jing was ready for punishment. Fan Jing watched as Yi Yuxiao bound his wrists with the tie. He shyly realized what kind of punishment Yi Yuxiao meant. Yi Yuxiao raised Fan Jing's bound hands above his head, leaning close to tease that since he wasn't going to dinner, they had time for other activities. Looking at Yi Yuxiao before him, Fan Jing nervously asked why he tied his hands. Seeing Fan Jing's shyness, Yi Yuxiao told him not to ask questions he already knew the answers to. Fan Jing warned him that someone could come in at any time. Sure enough, the assistant suddenly appeared outside, asking if he had changed clothes. Fan Jing nervously said no. The confused assistant retreated, saying they'd handle the fan club first and come back later. While Fan Jing was wondering if the assistant had heard Yi Yuxiao's voice, his hands were suddenly raised high, and he looked at the eager person before him. He quickly refused with a red face, telling him the assistant would return soon. However, Yi Yuxiao was captivated by his vulnerable, helpless state. He leaned close to Fan Jing's ear, whispering that if he didn't want to be discovered, he should cooperate. Hearing this, Fan Jing's heart began to struggle intensely. He felt both fear and joy, but at this moment he finally saw his heart clearly. There was no room for anyone else besides Yi Yuxiao. Realizing this, he reached out with trembling hands, seeing the other's confusion. He pitifully asked Yi Yuxiao to come closer. Then he wrapped his arms around Yi Yuxiao's neck and actively brought their lips together. Yi Yuxiao's eyes widened in surprise at Fan Jing's action. Then he followed along as they fell back. The next day, Wu Yin, after finishing filming, heard staff praising his dedication. He smiled and said it was just his duty. While absently checking his phone and listening to staff's praise, he finally saw Yi Yuxiao. Wu Yin quickly approached. He overheard him on the phone discussing director Jia Ming's new film. Hearing about the film he had long wanted to pursue, Wu Yin's heart filled with anticipation. But the next moment, he heard Yi Yuxiao telling the person on the phone that this was a project he wanted to secure for Fan Jing. At this moment, Fan Jing also approached. Hearing footsteps behind him, Yi Yuxiao quickly ended the call, saying he had something to do. Then he casually greeted Fan Jing. Watching their intimate behavior as if no one else existed, Wu Yin hid behind a tree, grinding his teeth in anger. After their sweet moment, Fan Jing began seriously reading the script. Suddenly, the script was snatched from his hands. Just as he was startled, Yi Yuxiao mischievously leaned in for a kiss. Seeing Fan Jing's startled reaction, Yi Yuxiao was very satisfied. To ease the awkwardness, Fan Jing quickly changed the subject, asking about his phone call. Feeling playful, Yi Yuxiao told him it was good news and asked if he wanted to know. But as the couple was bantering, Wu Yin interrupted their conversation with drinks. He deliberately handed one to Fan Jing, then awkwardly gave the other to Yi Yuxiao, telling him it was sugar-free grapefruit tea specially bought from 3.1K. Hearing this, Yi Yuxiao was stunned. Seeing his confusion, Wu Yin smiled and told him the shop was still open, and the owner even remembered him. Then he mentioned the owner asking about Yi Yuxiao. This not only made Yi Yuxiao uncomfortable, but also caused Fan Jing behind him to misunderstand. He had always thought Yi Yuxiao and Wu Yin were just ordinary classmates. But watching the two chatting happily, he began to doubt what their relationship really was. At this moment, Wu Yin had an idea and asked Yi Yuxiao if he remembered the small restaurant next to the dessert shop. He reminded him about owing him a meal. Hearing this, Yi Yuxiao said he wouldn't default on the debt. However, Wu Yin suddenly grabbed Fan Jing's arm, suggesting they shouldn't delay and all three should go today. Fan Jing could only awkwardly tell him. After being rejected, Wu Yin insisted on making Yi Yuxiao pay for the meal. Yi Yuxiao looked at the shy Fan Jing with adoration. Fan Jing had no choice but to agree, though he didn't understand why they invited him when he couldn't join their conversation. Seeing things progressing so smoothly, Wu Yin showed a triumphant smirk. Moments later, they arrived at the small restaurant. Looking at the dishes, Yi Yuxiao was shocked that Wu Yin still remembered his taste. Seeing his reaction, Wu Yin was pleased his memory hadn't deteriorated. Then he casually told Fan Jing that Yi Yuxiao was very picky and difficult to dine with. Fan Jing could only laugh awkwardly in response. Suddenly, Wu Yin was scalded. Yi Yuxiao quickly grabbed his hand, anxiously asking if he was okay. Seeing his concern, Wu Yin shyly said he wasn't that delicate. Then while complaining about the air conditioning not working, he reached out to wipe Yi Yuxiao's sweat. Fan Jing, being treated like he was invisible, could only watch Wu Yan's flirtatious behavior awkwardly. While lost in thought, he accidentally knocked over a bowl on the table. The noise finally caught the attention of the two catching up. Seeing them both look at him, Fan Jing could only explain that he accidentally knocked it over. He wondered if he was overthinking, but felt Wu Yin was being unusually enthusiastic towards Yi Yuxiao. Then Wu Yin stood up, offering to serve him soup in an unused bowl. Fan Jing quickly thanked him. Seeing Wu Yin being kind to him too, he thought perhaps this was just his personality, and he was being too sensitive. At this moment, he noticed Yi Yuxiao resting his chin, smiling absently, lost in thought. Back home, while showering, Yi Yuxiao was immersed in the dinner scene, surprised that Wu Yin still remembered things from the past. After showering, he found Fan Jing already in bed. He pressed his shoulder, asking why he went to sleep without waiting. Fan Jing flatly said he was tired. Noticing his off tone and bad mood, Yi Yuxiao quickly asked if the dinner didn't suit his taste. Hearing this, Fan Jing sourly replied it wasn't about the food, but that he shouldn't have interfered with their reunion. After saying it, he was stunned, surprised at his own bitter words. Yi Yuxiao realized and teased him about being jealous of Wu Yin. Seeing him still able to joke, Fan Jing was angry. However, Yi Yuxiao was delighted to see him jealous. Seeing no explanation forthcoming, Fan Jing couldn't help but ask. But Yi Yuxiao told him he just cherished his old friends because he went abroad in high school. Then he told Fan Jing not to overthink and to always trust his feelings for him. Fan Jing could only agree. However, he still worried about their relationship. He'd never seen Yi Yuxiao so happy and nostalgic before. He wanted to ask Yi Yuxiao why he never told him about his relationship with Wu Yin, but couldn't bring himself to ask. He felt perhaps he should be more proactive. Thinking this, he unconsciously moved closer. The next day, Yi Yuxiao accompanied Fan Jing at the film set as usual. Seeing him focused on the script, he tried to get his attention, but Fan Jing didn't even look up. Seeing this, Yi Yuxiao had to forcefully turn Fan Jing's face toward him and pitifully asked for his attention. But Fan Jing told him not to disturb him as he needed to review his lines. Hearing this, Yi Yuxiao narcissistically said he was better looking than the script. Fan Jing laughingly told him he hadn't noticed that. Seeing him being so strict with himself, Yi Yuxiao directly leaned forward, telling him to take a closer look. Such an intimate gesture made Fan Jing instinctively back away. He heard the other ask why he was dodging. Fan Jing shyly turned his head away, complaining about his sudden attacks. Then he actively moved closer and returned a kiss. When told he'd turned bad, Fan Jing quickly said he learned it all from him. Looking at the person before him, Yi Yuxiao couldn't understand why his heart was still racing so fast when he should have been immune to such things. Just as the two were about to go further involuntarily, the door opened. It was Wu Yin coming to rehearse lines with Fan Jing. The two quickly separated after being caught. Yi Yuxiao hurriedly said he had something to do, telling Fan Jing to act well. As he was leaving, Wu Yin eagerly told him that today was his important scene. Hearing this, Yi Yuxiao ruffled his hair, saying he'd visit the set another time. After he left, Wu Yin told Fan Jing that he felt Yi Yuxiao had changed a lot. Seeing his confusion, Wu Yin sat beside him and explained that in middle school, Yi Yuxiao would show his displeasure when unhappy. Only he could get along well with him. However, though Fan Jing was curious about Yi Yuxiao's past, he didn't want to hear it from Wu Yin. Wu Yin continued talking about how Yi Yuxiao had helped him deal with bullies at school. Fan Jing wondered if he was being too suspicious, but he felt Wu Yin was bragging about how Yi Yuxiao used to take care of him. Then Wu Yin mentioned he had once advised Yi Yuxiao to be gentler with others, and it seemed he had listened. The awkward Fan Jing could only suggest they start rehearsing. Wu Yin took the hint and said he almost forgot their task. Looking at Fan Jing's reaction, he knew he had planted the seed and was just waiting for it to sprout. Meanwhile, a friend told Yi Yuxiao they'd met someone at an event and asked if he wanted to know who. They mysteriously mentioned that Wu Yin was also acting, reminding Yi Yuxiao that this man was his unrequited first love from middle school. However, Yi Yuxiao calmly said he'd already met him. Hearing this, his friend gossiped that he shouldn't miss this chance. But Yi Yuxiao said he had no intention of pursuing Wu Yin anymore, considering him just a friend. He thought having someone to reminisce about the past with wasn't bad. His friends were shocked by his response. Just then his phone rang. Seeing it was Fan Jing, he quickly answered. Hearing Fan Jing call him Baby Fan Jing, he quickly told him he'd just finished filming and was a bit tired. Yi Yuxiao asked if he now realized the value of having a power bank. They just stayed there feeling each other's breath, content even in silence. Watching Yi Yuxiao smile tenderly at the phone, his friends found it incredible. Even after hanging up, Yi Yuxiao remained lost in thought, holding the phone in a daze. After thinking for a long while, He put down the phone and picked up his wine glass. The next moment, seeing Yi Yuxiao enter, Fan Jing, waiting at the dining table, quickly greeted him. Fan Jing's careful grooming caught his attention. He quickly approached, asking if he dressed up so nicely just for their dinner. Looking at the man before him, Fan Jing shyly said this was just basic etiquette. Hearing this, Yi Yuxiao embraced him, smelling his scent, certain this was his way of extending an invitation. Seeing Yi Yuxiao being so bold, he quickly asked him to let go with a red face, saying the server would come with their food soon. However, Yi Yuxiao had no appetite for food at this moment. He only wanted to devour the person before him. Seeing him getting more outrageous, Fan Jing pushed him away with his palm, fiercely warning him not to say such vulgar things in public. Soon, the server started bringing dishes. Yi Yuxiao was very surprised to see that this restaurant could make red carp with poached eggs. Seeing him so happy about this dish, Fan Jing was also delighted. At this moment, the server explained that the restaurant didn't originally have this dish. Fan Jing quickly interrupted the server. He explained that he had asked the restaurant to make it specially because he heard Yi Yuxiao mention wanting to eat it before. He did this because he feared the other would tease him if he knew the truth and never expected he would go to such lengths for a date. Yi Yuxiao was also surprised that Fan Jing remembered something he had only mentioned once. After feeling deeply moved, he sincerely apologized to Fan Jing. Seeing him so serious, Fan Jing shyly handed him chopsticks, telling him not to waste the food. Unexpectedly, the other put them down and leaned in seriously, asking Fan Jing to feed him personally. Though Fan Jing complained about his pushiness, he still picked up the chopsticks to satisfy his request. Yi Yuxiao swallowed it in one bite and happily asked Fan Jing to try some too. Seeing him so happy, Fan Jing felt satisfied as well. However, he had a bit of an ulterior motive in doing this. Thinking about Wu Yan's previous bragging made him unhappy. Although competing for attention was childish, he didn't want to be outdone. Then he told Yi Yuxiao that Wu Yan had told him some things about high school. The other asked what was said. Thinking that lovers shouldn't have doubts and should be direct, Fan Jing expressed his curiosity about their relationship. Then he carefully asked Yi Yuxiao if he and Wu Yan had dated before. Hearing this, Yi Yuxiao quickly denied it and promised that he and Wu Yan were only friends, both in the past and present. Then he picked up a piece of fish for Fan Jing, knowing that Fan Jing had been suspicious since Wu Yan appeared. Fan Jing dejectedly admitted he was jealous because they had so many irreplaceable memories together. Yi Yuxiao told him that memories could be created while touching his leg, suggesting they create some happy memories tonight. Seeing that he was ruining the serious mood, Fan Jing angrily hit him on the head. After lightening the mood, Yi Yuxiao told Fan Jing not to look so worried, saying he wanted him to be happy when they're together. Hearing his sweet talk, Fan Jing quickly changed the subject, wondering why he still wasn't used to hearing sweet words after so long. Even just having a regular meal, as long as they were together, it still made his heart race. Just then, Yi Yuxiao's phone rang. It was Wu Yan. Fan Jing pretended to be unbothered, picking at his food, but inside he didn't understand why Wu Yan always appeared to interrupt his time alone with Yi Yuxiao. As Fan Jing was thinking, Yi Yuxiao answered Wu Yan's call and asked what happened. Listening to their conversation, Fan Jing didn't understand why every time he thought he'd gotten rid of Wu Yan, she would appear again. He couldn't hear what she said on the other end, only Yi Yuxiao telling her not to panic and to speak slowly. Fan Jing knew he didn't share their past memories, but he was the one by his side now. However, when he heard Yi Yuxiao scolding Wu Yan for being careless and telling him to stay put while he rushed over, Fan Jing clenched his hands tightly. As he wondered why Yi Yuxiao had to be so gentle with Wu Yan, their call ended. After hanging up, Yi Yuxiao hesitated on how to explain to Fan Jing. After thinking, he told Fan Jing that there was a situation with Wu Yan and he needed to check on her. While getting up to serve soup, Fan Jing asked why he couldn't call his assistant. Yi Yuxiao explained that the assistant was out of town and couldn't make it back. He said it was urgent and he just needed to check. But before he could finish, Fan Jing couldn't hold back anymore. He slammed the bowl down and demanded to know, why couldn't other friends go? Why did it have to be Yi Yuxiao? After speaking, Fan Jing slumped back into his chair. He couldn't believe he had lost his composure so extremely when he had planned to enjoy their date today. After calming down, he leaned over to tell Yi Yuxiao that he had spent a long time choosing this restaurant for their date. Then he begged him to stay. Hearing this, Yi Yuxiao looked troubled but still told Fan Jing that although he wanted to stay, Wu Yan was his friend and he couldn't ignore her. He hoped Fan Jing would understand. As Yi Yuxiao got up to leave, Fan Jing sadly reminded him that he had just said there was nothing special between him and Wu Yin. Yi Yuxiao turned back impatiently and told him these were different matters. He would help any friend in trouble. Then he kissed his forehead, asking him not to be angry, and promised to make up with an even more perfect date. Watching Yi Yuxiao's departing figure, Fan Jing knew that all he could think about was rushing to Wu Yan's side. At this moment, the server brought a dessert, saying Yi Yuxiao had ordered it for him before leaving, and had already paid the bill. However, this consolation wasn't what he wanted. He didn't need a more perfect date. He just wanted Yi Yuxiao to prioritize him. Thinking of this, a tear of hurt fell onto the dessert before him. The next day, while Fan Jing was doing his makeup and reading the script, Yi Yuxiao and Wu Yin appeared together and greeted him. Seeing them appear together, Fan Jing suspected they had been together since last night. Just then, Yi Yuxiao came over smiling, asking if he had slept well last night. However, Fan Jing didn't want to talk to him at all, only saying flatly that he needed to prepare his lines and would talk later. Watching Fan Jing leave, Yi Yuxiao realized he was angry about last night and decided to cheer him up later. Meanwhile, Fan Jing had quickly avoided Yi Yuxiao only because he hadn't sorted out his feelings and didn't want to say hurtful things. At this moment, someone handed Fan Jing a piece of chocolate. Looking up, it was Zhong Siyuan who had noticed his poor complexion from not eating breakfast and was showing concern for Fan Jing. Surprised by such attentiveness, that he even noticed he hadn't eaten breakfast. Afraid of misunderstanding, Zhong Siyuan explained he just didn't want him fainting during filming and being accused of mistreating actors. Fan Jing thought this explanation was too exaggerated. Meanwhile, Yi Yuxiao behind him was constantly watching the two chatting and laughing. He didn't understand why Fan Jing deliberately ignored him but could chat happily with his uncle. Seeing Yi Yuxiao's distraction, Wu Yin realized that Yi Yuxiao really cared about Fan Jing's every move. In the crew's makeup room, Wu Yin voluntarily apologized to Fan Jing, saying she had hurt her hand last night and interrupted his dinner with Yi Yuxiao. Hearing this, Fan Jing asked with concern how her hand was now. Wu Yin smiled and lifted her hand, telling him it was fine now. Fortunately, Yi Yuxiao had found her a good private doctor. Although Fan Jing had suspected it before, now he was certain that she was deliberately saying these things to provoke him. Understanding this, Fan Jing calmly said that no wonder he hadn't noticed anything wrong during filming today. Fortunately, the injury wasn't serious. Hearing the sarcasm about her making a big deal out of nothing, Wu Yin hadn't expected Fan Jing to have such a sharp tongue. Thinking of this, she deliberately knocked Fan Jing's pendant off the table while putting things away. Fan Jing cried out in panic and quickly reached out to catch it, but it was too late. The pendant fell to the ground and broke. Seeing his panicked expression, Wu Yin quickly apologized and explained it was an accident. At this moment, Yi Yuxiao asked from outside if they were ready, saying he was coming in. Hearing this, Wu Yin had a new idea. Perhaps she could use this opportunity to create misunderstanding between them. Meanwhile, Fan Jing was blaming himself for putting the pendant in such a precarious spot, wondering if it could be fixed. Wu Yin leaned closer, consoling him that breaking it might ward off bad luck, while reaching out to look at the pendant. Just as she was about to touch it, Fan Jing suddenly grabbed her hand, warning her not to touch his things. At that moment, Yi Yuxiao walked in, and Wu Yin quickly cried out in pain. She told Fan Jing pitifully that he had grabbed her wound, and Yi Yuxiao witnessed this scene. He immediately grabbed Fan Jing's wrist, demanding him to let go. Then he questioned Fan Jing, asking why he was taking out his bad mood on Wu Yin. Fan Jing was stunned by Yi Yuxiao's sudden scolding. Seeing the moment was right, Wu Yin explained that she accidentally broke the pendant first, which caused him to lose control, and asked Yi Yuxiao not to misunderstand. Looking at the two before him, Fan Jing felt devastated. Yi Yuxiao didn't understand anything, yet his first reaction was to think Fan Jing was bullying Wu Yin. Suddenly he found it all ridiculous. It turned out they were the close friends, while he was the unnecessary villain. However, Yi Yuxiao didn't understand why Fan Jing was so angry over just a broken pendant. He patted Fan Jing's shoulder, consoling him that Wu Yin didn't mean it and asking him not to be angry. But Fan Jing just pushed his hand away, coldly telling him it wasn't his place to play the good person. Yi Yuxiao stood there awkwardly, not understanding why Fan Jing was reacting so strongly. Seeing the tension between them, Wu Yin apologized again and promised to compensate Fan Jing. She was still acting. Fan Jing understood. She wanted him to see who Yi Yuxiao cared about more. Obviously, she had succeeded. Thinking this, Fan Jing coldly told Wu Yin she couldn't afford to compensate for the pendant. He pushed past Yi Yuxiao and walked towards the door. If the person he trusted most wasn't on his side, what was the point of staying? Seeing him leave, Yi Yuxiao hurried to stop him. But then Wu Yin groaned in pain, and he quickly turned back to ask if she was hurting. Wu Yin asked if Yi Yuxiao could help her treat the wound, and in that delay, when Yi Yuxiao looked back, Fan Jing had already left. Thinking the wound was more important, he took Wu Yin to get it treated again. Meanwhile, Fan Jing, who had walked out, didn't know why he had become so weak, choosing to run away each time because he couldn't face Yi Yuxiao. As he walked with his head down, covering his face while crying in pain, he bumped into someone's embrace. At that moment, Zhong Siyuan saw that Fan Jing was crying. He quickly grabbed his shoulders and asked what happened. After hearing the whole story, Zhong Siyuan took Fan Jing to repair the pendant. However, the shop owner saw the severe cracks. He told them it would be difficult to fix. Hearing the shopkeeper's words, Fan Jing lowered his head. It seemed there was really no way to fix it. Seeing his sad expression, Zhong Siyuan stepped forward and praised the owner's top-notch craftsmanship, expressing confidence that such cracks would be no challenge for him. Considering how much help he had received from Zhong Siyuan during the documentary filming, the owner knew he couldn't refuse. Fan Jing was surprised when the owner agreed to help repair it. He had thought there was no hope. He hadn't expected that Zhong Siyuan's presence would bring such a fortunate turn of events. Hearing the owner ask him to leave the pendant and wait for notification when it's fixed, Fan Jing quickly thanked him and expressed how important the pendant was to him. On the way back, Fan Jing apologized for taking up Zhong Siyuan's rest time. However, the latter told him not to worry, treating it as a relaxing outing. Only then did Fan Jing realize that the real Zhong Siyuan had such a thoughtful and considerate side. He didn't know what the real Yi Yuxiao was like, how he could be tender and affectionate one moment, then abandon him the next. He wondered what he was doing now, if he was with Wu Yin. Just as Fan Jing was lost in these thoughts, Zhong Siyuan suddenly spoke up, asking if he was dating Yi Yuxiao. Fan Jing then remembered that Zhong Siyuan was Yi Yuxiao's uncle and might have opinions about their relationship. As he hesitated whether to tell the truth, Zhong Siyuan told him that Yi Yuxiao could be immature sometimes and asked him to be patient. Hearing this, Fan Jing realized that the other had noticed his troubles and was deliberately comforting him. He told Fan Jing that Yi Yuxiao became like this because of his family background, but he was much better now than before. When he mentioned Yi Yuxiao's past, Fan Jing became curious. However, Zhong Siyuan didn't continue. Instead, he told him to perform well in the important scenes tomorrow and the day after, then he would tell him. Fan Jing hadn't expected Zhong Siyuan to be such a tease. Hearing this, the other smiled and said there's no such thing as a free lunch. After getting off, Fan Jing expressed his gratitude to Zhong Siyuan for today's help. Finding him more approachable than imagined, Fan Jing smiled and said he would treat him to dinner next time. Just as he finished speaking, Yi Yuxiao asked if they were going to dinner and if he could join. Fan Jing was stunned to encounter him here. But Yi Yuxiao jokingly asked Zhong Siyuan where he had taken Fan Jing so late. Watching him chat casually as if nothing had happened, Fan Jing couldn't understand why he could act so normal. Thinking this, he walked straight past Yi Yuxiao towards the entrance. Seeing how he was laughing with Zhong Siyuan earlier, but now avoiding himself, Yi Yuxiao quickly grabbed him. He angrily questioned why he would leave without saying goodbye and told him he had been waiting for his return. Hearing this, Fan Jing coldly stated he hadn't asked him to wait. Seeing Yi Yuxiao's reckless words, Zhong Siyuan quickly explained their whereabouts and mentioned that the pendant was a protective charm from Fan Jing's mother. After explaining, Zhong Siyuan told them tomorrow would be busy. He suggested they rest early if tired. But Yi Yuxiao missed the point and questioned when they had become so close. Then he turned to tell Zhong Siyuan that Fan Jing wasn't tired and would do other things with him. As he finished speaking, he caressed Fan Jing's face, and while he was confused, kissed his lips in front of Zhong Siyuan. Fan Jing quickly came to his senses and pushed him away forcefully. Wiping his lips, he demanded to know what he was doing. Fan Jing looked angrily at Yi Yuxiao. With a trembling voice, he asked why he was always so inconsiderate. Without waiting for an answer, he pushed past him. He left without looking back. Seeing this, Zhong Siyuan stated that he didn't want to comment much on Yi Yuxiao's past relationships. Then, changing the subject, he asked if he had any serious intentions with Fan Jing this time. Looking seriously at Zhong Siyuan meddling like a father, Yi Yuxiao was extremely annoyed. He directly told him that he wasn't a child anymore and didn't need Zhong Siyuan's lectures. Then he started to leave. Seeing Yi Yuxiao's dismissive attitude, Zhang Siyuan warned him that continuing like this would eventually hurt both parties. Yi Yuxiao ignored him and quickly chased after Fan Jing. He demanded to know what was wrong, why Fan Jing had been giving him the cold shoulder since morning at the film set until now. Fan Jing was internally speechless. He couldn't believe how Yi Yuxiao had the nerve to ask him with such an innocent face, as if he had amnesia. However, he didn't want to deal with any of this and directly shook off his hand. Seeing Fan Jing trying to leave, Yi Yuxiao got anxious. He quickly turned him around, asking what he meant and why they couldn't talk properly. Seeing that he still didn't understand the problem, Fan Jing coldly told him he had nothing to say and told him to go back to Wu Yin. Hearing this, Yi Yuxiao sarcastically said he should indeed go find Wu Yin, so Fan Jing could laugh and chat with Zhang Siyuan. Seeing his sarcastic tone, Fan Jing asked what he meant by that. Yi Yuxiao felt he wasn't wrong. He didn't know when they had become close enough to go out together late at night. Hearing him obsess over this, Fan Jing angrily pushed him away and emphasized that Zhang Siyuan was just kindly helping him repair the jade pendant. Yi Yuxiao understood Fan Jing wouldn't lie to him. It seemed they really just went out by chance. He had misunderstood. Realizing this, Yi Yuxiao quickly hugged Fan Jing, possessively stating that Fan Jing was his and warning him not to get too close to others. Hearing this, Fan Jing questioned how he had acted. As soon as he came in, he took Wu Yan's side and accused him. Wasn't that problematic? Yi Yuxiao felt that even if he had something with Wu Yan, Fan Jing had no right to criticize. But to pacify him, Yi Yuxiao held him tightly, admitted his misunderstanding, and apologized. Then he leaned close to Fan Jing's ear, pleading cutely for him not to be angry anymore. However, what bothered Fan Jing wasn't the misunderstanding, but that he chose to believe Wu Yin first and valued Wu Yin more. Yi Yuxiao quickly explained that he wasn't favoring Wu Yin, but anyone would have misunderstood in that situation. However, the next moment he lectured Fan Jing, saying the pendant could be fixed and there was no need to get angry at Wu Yin since it wasn't intentional. Seeing Yi Yuxiao still defending Wu Yin, Fan Jing repeatedly questioned him. In his eyes, was Wu Yin deliberately bringing up those memories, not intentional? Showing off their close relationship in front of him, not intentional? Even repeatedly ruining their dates, wasn't intentional? Everything he did was right, and only Fan Jing was the bad person. After these soul-searching questions, he forcefully pushed away Yi Yuxiao's hand. He sternly told him it was over, and there was nothing more to discuss. After saying this, he walked past him and left without looking back. Watching Fan Jing's retreating figure, Yi Yuxiao punched the railing in frustration. He had never tried so hard to coax someone before, yet the other person didn't appreciate it. Thinking about Zhang Siyuan's question about whether he was serious about Fan Jing, he suddenly wasn't sure what his feelings for Fan Jing really were. However, the next moment he shook his head, feeling there was no point thinking about it. After all, he couldn't possibly limit himself to just Fan Jing. For the next 3 days, Yi Yuxiao and Fan Jing had no contact. Looking at his empty phone, Fan Jing knew Yi Yuxiao was choosing the Cold War approach again, just like last time. Zhang Siyuan noticed his distraction and asked him to pay attention. He quickly smiled, apologized, and said he would adjust. Fan Jing felt he didn't understand Yi Yuxiao well enough, couldn't comprehend his fickleness, and didn't know how to handle the current predicament. Looking at the person pretending to be strong before him, Zhang Siyuan was full of worry. In the break room, Fan Jing imagined if things would be different now if he hadn't walked away in anger that time. He had thought Yi Yuxiao would chase after him to explain, but he seemed to have silently accepted Fan Jing's accusations. Fan Jing wondered if their relationship would end like this if they couldn't resolve this issue. Just as he was lost in thought, his phone rang. He quickly got up to get his phone. It was indeed from Yi Yuxiao, but he didn't know what tone to use to answer. Before Fan Jing could speak, the caller told him to come to the bar, saying Yi Yuxiao was drunk and calling for him. So Yi Yuxiao was drunk, but Fan Jing wondered why he didn't call Wu Yin first. The caller had already given the address, so Fan Jing could only get up and promise to arrive quickly. The scene changes, and as soon as Fan Jing appeared at the bar, Yi Yuxiao's friend spotted him and waved him over. Thinking about how Yi Yuxiao had mistaken him for Fan Jing while drunk, the friend said it was fortunate he came, otherwise it would have been exhausting. Looking at Yi Yuxiao sitting quietly to the side, Fan Jing thought he seemed peaceful, but the friend exasperatedly said he was selective about who to bother. Hearing this, Fan Jing cupped Yi Yuxiao's face, telling him to sober up and not sleep in the bar. However, Yi Yuxiao could only stare at him with a silly smile. Seeing Yi Yuxiao like this, Fan Jing didn't know what to say. Just then, Yi Yuxiao suddenly lunged forward and hugged him. He buried his head in Fan Jing's shoulder, asking to be taken home. Watching all this, the friend felt like his eyes were deceiving him, never imagining Yi Yuxiao could be so mushy. However, the drunk Yi Yuxiao thought he was dreaming when he saw Fan Jing coming to get him. Back home, while washing clothes, Fan Jing wondered why Yi Yuxiao, who usually held his liquor well, would drink himself into such a state. Suddenly, he wondered if Yi Yuxiao had drunk so much because he was troubled about how to make up after their fight. Meanwhile, when Yi Yuxiao opened his eyes on the bed, he found himself in Fan Jing's home, confused about why he kept having hallucinations about him. Since that was the case, why not simply imagine a Fan Jing appearing? With this thought, he immediately acted on it. At his command, Fan Jing pushed open the door. The confused Fan Jing sat directly on the bed, watching Yi Yuxiao's antics. However, Yi Yuxiao really thought he had succeeded. Seeing him think this was a hallucination, Fan Jing grabbed his hand and touched himself, telling him it wasn't an illusion. Hearing this, Yi Yuxiao directly pinched to test if it would hurt, but he pinched Fan Jing's face instead. Touching his reddened face, Fan Jing glumly realized that Yi Yuxiao was too drunk. There was definitely no way to discuss their previous issues now. As he was thinking, the person beside him grabbed his sleeve. Seeing Fan Jing looking at him puzzled, Yi Yuxiao pitifully asked why he was so heartless, not coming to find him for 3 days. Hearing Yi Yuxiao's pitiful question about why he hadn't come looking for him in 3 days, Fan Jing couldn't stay angry anymore. After all, what was the point of arguing with a drunk person? He could only smile and ruffle the other's hair, telling him that he had come to find him now. Hearing this, Yi Yuxiao moved closer, hugging his arm, saying he hated being alone and begging him never to leave him. At this moment, Fan Jing remembered Zhong Siyuan's words, knowing that Yi Yuxiao had hardly any chance to receive parental love. Thinking of this, he lowered his head and told him he wouldn't leave. Looking at the person before him, Fan Jing truly wished time could stop at this moment. However, the next moment, Yi Yuxiao started sniffing around him. Then he shook him vigorously, demanding to know why he smelled of alcohol. Fan Jing wanted to throw away this version of Yi Yuxiao. After the commotion, Fan Jing turned on the bathroom tap and started preparing a bath for Yi Yuxiao, telling him to speak up if the water temperature wasn't right. Then he held the shower gel in his hand. He asked Yi Yuxiao to raise his arms, and he obediently did so. Fan Jing helped apply the shower gel on Yi Yuxiao, looking at the person before him, thinking how well-behaved he was like this. Suddenly feeling playful, Fan Jing asked Yi Yuxiao to lift his chin. Seeing him obediently tilt his head up, Fan Jing scratched under his chin like petting a cat. He suddenly realized that besides their arguments, their time together was actually quite happy. It was Yi Yuxiao who had let him experience the beauty of love. Thinking this, Fan Jing hugged Yi Yuxiao, warning him that if he wanted to be together properly, he couldn't keep favoring Wu Yin. Hearing his words, Yi Yuxiao agreed repeatedly with a red face. Fan Jing then asked if he would remember this promise when he woke up tomorrow, and received the same response again. Fan Jing knew that even if Yi Yuxiao promised, he couldn't control Wu Yin. If Wu Yin asked for help, he wasn't sure if Yi Yuxiao would refuse. Scene changes to the next day. Yi Yuxiao woke up with a headache. Seeing he was at Fan Jing's place, he couldn't remember anything from last night. Then he saw a note on the bedside table. It was Fan Jing reminding him to take hangover medicine when he woke up. At this moment, a thought exploded in his mind. Maybe it wasn't a dream, and Fan Jing really did pick him up, but he couldn't remember what happened afterward. Thinking about his embarrassing state last night, he didn't dare imagine how those people would tease him about it. Looking at the neat bed beside him, he realized he hadn't seen Fan Jing. Going out to look, he saw that Fan Jing had given him the bed and slept on the couch himself. He sat nearby, wondering if Fan Jing taking him home, but not sleeping with him meant he was still angry. But somehow, seeing him made his heart feel less troubled. Just as he was considering whether to take the initiative to coax Fan Jing while he hadn't grown tired of him, Fan Jing woke up. Seeing Yi Yuxiao sitting there, he was startled. Seeing Fan Jing frozen in place, Yi Yuxiao could only awkwardly say hello. As Fan Jing was about to turn his face away, Yi Yuxiao quickly kissed his forehead, hoping for forgiveness. However, Fan Jing pushed him away, asking him to answer one question first. Before Yi Yuxiao could react, Fan Jing asked if he liked Wu Yin. Yi Yuxiao didn't understand why Fan Jing would think this way. But Fan Jing told him this wasn't just his imagination. Too many things had led him to think this way. He knew Yi Yuxiao didn't understand his aversion to Wu Yin, but love was inherently selfish. He couldn't tolerate any impurity in their relationship. After saying this, he seriously asked Yi Yuxiao again if he liked Wu Yin. Seeing Fan Jing being so cute even when jealous, Yi Yuxiao teased him about being so persistent with his jealousy. However, Fan Jing warned him not to change the subject, saying he really needed this answer. Yi Yuxiao fell silent. Seeing his hesitation, Fan Jing clenched his fists, guessing Yi Yuxiao didn't know the answer. He wasn't sure if he would believe it if Yi Yuxiao denied it, or if they could return to how things were before. Realizing Fan Jing truly wanted to know the answer, Yi Yuxiao admitted that Wu Yin was someone he liked in high school. He then told Fan Jing that when his family had troubles, during his most rebellious and difficult days, Wu Yin was always by his side. Fan Jing finally understood why Yi Yuxiao always took Wu Yan's side first. It seemed that for him, Wu Yin held such important and irreplaceable memories. Seeing Fan Jing lost in thought, Yi Yuxiao quickly poked him, asking what he was thinking about. He then assured him that he and Wu Yin never dated, and they were really just friends now. Hearing his promise, Fan Jing questioned why he had lied before, saying Wu Yin was just an old classmate with no special relationship. Yi Yuxiao hugged him, explaining he was afraid of misunderstandings then, considering how hard it was to appease him. What if he got angry about past matters? Fan Jing told him that relationships are built on mutual trust, and regardless of reasons, there shouldn't be concealment or deception. Yi Yuxiao quickly apologized and stated that the past was past, and more importantly, he truly liked him now. Then he asked Fan Jing to look into his eyes. He said pitifully that if Fan Jing still didn't believe him, he could only cut out his heart to show him. The unspoken boasting and their past that he couldn't be part of were imaginable. Fan Jing didn't know how to pretend it never happened. Seeing his hesitation, Yi Yuxiao told him it wasn't that complicated, just trust his inner feelings. He smirked and said if he had forgotten him, he could make him remember again. With that, he picked him up. Seeing Yi Yuxiao walking towards the bedroom, Fan Jing quickly said he wasn't in the mood for anything else, but Yi Yuxiao wouldn't listen. Laying him on the bed, he told him to just follow the rhythm and leave everything to him. As he spoke, his hand slipped under Fan Jing's clothes. Fan Jing felt Yi Yuxiao's wild desire to conquer his very soul. He looked lovingly at this person who always brought him unprecedented passion and led him without resistance. Yi Yuxiao caressed Fan Jing's face, expressing how much he missed this body and every inch of skin. Fan Jing knew he wanted to prove that his eyes were only for him, that he only desired him, which was exactly what he needed. Yi Yuxiao whispered in his ear, seeking forgiveness and asking if he would always give in to him. Hearing this, Fan Jing quickly pushed him away. He said he would forgive him this time, but love couldn't withstand erosion and made him promise not to favor Wu Yin anymore or lie to him again. Seeing him ask to stay just for him alone, Yi Yuxiao wasn't angry at all, instead finding it interesting. But he still silenced Fan Jing, telling him this was the first time someone had asked him to make promises at such a moment. Then, changing his tone, Yi Yuxiao said he would promise Fan Jing, since he liked him so much. He then pinned the other's hands above and promised to do whatever he asked. Fan Jing blushed and teased that he was just all talk. Hearing this, Yi Yuxiao pressed down his body, wanting to show him that he wasn't just all talk. They held each other tightly. This time, Fan Jing chose to believe in Yi Yuxiao again. Perhaps this way, there would be no more barriers between them. After some time, Fan Jing finished filming Spirit Fox. After wrapping up, he hoped all the troubles here would stay in the past. However, just as he was about to leave by car, Wu Yin called out to him from behind. First, he apologized for causing the argument between him and Yi Yuxiao, then asked if they had reconciled. Fan Jing firmly said they were fine. After all, his relationship with Yi Yuxiao could withstand any test. Hearing this, Wu Yin paused for a moment. He remarked that Yi Yuxiao's skill at comforting people was still as excellent as before. Seeing Fan Jing didn't understand his meaning, Wu Yin continued, saying when Yi Yuxiao pursued him back then, he also found various ways to make him happy. Fan Jing refuted, saying he heard they were never actually together. Wu Yin thought he must have heard something from Yi Yuxiao's friends and quickly asked who told him this. When Fan Jing said there were no secrets between him and Yi Yuxiao, Wu Yan pointed out that he only thought he understood Yi Yuxiao. Seeing him still trying to sow discord, Fan Jing warned him that an outsider like him had no right to meddle in their relationship. As he was about to leave, Wu Yan said he had spent 3 years with Yi Yuxiao and knew he never truly valued things that came too easily. Looking at Wu Yan's confident expression, Fan Jing felt very uncomfortable. But looking down at the flowers in his arms, he knew he shouldn't doubt Yi Yuxiao because of idle gossip. At the Starlight Awards ceremony half a month later, Fan Jing's appearance caused a stir because of his recently completed Super IP drama Spirit Fox. He was nominated for the Most Promising New Actor Award. Zhang Xiyuan looked at him with satisfaction. Fan Jing also saw him and quickly greeted him. Seeing him approach, Zhang Xiyuan thought he looked in good condition. At this moment, Yi Yuxiao appeared and questioned Fan Jing why he was secretly talking to others behind his back again. He then walked over, embraced him, and thanked Zhang Xiyue for taking care of him. Fan Jing quickly reminded him to be careful about being photographed. He pushed him away and told Zhang Xiyuan that he wasn't usually like this. Yi Yuxiao warned him not to speak ill of him. After the ceremony began, when Yi Yuxiao asked if he had prepared an acceptance speech, Fan Jing said he wasn't sure he would win. Seeing his modesty, Yi Yuxiao assured him he would definitely win because he was excellent. However, Fan Jing wasn't so optimistic because every actor here yearned for recognition. Thinking back to when he entered the entertainment industry, his former manager had criticized him countless times, telling him he couldn't get resources if he didn't know how to adapt. Even he doubted if he could adapt to the survival rules here, but he was determined to prove he hadn't made the wrong choice. While he was lost in thought, the host on stage had already started announcing the winner of the Most Promising New Actor Award. The next moment, Fan Jing heard his name. It turned out that just by pushing forward relentlessly, one could reach the light ahead, and his persistence had finally received heaven's favor. Standing on stage, Fan Jing thanked everyone for their recognition and his company, promising to continue forward with everyone's support. He knew his beloved career was responding to him, and the person he loved was supporting him from behind. He happily held up the trophy, finally able to say with certainty that he had achieved everything he had dreamed of. After leaving the stage, Fan Jing opened the door and walked out. Everyone he met congratulated him. Wu Yan was also hiding behind the door. However, Fan Jing was only focused on looking for Yi Yuxiao and didn't notice the person hiding behind the door. At this moment, he suddenly saw Yi Yuxiao standing with a man. Fan Jing realized the man was Yi Yuxiao's friend from the bar that day. It turned out he was also in the film industry. Fan Jing heard him telling Yi Yuxiao that he had run into Wu Yan and praised how Wu Yan's demeanor had changed greatly from before. Then he said Wu Yan had asked about his love life. Hearing this, Yi Yuxiao asked what he had told Wu Yan. However, the man said he only told Wu Yan that Yi Yuxiao was currently pursuing someone because of a bet. Fan Jing, hiding nearby, was shocked. He didn't understand what they were talking about, nor did he know what they meant by this bet. Hearing Zheng Yu's words, Yi Yuxiao warned him not to spread nonsense, as Fan Jing was also present. Zheng Yu teased him, asking if he was afraid of Fan Jing finding out, and said he was being quite cautious this time. Then asked if he was bored yet, and when he would find his next target. Actually, if Zheng Yu hadn't mentioned it, Yi Yuxiao had almost forgotten about the bet. But to avoid being mocked, he said he hadn't found an interesting target yet, so he'd just continue with the current situation. Unfortunately, everything was overheard by Fan Jing outside. He couldn't understand what their conversation meant. Was Yi Yuxiao only with him because of a bet? Were these past few months of their relationship all just his lies? At this moment, the flowers and trophy in his hands fell to the ground. The sound of falling items startled the two people talking inside. Looking at the scattered flowers and broken trophy on the ground, Yi Yuxiao knew it was Fan Jing outside. He rushed out to explain that things weren't as Fan Jing imagined. However, Fan Jing just looked up disappointedly. He only wanted to know if the bet was real or not. Yi Yuxiao could only guiltily tell him that Zheng Yu always talked nonsense, trying to avoid Fan Jing's question. However, Fan Jing didn't want to hear excuses. He told him to stop beating around the bush and just say yes or no. Hearing this, Yi Yuxiao really didn't know how to answer. Seeing him like this, Fan Jin realized this must be what Wu Yin wanted him to know. He didn't want to say anything more. He pushed Yi Yuxiao away and walked forward. Looking at Fan Jin's lonely figure, Yi Yuxiao didn't know if he should chase after him. Just then, a CO patted his shoulder, saying he had been looking to talk with him. He told him he had a good project and wanted to discuss cooperation, asking if he was interested. But Yi Yuxiao's mind was in chaos. He knew if he let Fan Jin leave like this, he would never return to him. Thinking this, he turned and told the CEO he had no time for this now. Then he hurried after Fan Jin. Zheng Yu had to quickly appease the CEO, explaining that Yi Yuxiao wasn't in a good mood today. Watching Yi Yuxiao's hurried figure, Zheng Yu knew he was in trouble and would definitely get scolded by Yi Yuxiao. Fan Jin stopped the car. Just as he was about to open the door, Yi Yuxiao caught up and stopped him. He grabbed Fan Jin's hand, begging him not to leave and to let him finish explaining. He told Fan Jin that things weren't as he imagined and hoped he would give him a chance to explain. Then, he explained that those were just jokes between friends, not meant to hurt him, and said his feelings were genuine. However, Fan Jin didn't want to hear any of this. After Yi Yuxiao finished speaking, he pushed his hand away and asked if they could end this now. Knowing Fan Jin wouldn't listen to his explanation, Yi Yuxiao didn't know what to do. He thought for a moment. He loudly said he would make it up to him, would get him better resources, and begged him not to refuse communication. But these words completely angered Fan Jin. So this was how he viewed their relationship. How was this any different from a transaction? He clenched his fists. So this relationship was just his one-sided fantasy all along. He felt unsteady, unable to understand how the man who shared his bed until yesterday could become so strange and frightening. Seeing him try to reach out and touch him again, he forcefully slapped his hand away and warned him not to touch him. Then he harshly accused him of being selfish and heartless, unworthy of speaking of love. Fan Jin questioned if Yi Yuxiao approached him because he wasn't done with the bet, so he kept stringing him along, just using him as a tool to satisfy his desire for conquest. He believed Yi Yuxiao had been playing him from start to finish. Was there even a single moment that was genuine? Fan Jin grabbed Yi Yuxiao's collar, crying as he told him he had never liked anyone this much before him. He originally thought the other felt the same way, but now he saw how terribly wrong he was. After saying this, he released Yi Yuxiao's collar. Looking at him with tears, he painfully told him that they were over. Back home, Fan Jin began packing up Yi Yuxiao's things. Looking at the coat he left behind last time he stayed over, and the set of daily necessities he had specially prepared for his convenience. Only then did Fan Jin realize this home was no longer how it used to be when he lived alone. If he threw away everything with traces of him, would he be able to erase him from his heart? After cleaning everything up, he knew life had to go on. He didn't have time to be depressed over a failed relationship anymore. Just then, the doorbell rang. Seeing it was Yi Yuxiao, he instinctively tried to close the door. Seeing this, the other quickly stuck his hand in the door gap, begging him not to close it. He said if he wasn't let in, he would keep ringing the doorbell. He knew Fan Jin wouldn't want to disturb the neighbors. Sure enough, hearing this, Fan Jin released the door. Then he turned and went inside, telling Yi Yuxiao to say whatever he had to say at once. He didn't want to be bothered by him again. However, Yi Yuxiao told him he had brought him a gift. Saying this, he took out a DVD from his bag, asking if he remembered this was the disc he really wanted before. Fan Jin had once said this film's director was his favorite, but unfortunately, the Blu-ray was out of print and he couldn't buy it. At that time, Yi Yuxiao promised to help him find it and watch it together. However, Fan Jin had teased him about always falling asleep during art films. Yi Yuxiao had said cheesily that he just wanted to do everything together with him. Yi Yuxiao told him he had never forgotten what he said, so he asked many friends to help find it, hoping he could forgive him. But Fan Jin didn't want to hear any of this. He suddenly grabbed the DVD, demanding to know if he was done with his games. He didn't know how he had the nerve to bring up the past, thinking he could gain forgiveness with just a DVD. Was he pleased with how easily he had fallen for it? He had enough of these days of reflection. He had already lost too much dignity to him. How could he continue to be laughed at? Thinking this, Fan Jin told him he didn't need the DVD to take the box with him, and warned him never to appear at his home again. Yi Yuxiao hadn't expected Fan Jin to think this way, signed that he had packed everything up so quickly. He admitted his past mistakes, but he had apologized to Fan Jin more than once. What more did he want? Seeing his impatience, Fan Jin asked if it was difficult for him to humble himself for mere prey, and told him not to force himself. Yi Yuxiao had never gone this far for anyone else, yet the other person kept pushing him. Unable to tolerate it anymore, he stepped on the DVD and pointed at the things Fan Jin had packed, telling him to deal with them himself. He stated he had no interest in worthless things, then slammed the door shut as he left. Fan Jin was left standing there stunned. He clenched his fists, gritting his teeth in anger. He kicked over the box. He didn't know how much longer Yi Yuxiao wanted to toy with him. After venting, Fan Jin collapsed to his knees. He never thought he would become such a weak and helpless person. The broken pieces on the floor cut his hand. He couldn't start over, nor could he erase the fact that he had loved him so much. At night, the assistant came to his door anxiously after being unable to reach Fan Jin by phone. Opening the door, he saw Fan Jin quietly kneeling on the floor alone. The assistant grabbed his injured hand, asking if he had done this to himself. He thought Fan Jin was depressed because he had seen the news online. But first, they needed to find a first aid kit, as the wound looked serious. Hearing the assistant's concern, Fan Jin asked what news was online. Seeing he didn't know, the assistant told him to prepare himself, then explained that someone had spread malicious videos online, spreading rumors about Fan Jin, and the situation had escalated. Hearing this, Fan Jin was too shocked to speak. Seeing him like this, the assistant quickly assured him that the company was handling it. Everything would be resolved smoothly, and told him not to worry too much. Meanwhile, Wu Yinzu sat before his computer, satisfied with his handiwork. He hadn't originally planned to be this ruthless. However, he really didn't like others taking what was his. Fan Jin arrived at the company. The assistant told him not to go online these days, knowing competitors had hired trolls to cause trouble. Just then, Sister Yu greeted them nearby, and they quickly stopped talking. Asked if he still had a photo shoot this afternoon. Hearing this, Sister Yu could only awkwardly tell him the brand wanted to see how public opinion developed, so the shoot was postponed. She said she would notify him if there were any new developments. Then she hurriedly walked away. Fan Jin found that wherever he went, people were whispering and discussing behind his back. The assistant looked at him worriedly. Thinking that this wasn't the first time experiencing such slander and rumors, Fan Jin told himself he couldn't be weak. Just then his phone rang in his pocket. He took out his phone. It was his father calling. As soon as he answered, his father demanded to know what mess he created, saying many people had come to the shop asking about him, worried it would affect business. Fan Jin turned and told the assistant to go in first. The other person told him to hurry, as the meeting was about to start. In the meeting room, Yi Yuxiao instructed the PR department to prepare a clarification article immediately, demanding it be reasonable and empathetic, to turn around public opinion. When the time was right, Fan Jin's personal clarification and press conference would follow. Everyone agreed with this arrangement. Then he assigned assistants to monitor suspicious accounts and find the artists who provided testimonies for the negative videos. Though making various arrangements, he still kept watching anxiously in Fan Jin's direction. He wondered what had happened to his hand. It was fine when they met yesterday. Even the assistant was surprised that Yi Yuxiao would personally oversee things. His decisive manner made people feel at ease. Having arranged everything, Yi Yuxiao adjourned the meeting, telling everyone to act quickly. Just as he left the meeting room, he heard Fan Jin explaining to his father that the company was handling his situation and it wouldn't affect him. But his father didn't want to hear any of it, sarcastically saying he hadn't hidden his shameful affairs well enough from others. Hearing his father's mockery, Fan Jin was too upset to respond. His father actually believed he had done those things. Yi Yuxiao didn't understand why he always pretended to be indifferent. If he would just yield, he could protect him. Yi Yuxiao called out from behind. He grabbed Fan Jin's hand, asking how he got hurt. Fan Jin quickly pulled his hand away and turned his head, saying he was fine. Seeing him about to leave again, Yi Yuxiao quickly admitted he was too impulsive yesterday and should have talked things through properly. Regarding the online controversy, he suggested Fan Jin rest at home for a few days until things settled down. Hearing this, Fan Jin only responded coldly, indicating his agreement to the arrangement. Seeing him unwilling to say even one extra word, Yi Yuxiao gritted his teeth in anger. He pushed Fan Jin against the wall, demanding to know why he couldn't say more, why he was keeping everyone at arm's length. But Fan Jin pushed him away, saying he had nothing more to say to him. Seeing Fan Jin like this, Yi Yuxiao knew he had reverted to his former unreachable self, perhaps even worse. But he still told him he couldn't escape their relationship because he was still his company's artist. Yi Yuxiao just wanted to prove they still had a connection. But Fan Jin told him if not for their professional relationship, he wouldn't want to see him at all. After saying this, Fan Jin walked away. Yi Yuxiao anxiously wanted to call him back. Just as he was about to chase after him, his assistant stopped him, saying there were urgent documents needing his review and signature. Fan Jin quickly walked out, with people still gossiping behind his back. He felt this might be heaven's way of punishing his naive trust with another misfortune, to make him see that no one would ever stand by his side. Suddenly, a car horn interrupted his thoughts. It was Zhong Si-yuan, warning him not to go home as reporters might be waiting there. Hearing this unexpected concern, Fan Jin didn't know what to say. Zhong Si-yuan understood his hesitation and assured him it was fine, telling him to get in the car quickly. In the car, Zhong Si-yuan explained he had seen suspicious people outside the company. Not knowing their intentions, he decided to pick him up. Fan Jin thanked him and suggested not going home for safety reasons, then asked if he was living with Yi Yuxiao. Hearing this, Fan Jin paused before telling him they had broken up. Considering Yi Yuxiao's personality, Zhong Si-yuan thought their separation was normal. He changed the subject instead of asking more. He told Fan Jin he also bore responsibility and had already contacted actors to testify. Fan Jin thanked him for his thoughtfulness. Seeing Fan Jin's discomfort, Zhong Si-yuan asked if he was feeling unwell, guessing it might be his stomach acting up from irregular meals. When Zhong Si-yuan offered to take him to the hospital, Fan Jin quickly refused, saying it was an old problem that would pass. The other didn't insist, instead telling him about a friend's guest house nearby where he could rest. At the guest house, Fan Jin rested on the bed while Zhong Si-yuan sat nearby working. After waking up, Fan Jin lay quietly on the bed, lost in thought. Zhong Si-yuan told him to wait until the water cooled to take his medicine, and said the innkeeper was making porridge that would be brought up soon. He then warned Fan Jin that although he was talented, an actor who doesn't take care of their health won't go far. Hearing this, Fan Jin showed no reaction. Zhong Si-yuan suddenly wondered if he'd been too harsh. After all, Fan Jin had been through a shock, so it was natural he couldn't eat. Suddenly, the silent Fan Jin started patting his own face. He knew Zhong Si-yuan was right. Wallowing in self-pity and giving up would only please his enemies. Seeing him bounce back so quickly, Zhong Si-yuan felt his resilience exceeded expectations. He closed his laptop. He told Fan Jin that whether positive or negative, trending topics always pass. Only real ability remains. Hearing this, Fan Jin understood that as an actor, the most important thing was having impressive works. But getting opportunities in the entertainment industry on one's own was no easy task, especially now that he had been pushed into a trap. How could he fight against such resistance to find a glimmer of hope? Just then, Zhong Si-yuan suddenly said he had a suitable role for him in his next film, asking if he'd like to try. For Fan Jin, these words were like a hand pulling him out of the water, saving him from disaster. Seeing Fan Jin staring at him, Zhong Si-yuan felt a bit uncomfortable. Then Fan Jin asked if he was sure about taking such a risk, collaborating when he was most controversial. But Zhong Si-yuan told him not to overthink it. He just thought the role suited him and would replace him if he wasn't in good condition. He started to hand him something. Fan Jin had never met someone like this, appearing when he was most helpless, not only relieving pressure, but also caring for his feelings. When asked if he wanted candy, Fan Jin helplessly said he wasn't a child, then took his medicine. But the next moment, a piece of candy appeared in Zhong Si-yuan's palm. While handing it to him, he smiled and said it's okay to be childlike sometimes. Taking the candy, Fan Jin knew what he was being given wasn't just candy and a job opportunity. Understanding this, he firmly told him he would adjust his condition quickly and wouldn't disappoint him. Seeing this, Zhong Si-yuan expressed his faith in him with satisfaction. 3 days later, Fan Jin's assistant was called to Yi Yuxiao's office. As soon as he entered, Yi Yuxiao demanded to know where Fan Jin was staying since he couldn't return home, and why the assistant hadn't reported it promptly. The frightened assistant apologized profusely and took out his phone, saying he would contact and find out immediately. However, Yi Yuxiao couldn't wait. He stood up and grabbed the phone from the assistant. The thought of having to rely on others to contact Fan Jin felt ridiculous to him, but he still wanted to know how he was doing. However, When the call connected, his uncle's voice came through. Why was he with Fan Jin? Yi Yuxiao asked Zhong Siyuan why he was answering Fan Jin's phone. Looking at the sleeping person beside him, Zhong Siyuan closed the door. He explained he was answering to avoid waking Fan Jin. However, that wasn't what Yi Yuxiao wanted to know. He wanted to know, why was Zhong Siyuan always getting involved with Fan Jin behind his back? As a great director, he could have any actor. Why did he have to take what belonged to him? Hearing this, Zhong Siyuan warned him to mind his words and told him that actors aren't commodities. Moreover, Fan Jin wasn't his anymore. He reminded him that they had broken up. Hearing this, Yi Yuxiao asked what he meant, wondering if he was trying to take advantage of the situation. Zhong Siyuan exasperatedly told him that for Fan Jin, salvaging his career was most important. His interference would only cause more trouble. Zhong Siyuan couldn't understand why Yi Yuxiao was being so unreasonable about Fan Jin. But with his personality, there's no telling what he might do. Meanwhile, Yi Yuxiao told the assistant to inform Fan Jin about attending tomorrow night's party. The assistant said Fan Jin didn't like and never attended such occasions. Before he could finish, Yi Yuxiao impatiently told him that he controlled Fan Jin's schedule. He didn't know if Fan Jin had sought out Zhong Siyuan or if they had been together these past few days. Thinking about this, he angrily kicked the nearby table. He swept everything off his desk onto the floor. All along, he had been deliberately avoiding this question, afraid to think about whether Fan Jin would leave him and be with someone else. At the party, Yi Yuxiao was drinking alone in a corner. Then, Zhong Siyuan came over and asked why he wasn't socializing but drinking alone instead, saying it wasn't like him. Hearing this, Yi Yuxiao stared at his drink and asked what would be like him, saying he couldn't remember what he used to be like. But somehow, every little moment spent with Fan Jin became increasingly clear in his deep memories. If time could turn back, he would never make that bet with others. Then he and Fan Jin wouldn't have broken up. Just then he saw Fan Jin walk in. He finally saw him after so many days, but he seemed to have lost some weight. Yi Yuxiao hurriedly went over to greet him. However, Fan Jin coldly stated that since he demanded his presence, how dare he not come? Seeing him so distant, Yi Yuxiao quickly explained that he just wanted to see him, couldn't contact him, and wanted to make sure he was okay. Then he carefully put his hand on Fan Jin's shoulder, telling him he had good news and asking him to follow. But Fan Jin quickly moved aside, avoiding Yi Yuxiao's touch. Seeing Fan Jin's rejection, Yi Yuxiao's hand hung in midair. To ease the awkwardness, he could only point and force a smile, asking him to follow. Then he recommended Fan Jin to director Jia Ming, hoping he would consider him, emphasizing that Fan Jin was his loyal fan. Seeing that Yi Yuxiao had been reaching out to him for 2 months, Jia Ming admired his persistence. Fan Jin just learned about this, but Jia Ming worried that recent negative news might affect Fan Jin's filming state. Fan Jin admitted there might be some impact, but it was also an experience. As an actor, he would learn from it, then stated his position. Seeing this, Yi Yuxiao felt Fan Jin was still the same person he knew. Jia Ming was also moved by his attitude and praised his work. Yi Yuxiao knew he hadn't cherished Fan Jin before, wondering if giving him the best from now on could earn his forgiveness. Just then, Jia Ming told Fan Jin that Zhong Siyuan also wanted to confirm their next collaboration. He praised Fan Jin's promising future. At this moment, Mr. Chun, who had drugged Fan Jin before, saw them and started muttering curses. Wu Yin, who happened to pass by, overheard everything clearly. At that moment, another evil thought flashed through Wu Yan's mind. Fan Jin and Jia Ming had a very pleasant conversation, and Jia Ming expressed his anticipation for future collaboration. After Jia Ming left, Yi Yuxiao eagerly asked Fan Jin when he had discussed collaboration with Zhong Siyuan and why he hadn't told him. Fan Jin said he would submit the documentation through proper channels and mentioned he wasn't feeling well. He said he needed to leave. Just seeing Yi Yuxiao had drained all his energy. Such a response made him feel defeated. So their relationship had been reduced to mere business. But he wasn't ready to give up. He grabbed Fan Jin's wrist. He wanted to find a place to talk. He had to get the answers he wanted no matter what. Fan Jin was about to resist but held back. He knew if he refused, the other would definitely make a scene in public. He was certain Fan Jin wouldn't dare to break free. In the restroom, Fan Jin told Yi Yuxiao he had said more than once that there was nothing to talk about between them. But Yi Yuxiao locked the door and continued with his previous questions. He asked if they did anything besides discussing work. Fan Jin angrily questioned if he could understand human language and accused him of having no right to control him. Yi Yuxiao told him he could understand his rejection, but couldn't accept the possibility of him being with someone else. Then he told Fan Jin that he had a bad feeling since his first interaction with Zhong Siyuan. He asked if it was because Zhong Siyuan offered resources, saying he could do the same and provide even better directors and teams. Fan Jin couldn't stand it anymore, telling him not to think everyone was like him, treating relationships so casually. His words made him very angry. He didn't know how he could have fallen for such a jerk. But Yi Yuxiao didn't know how to treat someone properly. He wanted Fan Jin to teach him, promising to change if he would tell him how. Yi Yuxiao promised he wouldn't do things Fan Jin disliked, wouldn't see Wu Yin anymore, just asking to return to the past. Hearing this, Fan Jin smiled helplessly. In the past, he had indeed hoped many times that Yi Yuxiao would say these words. Back then, he couldn't understand why he could be both affectionate towards him while favoring Wu Yin. Now he understood, because he was just a plaything for his amusement until he got bored and discarded him. For a toy like himself, he certainly wasn't worth the other's sincere attention. He had once believed in him so much, had expectations, but that was all in the past. Fan Jin told Yi Yuxiao that whatever he could offer now, he didn't want any of it. After speaking, he walked past him towards the door. Yi Yuxiao panicked. Fan Jin didn't want anything from him. What could he do to keep him? He couldn't accept their relationship ending like this. Thinking this, he grabbed Fan Jin back, threw him heavily onto the sofa. Looking at the person looming over him, Fan Jin anxiously demanded to know what he was doing. Yi Yuxiao said sadly. He had thought it was just play too, but now his mind was full of him, so he couldn't leave so irresponsibly. After speaking, he leaned down to kiss the lips of the person beneath him. Fan Jin watched all this with wide eyes. Then he raised his hand forcefully and slapped Yi Yuxiao's face. He sternly rebuked him to wake up and not make him despise him even more. But Yi Yuxiao thought it was him who needed to wake up. He should think about how happy they were when they were together. After speaking, he pushed him down onto the sofa again. Fan Jin hurriedly asked what he was doing. Hearing his question, Yi Yuxiao said softly that he would make him remember the past, make him realize he couldn't leave him. Fan Jin struggled hard to break free, but Yi Yuxiao still managed to tear open his clothes. Seeing his hand reaching in, Fan Jin quickly told him to stop. He yelled at him to let go and cursed him as a beast. However, Yi Yuxiao had already lost his reason by this point. He caressed Fan Jin's chin, telling him to stop deceiving himself. He wanted to make him understand that only he knew him best and could make him happiest. Fan Jin realized that no matter how he tried to escape, the other kept reminding him that he had brought this upon himself, becoming a toy without dignity. Those people were right. He wasn't suited for the entertainment circle. Everything was his own doing. Perhaps his very existence was a mistake. Thinking this, tears began to flow. But Yi Yuxiao didn't notice. He only wanted to prove Fan Jin couldn't leave him. He didn't want him to find someone else. With this thought, he looked lovingly at the person beneath him. Only then did he notice the other's face was covered in tears. Seeing this, Yi Yuxiao suddenly came to his senses and quickly released his restraining hands. He didn't know what had come over him to do such an irrational thing. He quickly said he didn't want to force him. Fan Jin sat up, asking why he didn't continue. After all, he had provided resources just for his body, hadn't he? These words from Fan Jin's mouth pierced Yi Yuxiao's heart. He had given him resources because he wanted to make him happy. Hearing this, Fan Jin impatiently pushed him away, telling him to get lost, and saying just seeing him made him unhappy. Yi Yuxiao sadly asked if in his eyes, all his efforts were worthless. But Fan Jin felt someone like him didn't understand true effort, telling him to take his charity elsewhere, just like before. Yi Yuxiao sadly covered his mouth, accusing Fan Jin of being cruel, knowing how to reject him in the most hurtful way. Then he stubbornly admitted that this was indeed how he had always lived. Seeing the other fix his clothes and walk away without looking back, Yi Yuxiao hurriedly asked if they could start over. If he truly treated him well, would they still end up breaking up? But Fan Jin turned back and told him if they could start over. He wished he had never met him. After speaking, he slammed the door and left. Looking in the direction Fan Jin had gone, Yi Yuxiao painfully covered his face. He had promised not to leave him. What a liar. Meanwhile, Wu Yin found Director Chun. Her obedience pleased Director Chun, who promised to look after her more in the future. Hearing this, Wu Yin reached out flirtatiously, saying she had a favor to ask right now. Director Chen seized her hand, happily saying he didn't dislike straightforward children. Wu Yin told him about a troublesome senior named Fan Jin, saying she knew about his family background. Seeing Wu Yin had leverage over Fan Jin, and remembering the trouble Fan Jin and Yi Yuxiao had caused, Director Chen wanted to use Wu Yin for revenge. So he suggested they talk somewhere else. Wu Yin agreed verbally, but thought to herself that it wasn't clear who was using whom. 2 days later, Fan Jin's father came to visit. Fan Jin was curious about why his father had come, but his father said he just came to see him and held up what he brought, telling Fan Jin these were vegetables and meat for him. Wu Yin, watching from a distance, saw things progressing smoothly and smirked, saying the next game was about to begin. Fan Jin felt something was off about his father's behavior. He pushed away what his father brought and told him to stop beating around the bush. Sure enough, his father started asking for money, saying the shop had some financial problems and he couldn't repay the high-interest loans. Fan Jin turned away, saying he had no money. This angered his father, who loudly asked if he was going to abandon him like his mother did. Unknown to them, paparazzi nearby captured everything, happily planning to write a viral article. Seeing his father shouting outside to avoid disturbing neighbors, he had to let him come upstairs. Once inside, his father said he wanted to stay here to avoid debt collectors. Fan Jin stopped him from entering rooms randomly. He told him he only let him up to explain that he had his own career and financial issues. He had no money to give. Seeing Fan Jin refusing to be his ATM, his father grabbed his shoulders and cursed, asking if he was rebelling. Just as Fan Jin realized something was wrong with his father's mental state, he was pushed down. His father said someone had told him about Fan Jin's activities. Then his father asked how long he had been sleeping with that boss he met last time. With that, his father slapped Fan Jin's face, saying this explained why the boss was so generous with money. Then his father grabbed Fan Jin's throat, cursing him as a beast who made money from sleeping around but wouldn't share with him. Fan Jin couldn't breathe. But his father, as if possessed, said if Fan Jin wanted to drive him to death, he wouldn't let Fan Jin live well either. Unable to breathe, Fan Jin felt terrible pain. He wondered if anyone would care if he died here. How pathetic. He struggled to reach for the table, finding a family photo. He smashed it against his father's head. As his father loosened his grip, Fan Jin threatened to call the police if he didn't leave. His father became scared but said he would return. Finally safe, Fan Jin's hands wouldn't stop shaking. Looking at the photo in his hands, he covered his face and cried, not understanding why everyone treated him this way. He couldn't figure out what he had done wrong. Meanwhile, Yi Yuxiao was drinking with friends at a bar. Someone beside him held his arm, trying to feed him an apple flirtatiously, but he ignored them. The person could only watch him awkwardly. Seeing this, friends pushed away the beauty approaching Fan Jin's mouth, wondering if he was still thinking about his ex-star. They asked Zheng Yu if Yi Yuxiao and Fan Jin were just playing around, but Zheng Yu just wanted to stay low profile. He originally thought it wasn't a big deal, but seeing Yi Yuxiao's depression, he realized this time was different. However, the beauty nearby persisted, hugging Yi Yuxiao and acting cute, hoping he would notice. Hearing them call him Yu Xiao, he suddenly remembered how Fan Jin used to call him, feeling the pain in his heart again. He pushed the person away, but they crashed into others. An angry man grabbed Yi Yuxiao's collar, saying his clothes were dirty and asking how he would compensate. But Yi Yuxiao just told him to get lost, saying he wasn't in the mood to deal with him. This angered the man, who threatened to teach him a lesson and punched him in the face. Seeing everyone wanting to teach him a lesson, thinking he ruined everything, Yi Yuxiao laughed. Since everyone thought he was beyond help, he'd show them just how beyond help he could be, then kicked the man away. Seeing the situation out of control, Zheng Yu quickly called Fan Jin, telling him Yi Yuxiao was in bad shape and hoping he'd come. Before he could finish, Fan Jin stated he had no relationship with Yi Yuxiao anymore and shouldn't be contacted about his matters. Zheng Yu could only step forward himself to comfort Yi Yuxiao. After hanging up, Fan Jin lay restlessly on the couch. Just then, the doorbell rang. He got up to open the door. It was the police. After showing their badges, they asked Fan Jin to cooperate with their investigation. At this moment, Fan Jin still didn't understand what had happened. Early the next morning, Zheng Yu anxiously knocked on Yi Yuxiao's door. After opening the door and seeing Zheng Yu, Yi Yuxiao was puzzled and asked why he came. Walking inside with Yi Yuxiao, Zheng Yu joked he came to collect his corpse and complained about the alcohol smell. Just as he was about to ask if he wanted to drown himself in alcohol, Yi Yuxiao told him to get to the point. If there's nothing, leave quickly. Zheng Yu then remembered his purpose. After asking him to stay calm, Zheng Yu told him something happened to Fan Jin. Hearing this, Yi Yuxiao immediately became anxious, grabbing him to explain clearly. Zheng Yu said Fan Jin's father was dead, just pulled from the river last night. The police hadn't made final conclusions, but because someone photographed their argument before the incident and public opinion suggested Fan Jin was the killer, he was taken by the police. Hearing this, Yi Yuxiao couldn't sit still and wanted to go to the police station. Zheng Yu told him not to be impulsive. Yi Yuxiao knew there must be a misunderstanding, that Fan Jin's father must have done something. He wanted to understand clearly. But Zheng Yu told him going wouldn't help, and with the situation escalated, he couldn't see him anyway. Better to wait for police investigation. He reminded him to watch the public opinion, as ignoring it would truly harm Fan Jin. Although Yi Yuxiao was nearly going crazy, with nothing more important than seeing Fan Jin, he knew Zheng Yu was right. Thinking of this, he said he would immediately send people to investigate the source of the negative news, and asked Zheng Yu to accompany him to the company later. He asked Xiao Lu to check Dong Yan's recent movements. Seeing Yi Yuxiao's emotional fluctuations, Zheng Yu wasn't sure if this was good or bad. Scene changes to the police station. Police told Fan Jin the situation was confirmed, but some verification procedures remained, requiring him to stay for 24 hours. The police had never seen someone so calm when their father died, finding it scary. Another officer agreed. They said celebrities' coldness and chaotic family relationships were incomprehensible to normal people. Fan Jin listened silently. Meanwhile, Zheng Yu complained in the office about how gossip accounts unethically exposed all of Fan Jin's privacy. Seeing about Fan Jin's parents' divorce, father's gambling, mother's abandonment. Zheng Yu didn't know how young Fan Jin was when he started earning for his family. He thought Fan Jin was just proud, not from such a family. Zheng Yu thought he had it tough, but felt in some way his father no longer bothering him might be good. But Yi Yuxiao said he didn't understand how Fan Jin treasured relationships. The photo and amulet by his bed proved it. Even if he didn't show it, he must be devastated. Fan Jin sat alone in jail waiting. At this time, his hands wouldn't stop shaking, even when he tried to press them down. Helpless, he could only cry silently. Meanwhile, Zheng Yu realized Fan Jin seemed cold, but was actually very kind. He told Yi Yuxiao about last time when drunk, how Fan Jin came to pick him up despite risking being discovered at the bar. He went without hesitation or complaint. Yi Yuxiao didn't respond, making Zheng Yu wonder if he said something wrong again. But Yi Yuxiao thought about how Fan Jin had no one to rely on since childhood. No wonder he grew up only wanting to be self-reliant, never complaining even when hitting walls and bleeding. But for a bet, he had forcibly opened his heart. Thinking about it now, he had no idea how Fan Jin had mustered the courage to take that step back then. Yet he had trampled all over his sincerity and trust. Thinking of this, Yi Yuxiao covered his face in frustration, wondering what he had done. At this moment, his assistant told him they had found some information. These two waves of public opinion were indeed related to Director Chun from Dongyan. He also found their recent transaction records. Just as Yi Yuxiao said, he wouldn't easily let Dongyan go. Zheng Yu exclaimed at seeing Wu Yin with Director Chun in the photos. Yi Yuxiao, not immediately understanding, asked Zheng Yu who he saw. The police told Fan Jin that his father had taken illegal drugs before death and drowned accidentally due to excessive drinking. So he could now leave the police station to handle the aftermath. Hearing this, Fan Jin suppressed his grief. He quietly thanked the police. Just as he walked out, his assistant, who had been waiting, rushed over. Unable to meet earlier, he had been extremely worried. Fan Jin asked about the situation outside. The assistant said police ruled it an accident. Some people sympathized with him, while others criticized him, then asked if he was okay. Actually, Fan Jin wasn't afraid of this situation, but at this moment, he was still lost in the past. Thinking of Yi Yuxiao's past lies about protecting and caring for him, it seemed so ridiculous now. Fan Jin knew he would face continuous troubles, so he wanted to help his assistant find work with other artists. Hearing this, the assistant immediately hugged him, saying he had too many flaws and begged not to be sent away. Feeling the assistant's comfort and warmth, Fan Jin felt this was enough and expressed his gratitude. Meanwhile, Wu Yin looked at the photos Yi Yuxiao showed him, asking if he thought he was involved in defaming Fan Jin. Yi Yuxiao told Wu Yin they would know once they found the reporter who had staked out Fan Jin's home that day. Seeing Yi Yuxiao determined to investigate thoroughly, Wu Yin stopped hiding. He threw out the photos in his hand, saying even heaven was on his side. Even if Fan Jin proved his innocence in his father's death, no one would want to work with him anymore. Originally, Yu Xiao had hoped he was wrong about Wu Yin, but now he discovered it was really his doing. Perhaps this was how betrayal by someone trusted felt. Back then, Fan Jin must have felt even more pain than he did now. Thinking of everything Fan Jin had endured, he knocked Wu Yin to the ground with one punch. Grabbing his collar, he demanded to know why. It was really him. Why did he frame Fan Jin like this? Seeing the playboy show such a tense expression, Wu Yin found it laughable, and he dared ask why. If he had only treated Fan Jin as a plaything, he might have used just ordinary competitive tactics. But since he developed real feelings and chose Fan Jin over him, there was no point discussing it now. Better to talk about something pleasant. When Wu Yin mentioned the film crew, Yu Xiao demanded to know what else he had done. Wu Yin told him. He had simply told many stories about their past. He wanted to show him who his beloved person cared about more. Hearing this, Yu Xiao understood everything. Wu Yin was the instigator who had been driving a wedge between them. But Wu Yin retorted, asking so what? It was all his own choice initially. Realizing he had done so many things with Wu Yin to hurt Fan Jin, no wonder Fan Jin left so decisively. Yu Xiao really didn't know what he could do to make up for the wrongs he had done. However, Wu Yin said they were accomplices. Someone as proud as Fan Jin would never forgive him. He knew Yu Xiao wouldn't let him off, but though he lost, the other side hadn't won either. Then Wu Yin asked Yu Xiao to guess. When Fan Jin discovers this was his doing, would Yu Xiao be able to clear himself of involvement? Meanwhile, Fan Jin realized that being photographed by paparazzi downstairs that day wasn't coincidental. His father also said someone had deliberately disclosed his past. Fan Jin knew it wasn't hard to guess who. Both incidents were caused by the same person, who not only knew about his falling out with Yu Xiao, but also had the motive. Thinking how Wu Yin and Yu Xiao's appearance had turned his life into a nightmare, it was time to wake up. He told his assistant that unless he gave up, no one could break him. He would definitely take back everything that belonged to him. From now on, he had nothing left to lose and would never rely on anyone again. The scene changes. Yu Xiao was confronting Director Chen, who hoped he would quit while ahead. Yu Xiao retorted, asking why he didn't know about quitting while ahead when he was smearing Fan Jin. However, he said he would give Director Chen some leeway, as he wanted to play this game slowly. Seeing his ruthlessness for Fan Jin's sake, Director Chen warned him about exposing his weakness. Hearing this, Yu Xiao advised him not to do anything he would regret. Director Chen laughed, saying celebrities were pitiful, having no privacy, everyone knowing where they lived, making it convenient to invite them. Just then, someone knocked on the door. Director Chen arrogantly said, "Speak of the devil." But the next second, his subordinate came in with a swollen face, crying that they had brought the person. Director Chen angrily asked how catching one person left them in such a state. Then Fan Jin walked in, criticizing Director Chen's invitation methods. The subordinates had followed orders to ambush him in the parking lot, but Fan Jin had easily subdued them all. Fan Jin knew being harassed like this wasn't sustainable. Better to solve all problems at once. The subordinates had thought Fan Jin was weak, not knowing he had learned martial arts for his roles. In the end, Fan Jin voluntarily let them bring him to Director Chen. Looking at him, Yu Xiao noticed he had lost more weight. Lately, he hadn't dared even dream of quietly watching him like this, but Fan Jin wouldn't even spare him a glance. Fan Jin told Director Chen not to think him an easy target, always causing trouble and threatening him, giving him too much credit. Then he asked if Director Chen didn't know about his breakup with Yu Xiao or about the recent news. Fan Jin fiercely warned him that he had nothing to lose. Don't push him too far. Even if it meant death, he would make it quick. Director Chen now realized neither Fan Jin nor Yu Xiao were pushovers. Then Fan Jin told him if he wanted mutual destruction, they could try it. Looking at him, Yu Xiao knew he had driven him to this point, so he couldn't let him suffer any more harm. With this thought, he stepped forward, shielding Fan Jin, telling him, with himself here, he wouldn't let him destroy himself with anyone. Fan Jin stared at him blankly. Yu Xiao domineeringly warned Director Chen not to touch Fan Jin again, or he couldn't afford the consequences. Fan Jin found this scene too familiar. He had fallen for this before, only to find it was just a means to gain his trust. If this was another carefully prepared performance, what more did he want from him? Seeing Yu Xiao's seriousness, Director Chen quickly explained he just wanted to invite them both for dinner and chat. However, Yi Yuxiao didn't buy it, saying he didn't deserve Director Chen's hospitality and left with Fan Jin. Watching them leave, the subordinates were reluctant to let them go, but Director Chen was wary of the Yi family's power. But thinking that letting Yi Yuxiao have his way would damage his reputation in the industry, Director Chen decided to teach him a lesson. Yi Yuxiao told Fan Jin to get in the car and leave first, assuring him not to worry about Director Chen, saying he would never bother him again. Although Fan Jin knew he shouldn't care, he had a bad feeling, so he still asked what Yi Yuxiao planned to do. Yi Yuxiao told him through the car window that he had some business to attend to, and asked if Fan Jin was worried about him. Then he asked him to say something, even if it was just to deceive himself. Hearing this, Fan Jin clenched his fists, but in the end, he only told him to stop being presumptuous. Yi Yuxiao knew Fan Jin had a soft heart despite his harsh words, always worrying about others. But Fan Jin asked if it was easy to toy with someone like him. He felt this pain would keep him clear-headed, seeing he couldn't let go of this matter. Yi Yuxiao leaned on the car window and asked if it was because he still had feelings for him. Fan Jin ignored him and told his assistant to drive. The assistant, having heard this shocking secret, wondered if he would live to see tomorrow. Watching Fan Jin leave, Yi Yuxiao knew what he had to do. He couldn't let him get hurt again. If only he could have a little more time. But he didn't know he was already being targeted. Seeing Yi Yuxiao leave, Director Chen's men quickly followed. However, at a corner, they suddenly lost sight of Yi Yuxiao. As they were searching around, he suddenly jumped down from the wall. Seeing Yi Yuxiao appear, the men told him he wouldn't escape easily today. Yi Yuxiao laughed as if hearing a joke, wondering who really wouldn't be able to leave today. Meanwhile, Fan Jin was restless in the car, worried Yi Yuxiao might get into trouble with Director Chen. The assistant told him to rest at home, saying he couldn't believe Director Chen was so crazy to act like this in broad daylight. After thinking, Fan Jin decided to call Zheng Yuan to help Yi Yuxiao. Clearly, Zheng Yu hadn't expected Fan Jin's call. Fan Jin told him to keep his friend in check, not to cause trouble. He hung up immediately, consoling himself that he just didn't want to owe Yi Yuxiao any favors. At this time, Director Chen was still daydreaming, waiting for Yi Yuxiao to yield, confident in his men's fighting abilities. Just then, Yi Yuxiao said from outside that he thought the same. This stunned Director Chen. When the door opened, Yi Yuxiao walked in restraining one of Director Chen's men. Seeing his shocked expression, Yi Yuxiao asked if he couldn't figure out why he came back. He kindly advised him that when choosing subordinates, don't just look at their background, but also their loyalty. He only needed to bend their fingers to learn where Director Chen's illegal assets were hidden. Then, Yi Yuxiao patted his face, asking for the password. Director Chen said he would never tell, even if he died. Hearing this, Yi Yuxiao smiled wickedly. He then pushed Director Chen against the window, threatening to let him die. The frightened man asked if he was crazy, but Yi Yuxiao told him not to worry. Everyone would think it was suicide due to guilt. Knowing he wouldn't stop until he got what he wanted, Director Chen had no choice but to reveal his safe's password, begging to be spared. Although thinking about what Director Chen did to Fan Jin, Yi Yuxiao wanted to kill him, but he couldn't do it, because he knew Fan Jin wouldn't want him to do that. So he thought Director Chen should be grateful now, as he had many things to do and didn't want extra trouble. Originally, Yi Yuxiao planned to deal with Director Chen slowly, but didn't expect him to target Fan Jin. As the safe opened, he knew he couldn't let Director Chen live anymore. Suddenly, Director Chen shouted his name and charged at him, yelling for Yi Yuxiao to go to hell, while stabbing a knife into his abdomen. As he tried to push the knife deeper, Yi Yuxiao raised his arm and struck him down with a heavy blow, knocking Director Chen unconscious on the ground. Severely wounded, Yi Yuxiao stumbled out while holding his wound. Meanwhile, Zhong Siyuan met Fan Jin at a cafe, asking if his mood had improved since they last met. Fan Jin calmly told her that everything would pass, and thanked the Linghu Chuan crew for their support. Zhong Siyuan said it was nothing. She contacted everyone she could in the crew except Wu Yan, who seemed to have suddenly left the industry. Fan Jin was shocked too, wondering how someone as ambitious as Wu Yan would suddenly quit. Could Yi Yuxiao have done something? He suddenly remembered Director Chen and Yi Yuxiao's situation, wondering if Zheng Yu had helped. Actually, Zhong Siyuan met him today, not just to check on him, but also to ask a question. When Fan Jin asked, Zhong Siyuan directly asked if he considered changing work environments. She had started a company with friends, though not as established as Xingyu, but focusing on big screen projects could benefit his career transition. If he wanted a change of pace, this would be a good opportunity. However, Fan Jin hadn't considered leaving Xingyu before this. Zhong Siyuan told him to think it over, saying she had to leave for a meeting, but he could contact her anytime if needed. Fan Jin knew that although Zhong Siyuan repeatedly offered help, he couldn't shamelessly think only of himself. In the current situation, he couldn't repay her favor soon. Besides, it would mean completely cutting ties with Yi Yuxiao. Just then, his phone on the table rang. It was Yi Yuxiao. As soon as he answered, he said he missed him. Seeing Yi Yuxiao was fine, Fan Jin wanted to hang up, quickly saying he was at the hospital. Hearing this, Fan Jin stood up in shock. Soon, he rushed to the hospital where Yi Yuxiao was. Seeing him in hospital clothes, holding his wound while greeting him. When Yi Yuxiao said he wanted water, Fan Jin quickly supported him, telling him to lie down properly, and helped him walk to the bed. Yi Yuxiao couldn't believe Fan Jin really came, thinking he was dreaming when he saw him. Then Yi Yuxiao asked if he had asked Zhengyu to help. After getting a confirmation, Yi Yuxiao knew Fan Jin wouldn't abandon him. Fan Jin told him to let go so he could get water, but Yi Yuxiao thought seeing him was more important than drinking water. Fan Jin told him to stop fooling around. While pouring water, he asked how he got hurt. Yi Yuxiao casually emphasized he didn't lose, proudly saying the evidence he got was enough to keep Director Chen in prison for a long time. But Fan Jin knew that although he made light of it, knowing both of them, the situation must have been very dangerous. But Yi Yuxiao felt it was nothing, saying he'd rather have wounds 100 times worse than let Fan Jin be used as a hostage again. Fan Jin handed him the water, telling him not to say such unlucky things, and asked what the doctor said. Hearing this, Yi Yuxiao held his hand and told him that the doctor said he would recover faster if Fan Jin came to see him. Looking at the person acting coy before him, Fan Jin helplessly said that he was already here. This simple sentence deeply moved Yi Yuxiao, as it had been a long time since Fan Jin spoke to him so calmly. He wondered if this meant Fan Jin was willing to give him another chance. Yi Yuxiao asked Fan Jin to sit beside him, and this moment together made Fan Jin recall all their past happiness. The person before him had risked everything and even got hospitalized for his sake. It would be a lie to say his heart wasn't moved. At this moment, Yi Yuxiao pitifully said the doctor gave him a long list of foods to avoid, asking if they could go eat something good together after he was discharged. At this instant, Fan Jin wished there had never been any deception, wished time would stop. But what happened couldn't be undone. Thinking this, he decided to be clear with Yi Yuxiao, but the other thought they were of one mind, as he also had something to say. Yi Yuxiao knew he had done many things that wronged him before. Now he wanted to seriously ask for another chance. Then, Yi Yuxiao looked expectantly at Fan Jin, asking if they could start over. Seeing Fan Jin silently push him away, Yi Yuxiao began to feel uneasy. Sure enough, the next moment Fan Jin told him that because he helped resolve the Director Chen situation, their grievances were now settled. Hearing this, Yi Yuxiao was stunned. He didn't understand what settled meant. Seeing his confusion, Fan Jin told him his contract would expire in 3 months. He didn't plan to renew his contract with the company. Seeing Fan Jin's determination, Yi Yuxiao hugged him, saying he didn't agree. He didn't understand why Fan Jin was doing this. Was it that even after doing so much, Fan Jin still didn't trust him, still thought he was acting? Fan Jin knew no one would joke with their life, which made Yi Yuxiao even more confused about his reasons for leaving. Fan Jin softly told him that he was very tired. He had always been proud and wanted to prove himself, but lost even more. So he wanted to rest first, then plan for the future. Yi Yuxiao knew he had wronged him and swore he would doubly compensate for Fan Jin's losses, would respect him, protect him, not do things that would upset him, give him a future, just asking for one chance. However, Fan Jin just gently pushed him away. He knew that perhaps Yi Yuxiao was speaking from his heart right now, but he didn't want to try anymore. Seeing him stand up, Yi Yuxiao quickly asked if he didn't love him anymore. These words deeply pained Fan Jin's heart. Just then, the phone in his pocket rang. Zhong Siyuan told him he left his code at the coffee shop, and since the shop owner had her number, she was passing along the message. After hearing Zhong Siyuan's call, he quickly thanked her and said he would return to the shop later. Suddenly, Yi Yuxiao snatched the phone from his hand. Thinking about how these two had met multiple times without his knowledge, he warned Zhong Siyuan not to cross his bottom line again. Fan Jin immediately questioned what he was doing and told him to return the phone. But Yi Yuxiao had already hung up and asked Fan Jin what they discussed. Not renewing the contract. Was it to go to Zhong Siyuan? Fan Jin grabbed back the phone, saying it was none of his business. But Yi Yuxiao thought Zhong Siyuan was taking advantage of their conflict, trying to steal Fan Jin away. Yi Yuxiao thought Fan Jin was moved by her, and all those excuses were just to go to Zhong Siyuan's side. Hearing Yi Yuxiao misunderstand him like this, Fan Jin raised his hand and slapped him hard across the face. This slap shattered Yi Yuxiao's heart. Fan Jin actually treated him like this because of Zhong Siyuan. But Fan Jin told him it had nothing to do with others. It was because he always presumed to understand him while claiming to respect him. After saying this, he told Yi Yuxiao to take care and turned to leave. Watching Fan Jin's back, Yi Yuxiao hurriedly tried to stop him. His sudden movement caused his wound to reopen. The pain made him collapse to the ground. Seeing this, Fan Jin quickly turned back to support him and prepared to call a doctor. But Yi Yuxiao told him not to go, saying since he was going to someone else anyway, why should he care if he lived or died? Seeing him still speaking spitefully at this moment, Fan Jin was too angry to know what to say, only telling him not to be so childish. Yi Yuxiao didn't understand. He had changed so much, yet was still called childish, and every attempt to reconcile only pushed them further apart. Fan Jin didn't know why either, but he knew that if he wanted change, they needed to cut ties. So he begged him to let him leave Yi Yuxiao. After thinking for a moment, he said that even without renewing the contract, there were still 3 months left. Hearing this, Fan Jin asked what he wanted to do now. Yi Yuxiao held his face and told him, since he said they were even, they could pretend their previous relationship never existed. Then Yi Yuxiao announced he would start pursuing him again, asking Fan Jin to open his heart once more, betting on these last 3 months. Since parting with Yi Yuxiao at the hospital, Fan Jin truly began living his own life. As days passed, he knew time was like flowing water, eventually washing everything away. And no matter what, he wouldn't be the one standing still. Yi Yuxiao would send him messages every day, maintaining his presence. That day, in his sleep, Fan Jin heard Yi Yuxiao calling his name. After waking up, he wondered why he was still dreaming about him, even now. However, when he became fully awake and saw the person before him, he realized it wasn't a dream. He quickly sat up and asked Yi Yuxiao why he was here. The other told him that as soon as the doctor approved his discharge, he came straight to find him. Then Yi Yuxiao picked up Fan Jin, wanting to help him get up, which frightened Fan Jin, who repeatedly asked what he was doing and told him to put him down. Seeing Fan Jin struggle, Yi Yuxiao told him his wound hadn't fully healed, and if he used too much force, he would have to return to the hospital. Hearing this, Fan Jin immediately stopped struggling, but warned him that they had no relationship anymore. But Yi Yuxiao didn't mind and said with a smile, he just wanted to have breakfast with him, asking Fan Jin to treat him as an assistant. Don't be so guarded. Seeing him stare at the food on the table, Yi Yuxiao asked if he remembered how he used to like the wontons he made. After a silence, Fan Jin could only stubbornly shake his head and say he didn't remember. Then he said he didn't need him to do these things and asked him to return his house key. But Yi Yuxiao said for safety reasons, the company must have backup keys to artists' homes. Fan Jin felt he was using company business to pressure him. Seeing his misunderstanding, Yi Yuxiao quickly explained and promised that if he didn't like it, he would ask for permission before coming in the future. Then he changed the subject, asking him to eat breakfast first, saying it was his first time making vegetable pancakes, but he was confident they would be good. Fan Jin knew that Yi Yuxiao was deliberately trying to make him remember all those moments they shared together, waking up to see his lover's face, having ordinary breakfast together. He had once been full of hope for these things, but it had all shattered. Thinking of this, he picked up the plate from the table, right in front of Yi Yuxiao, and dumped all the food into the trash bin. After doing this, he turned to leave. Yi Yuxiao called out to him, but didn't know what to say. Fan Jin turned back and told him that sincerity doesn't always get rewarded. This was what he had taught him before. Then he asked him to leave. Hearing he was going out, Yi Yuxiao quickly asked where. Fan Jin coldly told him it was none of his business. However, Yi Yuxiao wondered if he was going to see Zhong Siyuan again. Seeing him being suspicious again, Fan Jin asked with a cold smile, so what if he was? Was he going to stop him? At this, Yi Yuxiao was speechless. He took several deep breaths to compose himself. Then he smiled and said he happened to be free today and could drive him there. He told Fan Jin he wouldn't give up over something this minor, telling him not to underestimate his determination. The scene changes. Zhong Siyuan saw Fan Jin arriving as agreed from a distance. He smiled happily, but then froze, because he saw Yi Yuxiao following behind Fan Jin. After they sat down, Fan Jin quickly apologized to Zhong Siyuan, but Yi Yuxiao said there was nothing to apologize for. Then he asked Zhong Siyuan if he was unwelcome. Zhong Siyuan said he wasn't unwelcome, and instead thanked him for bringing Fan Jin. Seeing Yi Yuxiao didn't respond, Zhong Siyuan told Fan Jin he had specially ordered a low-calorie cake for him to try. Hearing this, Fan Jin thanked him and was about to eat a piece. At this moment, Yi Yuxiao grabbed his hand, telling him to wait. Then he took the cake from Fan Jin's hand and put it in his own mouth. Fan Jin looked at him angrily, but Yi Yuxiao casually wiped his mouth and said the cake was delicious. Then he pointedly told Zhong Siyuan that although his taste was impeccable, he had beaten him to it. Zhong Siyuan didn't say anything in response, but Fan Jin angrily called out his name. Seeing him angry, Yi Yuxiao changed the subject, telling them to discuss work while he listened and learned. Seeing Yi Yuxiao like this, Fan Jin felt his self-centered nature would never change. Then Zhong Siyuan said he had added some ideas to the script they discussed last time and wanted his opinion. Fan Jin was also eager to discuss this. But before he could get the script, Yi Yuxiao snatched it, saying as the boss, he needed to be involved in his artist's development. After pretending to flip through a few pages, he told Zhong Siyuan they needed to think this through and couldn't confirm cooperation yet. Fan Jin knew he couldn't have read anything in those few seconds. He angrily asked if he came just to cause trouble. But Yi Yuxiao said he wasn't that kind of person and told him the script only had the first 5 episodes, which was risky. Then he held Fan Jin's hand and told him anything related to him needed to be handled with extreme caution. Although Fan Jin knew he was right, he didn't want to be led by the nose anymore, so he said he trusted Zhong Siyuan. Zhong Siyuan told him Yi Yuxiao had a point, so he should wait until he had the complete script before deciding. Then Zhong Siyuan picked up his coffee and said, whether it's about projects or people, or if they're interconnected, it takes time to see the full picture and know if it's right for oneself. Obviously, these words were meant to warn Yi Yuxiao. As their eyes met, Yi Yuxiao's phone rang. His assistant informed him that the chairman was coming to the company. Yi Yuxiao was shocked by his father's sudden visit. The assistant explained it was because of the recent conflict with Hezhong Media that had escalated too much. The chairman might have heard about it and was currently reviewing this quarter's report. He wanted Yi Yuxiao to return to the company immediately. After hanging up, Yi Yuxiao knew he couldn't escape his father's scrutiny this time. But why did it have to be now? Zhong Siyuan asked if there was company business. He could only say it was unfortunate timing and excused himself. He left hurriedly. Watching him leave, Fan Jin had expected him to make a fuss, but he just left looking troubled. Zhong Siyuan assured him it was just Yi Yuxiao's father's routine inspection. Fan Jin quickly explained he wasn't worried, then apologized again for today's unpleasant meeting, saying he should have firmly refused Yi Yuxiao's company. But Zhong Siyuan knew that with Yi Yuxiao's personality, he would have come anyway despite Fan Jin's objections. Then he asked Fan Jin if Yi Yuxiao was still pursuing him. Fan Jin felt helpless, saying the other was just unwilling to give up and apologize for involving Zhong Siyuan. Hearing about Yi Yuxiao's misunderstanding about his relationship with Fan Jin, Zhong Siyuan said no apology was necessary. He made a suggestion. Since Yi Yuxiao already misunderstood, why not go along with it? Leaving the coffee shop, Fan Jin asked Zhong Siyuan what he meant by going along with it. He explained that since Yi Yuxiao misunderstood, they could deliberately deepen the misunderstanding to make him give up. Fan Jin knew this meant using Zhong Siyuan, but the latter just held his shoulder and guided him to walk on the inner side of the sidewalk. Although Zhong Siyuan was always considerate of Fan Jin, he still didn't want to burden him with his problems. Hearing this, Zhong Siyuan suggested a different perspective. He'd always been directing and creating stories for others, so being part of one himself could be interesting. But Fan Jin couldn't see what was interesting about it. Zhong Siyuan told him not to overthink it and showed him a leaf he'd just removed from Fan Jin's hair. He said for him, this kind of help was as simple as lifting a finger. Fan Jin expressed his gratitude, but still hoped to resolve his issues with Yi Yuxiao by himself. Zhong Siyuan told him it was just a suggestion, no pressure, and he'd help if Fan Jin needed other options. Hearing this, Fan Jin happily said he would remember that. Scene changes. At the company, his father was very displeased learning that Yi Yuxiao had been outmaneuvered by He Zhong to protect his artist. But Yi Yuxiao felt there was nothing wrong since the artist's reputation affected the company, and they gained He Zhong's resources. His father angrily slammed the documents on the table, calling him naive. Though Yi Yuxiao won this time, competitors would be wary despite their congratulations, fearing they might end up like He Zhong. His father felt if Yi Yuxiao couldn't understand basic long-term planning, he shouldn't manage the company. Yi Yuxiao quickly assured him the company wouldn't lose power under his control and asked his father to wait for results. Hearing his promise, his father stood up satisfied, patted his shoulder, approved of his ambition, and said he would wait and see. Before leaving, his father instructed the assistant to regularly report all company activities to him. Afterward, the assistant handed Ling Hu Chuan's promotional schedule to Yi Yuxiao. He knew he had little power left to protect Fan Jin. When he saw how much overlap there was between Fan Jin and Zhong Siyuan's schedules, he angrily threw the report at his assistant. The assistant quickly explained that the creative team usually attends events together for better promotional effects. However, Yi Yuxiao wouldn't listen and ordered him to separate their schedules completely. The assistant could only agree, realizing he had already upset Fan Jin today. Interfering with his schedule would only make him angrier. He could only tell his assistant. A voice asked him what to do, suggesting that if the two traveled together during such a long promotion period, who knows what might happen. Yi Yuxiao quickly told it to stop, but the voice told him that the two were already perfectly in sync, and after the promotion, there would be no room for him. Yi Yuxiao angrily swept everything off the desk and shouted at the voice to shut up. Seeing his outburst, the assistant quickly asked if he was okay or feeling unwell somewhere. Yi Yuxiao told him to keep the original schedule for Zhong Siyuan and Fan Jin and asked the assistant to leave. Then, Yi Yuxiao punched the desk. He took out his phone to call Fan Jin, but hesitated at the moment of dialing. He wanted to hear his voice but feared cold responses. He wondered if everything he was doing now had any meaning. A week later, Fan Jin appeared at the airport with his luggage. He anxiously checked his phone. It was almost check-in time, but where was his assistant? Suddenly, someone behind him asked if he was waiting for his assistant. He turned around to find Yi Yuxiao standing there with his luggage. He wondered why he was there. Yi Yuxiao happily told him the assistant wouldn't come, but he would accompany him on this business trip as his assistant. He moved closer, smiling, telling Fan Jin not to worry and that he would take good care of him. Fan Jin was speechless. Fan Jin told him to stop such boring jokes, saying he had an assistant and reached for his phone. Yi Yuxiao told him the assistant was on paid leave, adding he wouldn't mind making it permanent. Fan Jin asked if he was threatening him. Hearing this, Yi Yuxiao quickly explained, saying he had no other choice. Fan Jin told him forcing things would only backfire, then turned to leave, silently warning himself not to soften or repeat past mistakes. Yi Yuxiao grabbed him, asking what he should do, saying he couldn't just watch 3 months pass and Fan Jin leave the company. He begged him to stay, even if just as charity, to give him something to hold on to. Seeing him like this, Fan Jin didn't know what to say. As Yi Yuxiao disappointedly let go, Fan Jin coldly told him if he insisted on wasting effort, so be it. Pleased that he could stay, Yi Yuxiao smiled, saying he was willing to waste the effort. He promised to serve Fan Jin well and act as his bodyguard, keeping ill-intentioned people away. When Fan Jin called him President Yi, he grabbed him again, insisting he was now an assistant and should call him Brother Jing instead. The nickname made Fan Jin shudder. He walked away with his luggage, warning Yi Yuxiao never to call him that again. Though he couldn't see Fan Jin's expression, Yi Yuxiao could imagine his cute reaction. He wanted to make sure only he could see this side of Fan Jin. After the plane landed, the hotel manager assured them the schedule would be kept confidential and showed them the dinner menu. Yi Yuxiao pointed to the amaranth on the menu, explaining Fan Jin was allergic to it. He also requested removing the last 2 high-calorie items and asked about late-night snacks since the recording would end late the day after tomorrow. Seeing him get into character so quickly, Fan Jin wasn't sure if it was good or bad. The manager initially thought Yi Yuxiao was also a celebrity and complimented his looks. Hearing this, he acted modest. He turned to look proudly at Fan Jin. Seeing his proud expression, Fan Jin thought his face was his only redeeming quality. After the manager left, Yi Yuxiao proudly asked Fan Jin how he did. Fan Jin played along, saying it was a waste he wasn't an actor. Hearing the praise, Yi Yuxiao quickly stopped him, saying he wasn't just putting on an act. He felt being an assistant taking care of Fan Jin would make him happier than being a boss. Fan Jin didn't believe any of it and asked if he was done with his speech, pushing him away. Yi Yuxiao asked if he really didn't believe what he said. Fan Jin, while opening the door, said he knew better. Seeing Yi Yuxiao trying to follow him in, Fan Jin quickly blocked him. Seeing he wasn't allowed in, Yi Yuxiao confusedly asked if they weren't supposed to share a room with the assistant. Fan Jin told him that was true, but with his assistant, not with him. Hearing this, Yi Yuxiao froze on the spot and asked where he would stay. Fan Jin told him since he got along so well with the manager, solving the room issue shouldn't be difficult. But Yi Yuxiao thought Fan Jin must be jealous of his interaction with the manager. Seeing his narcissism, Fan Jin told him to take medicine for his delusions. Then he shut him out. Looking at the closed door, Yi Yuxiao knew the Fan Jin who used to care for and look after him was truly gone. Unknown to him, Fan Jin was also leaning against the door, begging Yi Yuxiao to let him go. Perhaps parting ways peacefully would be their best ending. At night, Fan Jin sat on the sofa reading the script, but his mind was full of thoughts about Yi Yuxiao. He felt he shouldn't have agreed to let him come along. Given his way of thinking, he worried about what he might do next. Just then, there was a knock on the door. Speak of the devil. Opening the door revealed Yi Yuxiao standing there with a towel, saying his room shower was broken and he needed help from a kind person tonight. Fearing Fan Jin wouldn't believe him, Yi Yuxiao quickly swore and said he could check his room to verify. Fan Jin, seeing through everything, asked if Yi Yuxiao knew that deliberately damaging hotel property required triple compensation. While taking off his clothes, Yi Yuxiao praised Fan Jin's kindness for not making him get a new room at the front desk. Fan Jin knew he would damage any room he was given. Being exposed, Yi Yuxiao could only pretend not to understand. Seeing Fan Jin still staring at him, Yi Yuxiao teased if he hadn't seen his beautiful body in too long. Fan Jin turned away embarrassed, exposing his routine and advising him to take his things early, not expecting him to deliver them. Sitting on the bed, Fan Jin warned himself not to be led by him again. He'd make him leave after showering. As shower sounds came from the bathroom, Fan Jin suddenly felt that since he entered the room, even the temperature and atmosphere had become strange. Thinking about how he would soon come out shirtless, shamelessly saying they had the same scent, Fan Jin felt a headache coming on. And he believed with Yi Yuxiao's personality, he would definitely be that shameless. Just then, the bathroom door opened, and sure enough, he came out wearing only a towel around his waist. Fan Jin, not wanting to face him, reflexively lay down pretending to sleep. He suddenly wondered why he was pretending to sleep. What if the other took advantage of the situation? Sure enough, Yi Yuxiao was behind him, getting closer and closer. As Fan Jin nervously broke into a cold sweat, he stopped near his ear, softly said goodnight, and then got up to leave. Until he closed the door and left, Fan Jin couldn't believe he actually left without doing anything. At the next day's rehearsal, Fan Jin repeatedly memorized the procedure and lyrics. He knew this was very important and couldn't make any mistakes. Then he heard people outside again, suspecting Yi Yuxiao was an invited artist. After hearing him say he was Fan Jin's assistant, they asked if he could help move stage props when free. Fan Jin was speechless seeing someone ask the mighty Xinyu CEO to move props. When Yi Yuxiao agreed, the young lady was overjoyed. Fan Jin was also surprised. Was he really planning to keep playing the role of assistant? Seeing Yi Yuxiao come in and greet him, Fan Jin felt he might have underestimated his determination this time. The director told Fan Jin to program flow, asking him to sing the Ling Hu Zhuan theme song first, with the interview in the next segment. After confirming Fan Jin's entire schedule, the director remarked that since he hadn't appeared in public for so long, everyone would be very excited to hear him. Fan Jin fell silent at these words. So much time had passed, so many things had happened. Now even standing on stage felt very unfamiliar. Looking at the empty studio, he wondered how people viewed him now. Fan Jin thought people would surely bring up the previous sleeping scandal, saying he had no works but plenty of news. Some would gossip about his family background and his father's cause of death. Was he really suitable to represent Ling Hu Zhuan's promotion? Fan Jin was so lost in thought, he didn't even hear the intro music pass. Yi Yuxiao, helping move props, saw this scene while the girl behind him was still discussing how to get his contact information. But Yi Yuxiao's eyes were full of worry as he watched the dazed Fan Jin. At this time, the director was correcting rehearsal positions. Fan Jin, coming to his senses, asked if he could have another chance. But the director said his condition wasn't good, though it was fine, he could just lip-sync later. When the director suggested lip-syncing, Fan Jin said it disrespected the audience. But the director said there wasn't enough time with more rehearsals ahead. Hearing this, Fan Jin worried that insisting on singing live would affect the whole show, but he couldn't accept lip-syncing. Just then, Yi Yuxiao patted his shoulder, stood in front of him, and smiled, telling the director Fan Jin could sing and asking if he could have one more rehearsal chance. Yi Yuxiao took out his phone and showed the director a video of Fan Jin practicing at home. The director thought it wasn't bad, but that video was clearly taken by the assistant, and Fan Jin didn't know why Yi Yuxiao had it. Yi Yuxiao told the director that Fan Jin cared so much about this performance. He even overpracticed and bought medicine for his throat inflammation. These were things only the assistant would know. But now wasn't the time to question these details. Fan Jin could only tell the director he wouldn't let the stage down. Yi Yuxiao also mentioned how serious it would be if audiences discovered lip-syncing nowadays. Fan Jin acknowledged his poor performance had put the director in a difficult position, but still begged for another chance. He also warned Yi Yuxiao not to interrupt. Seeing them both finish their coordinated speech, the director didn't know what to say and agreed they could do another run-through after others finished rehearsing. Having finally secured another chance, Fan Jin happily thanked him. Then he asked about the video, and Yi Yuxiao could only awkwardly say the assistant insisted on giving it to him. The frequently mentioned assistant must be sneezing constantly right now. Yi Yuxiao told Fan Jin not to mind, saying he was just maintaining Xingyu's excellent public image. Then he told Fan Jin he hadn't finished moving props and needed to help more. Fan Jin realized he had changed. Before leaving, Yi Yuxiao blew him a kiss, saying he believed in him. Previously, he only cared about himself, but now his words and actions were trying to consider Fan Jin's feelings. The show officially began. When it was Fan Jin's turn, he went on stage to sing the Ling Hujuan theme song, Remember the Youth. As the host finished speaking, Fan Jin took the microphone and stepped onto the stage. Among the many fans, Yi Yuxiao stood at the back, watching the stage and silently cheering for Fan Jin. Since he chose to be an artist, he must face everything bravely, whether praise or doubt. He couldn't escape. With these thoughts, Fan Jin confidently opened his eyes and began singing emotionally. His voice resonated throughout the entire venue. Looking at the radiant Fan Jin, Yi Yuxiao realized how foolish he'd been, only now discovering a truth that he had probably fallen for Fan Jin long ago. Whenever he appeared, he was like the brightest, most dazzling star in the world, making him want to hide him away. Although he was reluctant to see Fan Jin shine under everyone's attention, he wanted him to be happy even more. If this was what he wanted, then he'd help him reach an even higher stage. But when he heard fans shouting for Fan Jin to marry them, Yi Yuxiao thought it might be better to hide him away after all. After the show, the young lady from backstage came to exchange contact information with Yi Yuxiao. He refused without hesitation, saying his partner would be jealous. Yi Yuxiao said the more gifts and flowers the star receives, the more accomplished he feels as an assistant. Then he asked if Fan Jin was tired and mentioned that he had arranged for hot food at the hotel. Fan Jin invited him to eat together. Hearing this, Yi Yuxiao was shocked. Fan Jin thought it was normal, since he had been moving props for so long and must be hungry. Noticing his strange expression, Fan Jin asked what was wrong. Yi Yuxiao quickly turned his face away. He wasn't sure if this was his imagination, but he had to control his emotions to avoid frightening him. Seeing no response, Fan Jin leaned in to ask if he heard him. Looking at the person so close, Yi Yuxiao felt he couldn't hold back anymore. Since that was the case, he wouldn't hold back. With that thought, he leaned in and deeply kissed Fan Jin's lips. Fan Jin was stunned by the sudden kiss. After coming to his senses, he quickly pushed Yi Yuxiao away. Seeing his intense reaction, Yi Yuxiao thought he had frightened him. Fan Jin wiped his mouth and told him this behavior crossed the line. Yi Yuxiao quickly apologized, saying that although he tried hard to control himself, he couldn't help wanting to possess him whenever he showed any kindness. However, this one moment of greed made Fan Jin put up his defenses again. He had brought this upon himself. He held on to Fan Jin, promising never to do it again and begging him not to be angry. But Fan Jin wouldn't have it and forcefully pulled his arm away. Yi Yuxiao didn't dare to be presumptuous anymore, but he didn't know how long it would take for Fan Jin to open his heart to him again. Meanwhile, Fan Jin realized he had given him the wrong impression. He couldn't continue like this and needed to make him give up and leave early. Just then his phone rang. Fan Jin checked and saw a message from Zhong Siyuan saying he had arrived and tomorrow was the program recording. At the next day's recording site, when Fan Jin entered, Zhong Siyuan quickly greeted him. Fan Jin immediately noticed his changes today. Seeing his shocked expression, Zhong Siyuan asked if the new style didn't suit him. Fan Jin smiled and said it looked good, just that he'd never seen him in this style before. Hearing this, the other felt more at ease. Then he asked Fan Jin where Yi Yuxiao was, but he said he didn't want to come along. Zhong Siyuan said Yi Yuxiao was too willful, and his father even called to track his whereabouts. Hearing this, Fan Jin told him he would make sure Yi Yuxiao returned soon. However, Zhong Siyuan thought they should stop talking about him and discuss their matters instead. After saying this, he paused for a moment, then expressed that he was very satisfied with the arrangements for this process. Fan Jin suddenly felt that the person before him was in a very good mood today. Meanwhile, Yi Yuxiao was still knocking on Fan Jin's door, telling him that if he didn't open up, he would leave without him. The hotel manager was puzzled about why he was still there, since Fan Jin had already left, and he thought Yi Yuxiao had gone with him. Yi Yuxiao quickly checked his phone and discovered Fan Jin had left without saying goodbye. After confirming with the staff, he learned the recording had been moved up. It turned out Fan Jin deliberately didn't tell him because of last night's incident. The staff explained that they had to coordinate the schedules of both leads and the production company, so it was normal, and the recording had already begun. Hearing this, Yi Yuxiao angrily punched the wall. Even though they were just colleagues from the same company, even though he followed him inseparably to different cities, he still couldn't hold on to him. He deliberately avoided him, yet eagerly went to meet Zhong Siyuan. Would being with him make Fan Jin happier? Meanwhile, during the game segment, Fan Jin and Zhong Siyuan showed great chemistry. The host praised how good the two handsome men looked together. Then he mentioned having a curious question from the audience that he wanted to ask them both. Fan Jin suddenly had a feeling something was about to happen. Zhong Siyuan assured him not to worry. Then the host asked about rumors of Zhong Siyuan giving Fan Jin preferential treatment during the filming of Ling Hujuan, asking if they wanted to clarify. It was exactly as Fan Jin had predicted. Trouble was brewing. However, Zhong Siyuan admitted to the preferential treatment. Fan Jin nervously watched him, not knowing what he would say. The host became very excited after hearing this unexpected answer. Zhong Siyuan looked at Fan Jin and slowly explained his special treatment on set. It was allowing multiple takes when actors faced challenging scenes, letting them shoot until they were satisfied. Fan Jin added about shooting over 10 takes during good rainy scenes, to which the host commented that it seemed more like punishment. Thinking about the filming process, Fan Jin mentioned how Zhong Siyuan would add new ideas, saying the producer was nearly going bald from stress. It turned out the rumors about Zhong Siyuan becoming a different person while filming were true. The host asked how many more surprises they didn't know about. Before getting to know him well, even Fan Jin hadn't expected Zhong Siyuan to be such a multifaceted and charismatic man. When the host suggested they worked well together during filming, Zhong Siyuan said Fan Jin was an excellent partner. The host had originally hoped to dig up some drama from the set, but failed. Still, this turned out well too. Afterward, Zhong Siyuan praised Fan Jin for handling the conversation well. Fan Jin hadn't expected him to be so good at smoothing things over. But he told Fan Jin these weren't just pleasantries, but his true feelings. Hearing recognition from a professional, Fan Jin blushed and felt more pressure. Watching all this, Yi Yuxiao felt Zhong Siyuan was declaring war on him. Fan Jin used to smile at him like that, and he should be the one by his side now. He tried to stay calm, having decided before coming not to anger Fan Jin with impulsive actions again. The host and Fan Jin were exchanging pleasantries, hoping to work together again. Suddenly, a bottle of water was handed to Fan Jin from behind. As Fan Jin was about to thank them, Yi Yuxiao said his voice was getting hoarse and told him to drink some water. Then he asked why Fan Jin left without telling him, making him look incompetent. Fan Jin turned around unhappily and asked if he'd had enough fun these past few days. This comment left Yi Yuxiao confused. Just then, staff members brought over promotional script drafts for Fan Jin to review. Seeing this, Yi Yuxiao reached for the papers, saying he would check them since he was Fan Jin's assistant. But Fan Jin told the staff to ignore him, saying he would check it himself and then join them for recording. While reviewing the documents, he informed Yi Yuxiao that he had been fired. Hearing this, Yi Yuxiao looked at him in shock. Seeing he didn't understand, Fan Jin told him he didn't want to play this assistant game with him anymore. Yi Yuxiao quickly explained that he wasn't playing games, but wanted to stay by his side to take care of him. Fan Jin questioned whether he had ever asked if he needed this so-called care. If he felt indebted, then the matter with President Chun was already settled, so he didn't need to try making amends anymore. Just as Yi Yuxiao was about to explain, Fan Jin said he didn't want any more involvement with him. And all of this was witnessed by Zhong Siyuan. Just as Fan Jin was about to knock on his door, Zhong Siyuan handed him a cup of tea, saying it would help calm his emotions. When Fan Jin said he was fine, Zhong Siyuan told him he hadn't meant to overhear his conversation with Yi Yuxiao. Fan Jin lowered his head embarrassedly. To lighten lighten the mood, Jung Si-yoon asked him to close his eyes, saying he would perform a magic trick to cheer him up. After this distraction, Fan Jin did feel more relieved. Then, Jung Si-yoon took out a box, asking him to open it, saying it was returning something to its rightful owner. Curious, Fan Jin opened it to find his mother's talisman, perfectly restored. Unknown to them, their every move was being watched by Yi Yuxiao standing outside the door. Jung Si-yoon told Fan Jin that as soon as the master craftsman notified him it was fixed, he wanted to return it quickly. Though unfortunately, it couldn't be restored exactly as before. Looking closely, tiny repair marks were still visible. Fan Jin held it to his chest, feeling this was enough, as it was one of his few warm memories of family. Watching Fan Jin's joy at recovering the item, Yi Yuxiao outside knew its loss had been his fault too. When Fan Jin was at his lowest, he had chosen to trust others and side with Wu Yin. Later, he was only focused on jealousy of Jung Si-yoon, never considering Fan Jin's feelings. Fan Jin sincerely thanked Jung Si-yoon, not just for this time, but for every time. Hearing this, Jung Si-yoon asked if he could request something in return. Fan Jin agreed readily, but wasn't sure what he could do for him. Jung Si-yoon said they would meet in City C in a few days, his hometown, and he wanted to invite Fan Jin to visit. Hearing Fan Jin's excited voice, Yi Yuxiao realized he had oversimplified their relationship. Jung Si-yoon knew what Fan Jin needed, while he had always forced what he thought was best. But was he really wrong to do so? Fan Jin asked his assistant to change his flight ticket. When asked why he wasn't traveling with Yi Yuxiao, he told them not to worry about it and instructed them not to report this to Yi Yuxiao. Looking at the pendant, he knew Jung Si-yoon was right. Broken things could never be completely restored to their original state. Just as he packed his luggage and opened the door, he saw Yi Yuxiao sitting at the doorway, looking up at him with a flushed face. He didn't know why he was there, and drunk too. Caught, Yi Yuxiao admitted to drinking a little. Seeing Fan Jin's luggage, he knew he was going to leave secretly again. Yi Yuxiao had waited at the door hoping to prove his suspicions wrong. But the other person was really leaving alone because he didn't want to see him. Fan Jin turned his head away, not knowing what to say. Seeing him leaving with his luggage, Yi Yuxiao quickly grabbed him, begging him not to go. Then he tightly held onto his arm from behind and sincerely apologized. He apologized for treating him poorly before, for lying to him, and especially for not standing firmly by his side that day. Ironically, Fan Jin thought he had moved on, but hearing these words, he realized his heart still cared. Yi Yuxiao knew his former immature self wasn't worthy of him, but promised to improve and not let him down again. Now he just begged him not to leave, saying he truly couldn't lose him. There were some things he never wanted to say, but now he had to ask. Did he remember the Ferris wheel incident? When he accepted his confession, only he knew what he was really thinking then. He had been willing to risk everything to bet on his sincerity, but he lost. He accepted the loss. Yi Yuxiao quickly told him it wasn't a loss, that he truly loved him now. Unfortunately, Fan Jin's faith and love had been worn away. Some things he would only do once in his life. Yi Yuxiao realized he used to make promises carelessly to anyone, thinking it wasn't a big deal. Later he learned some words carried consequences too heavy to bear. Now that he wanted to express his true feelings, it seemed too late. He told him to focus his newfound responsibility on managing the company. As for them, meeting again would only bring more trouble. If he really wanted to be good to him, then he should stop making things so difficult. 3 days later, everyone arrived in City C to film the modern version promotional trailer for Spirit Fox. After filming the final scene between Fan Jin and the female lead Ruan, the director called cut. The production team's producer promptly handed Fan Jin a drink and thanked him for his hard work. Seeing it was his usual tea drink, he wondered if the production team had researched even such small details. The production team explained this was the TV station's initiative, and since the filming content was simple, they used the station's director, asking if he was comfortable with the collaboration. Hearing Fan Jin say he was well taken care of and comfortable, the producer told him they had done a lot of preparation. Then, when Fan Jin wasn't looking, he gave a thumbs up to someone hiding behind a tree. It turned out that 2 hours earlier, Yi Yuxiao had been watching Fan Jin work while in disguise. Thinking about his full disguise, he felt sure Fan Jin wouldn't recognize him. However, the producer had considered him suspicious and questioned why he was lurking around watching them. Yi Yuxiao removed his glasses and asked if he needed to report to him. The producer then realized it was Yi Yuxiao, saying no one had notified him of his return. Yi Yuxiao sent Fan Jin's information to him with notes on important points. The producer was surprised to see it was 20 pages long. Yi Yuxiao knew Fan Jin would be angry if he discovered him, so he decided to watch from afar without doing anything inappropriate. At this moment, the female lead put cat ears on Fan Jin's head, and he didn't understand why. The fans got excited seeing this, and Yi Yuxiao, mixed in with the fan group, thought he should buy 100 pairs for Fan Jin. The next scene was Fan Jin shooting balloons and winning dolls for the female lead. The director said they could use a stand-in, but Fan Jin wanted to try himself. He positioned himself with the gun and surprisingly hit all the targets. After handing the one doll to the female lead, she praised his amazing skill. Yi Yuxiao found himself unable to look away from Fan Jin in this state. A female fan beside him explained that Fan Jin had trained in shooting 2 years ago for a role, showing a stack of photos. Yi Yuxiao asked if the photos were for sale. At that moment, Fan Jin suddenly looked in their direction. While the female fan was greeting someone in front, she discovered that the male fan she had just been talking to had vanished. Hiding behind the tree, Yi Yuxiao felt it would be better to leave soon as he might be discovered. However, even during the final scene, he was still sneaking peeks from the side, constantly telling himself just a little longer. Suddenly, fireworks burst across the sky. They had coincidentally caught the fireworks show. Everyone started taking photos with their phones, some to show their daughters, others to watch with their boyfriends. Fan Jin stood alone, quietly looking up. Yi Yuxiao secretly framed him with his hands, feeling that although he was standing among many people, he seemed lonely. He really wanted to be by his side, hold him tight, and see him smile. Just then, he turned around and noticed people in mascot costumes giving out balloons. An idea struck him. Moments later, a bear mascot appeared behind Fan Jin. Seeing the bear trying to give him a balloon, Fan Jin smiled and politely declined, suggesting to give it to someone else. But the bear insisted. Fan Jin thought the mascot was trying to meet some work quota. He watched as a girl nearby happily hugged a rabbit mascot. The bear looked expectantly at Fan Jin. Seeing this, Fan Jin quickly insisted it wasn't necessary. However, the next moment, the bear opened its arms and embraced him under the fireworks. This sudden hug shocked Fan Jin completely. After a moment, the bear released Fan Jin and gave him the balloon. Only with this disguise could he have a chance to hug him. Yi Yuxiao didn't know whether to feel happy or sad. Just as he was about to touch Fan Jin's face, the director suddenly grabbed his arm. The director said this was the perfect prop he wanted and invited him to join tomorrow's shooting. Fan Jin awkwardly told the director that this was an amusement park employee and it would interfere with their work. However, the bear indicated he could come, and the director hugged him again excitedly. Though speechless, Yi Yuxiao felt he wasn't in a position to care about appearances. Being able to accompany Fan Jin was most important. Early the next day, the actress greeted Fan Jin, wanting to say something but hesitating. She had always found it difficult to get close to him on set and wondered how to become friendlier. While thinking this, she noticed Fan Jin smiling in her direction. A moment later, she realized he was actually greeting the bear behind her, thanking him for his help. He wasn't smiling at her after all. Fan Jin walked up to the bear, noting that he hadn't heard him speak yet, wondering if this was part of his work rules. Suddenly, the bear bent down, indicating Fan Jin could pat its head. Watching Fan Jin interact with the bear, the actress thought it was cute and wanted to pat it too. However, just as she reached out to touch, the bear avoided her and seemed to dislike her. Even when the director called action, the bear wouldn't give the actress space, pushing her to the back. Despite her efforts to move forward, it was useless. She couldn't understand what she had done to offend him. But Yi Yuxiao remembered how this woman had constantly pursued Fan Jin on set before and still hadn't given up. He pushed her away completely. With him there, no one else would get to throw themselves at Fan Jin. Despite the woman telling the prop bear not to add extra scenes, Yi Yuxiao successfully got their photo together. After filming, Fan Jin asked him to remove his mask, but Yi Yuxiao knew he'd be finished if he did. Then he heard Fan Jin say they were wrapping up. It ended so quickly today. Just when they could finally interact without awkwardness at their next meeting, he wouldn't be this patient with him anymore. Thinking this, he unconsciously grabbed his arm, then quickly raised both hands, hoping he hadn't noticed his instinctive attempt to stop him from leaving. However, Fan Jin misunderstood his intention, saying, "I understand," and asked him to wait while reaching into his pocket. He handed him an autographed photo, asking if that would do. Watching him walk away, Yi Yuxiao couldn't believe he'd received his autograph. He excitedly covered his mouth, thinking how adorable Fan Jin was. Back at the hotel, the producer thanked Fan Jin for his work and asked him to return to the studio for an interview. However, a staff member ran over, telling them they couldn't leave. Someone had leaked their schedule, and fans had blocked the lobby, causing chaos and conflicts with the hotel. The producer asked Fan Jin to wait until things calmed down, fearing he might get hurt in the chaos. But worried about delaying the interview, Fan Jin thought he should go calm the fans himself. Just then, the toy bear put his hand on his shoulder and patted his chest, indicating he would handle it. He strode outside. Watching the bear's back, Fan Jin was speechless. While fans were still waiting for Fan Jin outside, the toy bear suddenly appeared behind them. As everyone turned to look, he started running. The fans were confused about why a strange mascot was there. Then someone guessed Fan Jin must be inside it. Hearing this, the mascot quickly covered its mouth, and this reaction made fans more certain it was Fan Jin. Watching the fans chasing him while calling out Jinbao, Yi Yuxiao thought his acting was quite convincing. Seeing the fans being led away by the mascot, the producer thought it was fortunate and urged Fan Jin to leave quickly. But Fan Jin felt something wasn't quite right. Outside the amusement park, fans were still chasing. Yi Yuxiao, hiding behind a tree, thought these people must be track team members. They ran so well. He removed his head mask, thinking he'd stalled long enough for Fan Jin to safely leave the park. Suddenly, he froze, seeing a pair of feet appear before him. Looking up, it was Fan Jin. He couldn't believe he'd been discovered, and Fan Jin was equally shocked it was really Yi Yuxiao. Fan Jin demanded to know why he kept pursuing him. Yi Yuxiao said he'd just helped him, but didn't even get a thank you, feeling hurt. He told him he didn't need to follow. They could pretend they hadn't met to avoid awkwardness. Though Yi Yuxiao knew Fan Jin took things seriously, whether he believed it or not, he truly hadn't meant to trouble him, only wanting to watch him from afar unnoticed. Yi Yuxiao felt embarrassed and couldn't even look up, afraid to see disappointment and disgust in his eyes. Just then his phone rang. After struggling to answer it, he realized the costume wouldn't work with the touchscreen. Seeing this, Fan Jin took his phone and helped him swipe to answer. Yi Yuxiao looked up, expecting anger, but saw none in Fan Jin's expression. Seeing Yi Yuxiao frozen, Fan Jin told him to answer the phone quickly. Fan Jin was also frustrated. Though he disliked his willfulness, he didn't want to see him being so submissive either. Yi Yuxiao asked Secretary Zhang to email him the meeting content, saying he had something to do and would contact later, then hung up. The fans were still looking for Fan Jin. Hearing the guard hadn't seen the TV station's car leave, they figured he must still be nearby. At this point, Fan Jin felt it was pointless to listen to Yi Yuxiao's explanation and wanted to leave. The other quickly grabbed him, whispering for him to wait until the fans left. As Fan Jin tried to push him away, Yi Yuxiao told him not to move, asking if he wanted to be discovered and hold an impromptu signing session. Yi Yuxiao felt he was being despicable, seizing any chance to get close to him. He wouldn't ask for more now, just wanting him to stay quietly by his side for a moment. Taking this opportunity, he curiously asked Fan Jin when he had discovered the mascot was him. Hearing this question, Fan Jin said he'd been suspicious since he gave him the balloon. This answer shocked Yi Yuxiao. That was their first interaction. When he asked what happened to the balloon, Fan Jin calmly said he'd thrown it away. Yi Yuxiao was devastated, wondering how he was discovered when he thought his disguise was perfect. Fan Jin wondered if he was really naive or pretending. If he didn't want to be discovered, why did he hug him so tightly? His scent was too familiar. If he didn't want to be discovered, he shouldn't have kept using the same perfume. Seeing Yi Yuxiao put the mascot head back on, Fan Jin wondered what he was doing. He explained that since fans hadn't left, hiding wasn't a solution, and they'd be late for the interview. They'd have to use the same trick again. Fan Jin understood he meant to be the decoy. Seeing his concern, Yi Yuxiao joked that although he'd run fast earlier and didn't know how long he'd need to run now, it was fine. Hearing this, Fan Jin grew more worried and told him not to force himself to run. Then he admitted he was just teasing, saying he'd already recharged enough and mentioned tonight's party. The soft-hearted troublemaker should go too, but not get too close. Fan Jin replied he was more troublesome. Yi Yuxiao accused him of being ungrateful and said he would leave this sad place. After the joke, Fan Jin showed no reaction. He knew Yi Yuxiao had helped him and the film crew these past few days, but he'd already said what needed to be said last time. Even if he kept doing these things, it wouldn't change his attitude. Hearing this, Yi Yuxiao mumbled inside the mask that he'd pretend he hadn't heard that. He knew his persistent pursuit looked bad, but he had no other path to take. While running, he thought that as long as Fan Jin could continue being a star high in the sky, he would do everything else for him. That evening, Fan Jin attended the party alone. Zhong Siyuan was also invited, but couldn't attend due to his grandfather's illness. With no other acquaintances, he could only kill time in a corner. Just then, he suddenly collided with someone. About to apologize, the other person steadied his shoulders. It was Yi Yuxiao. At that moment, the other was looking at him tenderly, their eyes meeting. Before they could speak, Yi Yuxiao was called away to meet friends. He could only tell Fan Jin he'd see him later. It seemed that since being discovered, he wasn't hiding anymore and was everywhere. Just then, Ruan really came to find him. Seeing him unsteady, Fan Jin asked what was wrong. Hearing he was dizzy from drinking too much, Fan Jin quickly told him to rest. Ruan said his assistant would take him to the restroom. All of this was secretly photographed by people he had arranged. Meanwhile, Yi Yuxiao was making boring small talk with others. Ruan looked at the photos his assistant secretly took with satisfaction, thinking even he believed it looked like he was dating Fan Jin. The photos he took at the amusement park had already stirred up discussion among gossip accounts. Now that Fan Jin's popularity was high, he would use any means to be associated with him. Then he asked his assistant if they had collected any dirt from Fan Jin's past. The assistant said they were working on it. Though Ruan used to like Fan Jin, he was angry that Fan Jin rejected him. Besides, in this industry, you had to step on others to get ahead. After saying this, he asked his assistant to get some fruit. While Ruan was editing photos on his phone, the door suddenly opened. He thought it was his assistant returning with fruit. Then his phone was snatched away. Yi Yuxiao had been suspicious that the marketing photos couldn't have been taken by fans. They must have been leaked internally. The contract between both companies clearly stated that neither side could engage in deliberate marketing. It seemed Ruan didn't take the contract seriously. Yi Yuxiao confronted Ruan, saying Fan Jin had always taken care of him on the Ling Huchuan set, yet this was how he repaid him. Hearing this, Ruan asked if he planned to tell Fan Jin about this. Meanwhile, a waiter was directing Fan Jin to the VIP room. He actually wanted to check on Ruan. Yi Yuxiao told him he would handle it privately, worried that Fan Jin would be hurt knowing Ruan's friendly gestures had ulterior motives. Moreover, he couldn't let Fan Jin know what he was about to do. Fan Jin hadn't seen Yi Yuxiao for a while, and Ruan hadn't appeared either. Originally, these were unrelated events, but he had a bad feeling. When he opened the door, he found them sitting on the sofa chatting and joking, saying he too had snuck in for a break. Looking at the scene before him, Fan Jin was stunned. This was different from what he had expected. Then Ruan got up, saying he'd had too much to drink and would leave. Yi Yuxiao said he enjoyed their chat and looked forward to meeting again. Fan Jin noticed that when Ruan passed by, he nervously covered his neck, revealing a new scarf. Yi Yuxiao came over, knowing Fan Jin disliked parties and wouldn't stay long, offering to take him home. He added that he'd secretly followed to Shi City and booked the same hotel, so it was on his way, asking him not to refuse. Hearing this, Fan Jin suddenly suggested going to his place to paint. This unexpected surprise left Yi Yuxiao momentarily stunned. While making honey water for Fan Jin, he joked that he never imagined being in the same room with him, saying it was like a dream. Fan Jin sat on the sofa, watching his casual demeanor. He knew Yi Yuxiao was skilled at presenting a perfectly caring facade. He had once been deeply caught up in it, overlooking what the other truly wanted to hide. With this in mind, he directly asked what he and Ruan had discussed in the restroom. Hearing this question, Yi Yuxiao froze. He then said they only discussed upcoming promotions, as the show would officially air in a few days, and Ruan was nervous, so he reassured him. He handed the honey water to Fan Jin, telling him to drink while it was hot. But Fan Jin didn't take it. Since he couldn't get the truth from him, there was no point in staying. Seeing him about to leave, Yi Yuxiao quickly grabbed his hand, asking him not to go. Fan Jin angrily told him to let go. In the struggle, Yi Yuxiao's water cup fell and shattered on the floor. He didn't know what Fan Jin planned to do, but Fan Jin said he had already guessed, so why bother asking? Fan Jin just wanted to know what Ruan was so afraid of before leaving, rushing away so hastily, not wanting anyone to know his fear. He told Yi Yuxiao he wouldn't be naive enough to believe him like before. He would find ways to learn what he wanted to know. Yi Yuxiao knew the old Fan Jin wouldn't return. This was his own doing, but now he only wanted to protect him. The thought of even this simple wish being taken away. He could only lower his head and admit he had threatened Ruan. At the time, Ruan promised to stop using Fan Jin for publicity, but Yi Yuxiao knew stopping now was useless as the rumors had already spread. So he suggested Ruan create his own news to divert everyone's attention. However, Ruan felt he had finally gotten a chance to rise, and a scandal would ruin him. Yi Yuxiao told him there were simpler ways to ruin him, like scarring his face or simply cutting off his fingers. Ruan was almost crying in fear, but Yi Yuxiao Xiao continued to frighten him, asking which hand he used to touch Fan Jin while pretending to be drunk. Looking at the knife against his neck, Ruan knew he wasn't joking, but truly wanted to kill him. Seeing his state, Xiao felt disgusted and told him to cover his neck. He threatened him not to approach Fan Jin, warning that if he tried anything again, things wouldn't end as simply as today. Hearing all this, Fan Jin thought Xiao had gone mad. There were many ways to warn someone. Why threaten their life? Xiao told him it was fortunate Ruan hadn't managed to hurt him. Otherwise, he would have done more than just threaten. Fan Jin thought he was unreasonable, but to protect him, Xiao needed to thoroughly intimidate Ruan to prevent any thoughts of revenge. Looking at the extreme Xiao, Fan Jin felt he didn't understand him. He recalled the incident with Manager Chun and forcing Wu Yin to leave the industry, not knowing what methods were used. Thinking of these things, Fan Jin fearfully stepped back. Seeing Fan Jin afraid of him, Xiao felt heartbroken. He grabbed Fan Jin's shoulders, telling him not to be afraid, that he would never treat him that way. Fan Jin broke free forcefully, sarcastically thanking him for not putting a knife to his throat while manipulating him. Xiao knew he had wronged him before and wouldn't argue, but insisted he had changed now. Fan Jin found his use of power to intimidate women despicable, choosing the most contemptible method among many options. Xiao told him not to be too kind, saying Ruan was more ruthless than he thought, and only controlling his actions would make him fear. He did all this to protect Fan Jin, knowing he disliked these things, which was why he hid it from him. He didn't expect Fan Jin's gratitude, but with him around, no one would dare target Fan Jin. Fan Jin felt the sweet and gentle Xiao from before was just his imagination. The person before him wasn't normal. Then, Xiao told Fan Jin he would handle anything Fan Jin couldn't do, asking him to pretend he knew nothing. Fan Jin wanted to punch him to wake him up, but knew this was his true nature and wouldn't change for him. Seeing his silence, Xiao asked him to share his thoughts, saying he couldn't read Fan Jin anymore. However, Fan Jin found this ironic, as he felt he now saw through Xiao. Looking at his hand that Fan Jin had knocked away, Xiao froze. Just as Fan Jin was about to leave, he suddenly stopped and called out to Xiao. Fan Jin stated that since Xiao's warning to Ruan had achieved its purpose, they should let the matter end here. Seeing Fan Jin's insistence, Xiao realized this was why he had agreed to stay with him tonight. He suddenly felt heartbroken, even extremely soft. No matter how hard he tried, it was useless, yet he had a second chance to hear it. Xiao agreed to his request, and Fan Jin told him to remember today's promise. He could give anyone else a chance, except Xiao, because he had been different from the beginning. As he left, Xiao cleaned up the broken cup pieces. He really didn't want to make Fan Jin unhappy. For this, he was willing to be patient. However, his condition was that his bottom line wouldn't be crossed. The next day, Fan Jin told the producer he'd arrive in about half an hour, but they said there was no rush since Ruan had canceled the interview. The TV station didn't know what had displeased Ruan and was worried. Fan Jin was also surprised to hear this. Then he mentioned that Ruan lived next door to him, and if he ran into him, he'd ask about it. The producer hurriedly thanked him. Fan Jin wondered if Ruan's refusal to participate was to avoid him or because of Xiao's threats. Thinking this, he prepared to go out and ask him directly. But he saw Ruan holding a paper box, leaning against the doorway. Seeing him approach, Ruan frightfully backed away. Seeing this, Fan Jin felt awkward. It was clear Ruan didn't want to talk to him, but he couldn't reveal he knew everything, unsure how to start the conversation. Before he could figure out what to say, he heard Ruan cry out in shock. Seeing his bleeding hand, he rushed forward to ask what happened. That's when he saw a teddy bear covered in glass shards scattered on the ground. He quickly suggested going to the hospital, but Ruan thought he had left the box at the door, saying he had promised to stay away, asking why he wouldn't leave him alone. Seeing him so agitated, he quickly told him to calm down and explained it wasn't from him. Then he suddenly remembered seeing this box in Xiao's room. He couldn't believe all this was really Xiao's doing. As Fan Jin sat lost in thought on the hospital chair, he heard someone calling him. Looking up, it was Xiao, rushing over anxiously, asking if he was unwell or hurt somewhere. Fan Jin told him he was fine, that Ruan had cut his hand and was getting stitches inside. Upon hearing this, Xiao quickly hugged him, saying the hotel hadn't been clear about the situation and he had been terribly worried. But Fan Jin coldly replied that he was the one who knew the situation best. Seeing Fan Jin thought this was related to him, Yi Yuxiao quickly asked what he meant. But Fan Jin felt he was playing dumb, demanding if he was finally satisfied now that he had terrified Ruan. After saying this, he no longer wanted to deal with him and left directly. Just then, a nurse asked if he was accompanying Ruan and said they could go in. As Fan Jin was about to enter, Yi Yuxiao grabbed his wrist. Then, he forcefully dragged him to an empty hospital room, stating he wouldn't let him go anywhere until this matter was cleared up. Fan Jin asked if he was angry from embarrassment, saying the doll filled with razor blades was his handiwork. Yi Yuxiao punched the wall, saying he didn't do it, as it would only make Fan Jin suspicious of him. But Fan Jin didn't believe him, thinking he was deliberately leading him to think this way to clear his suspicion. Seeing how Fan Jin thought of him in this way, Yi Yuxiao demanded why he couldn't give him some trust. But Fan Jin said there was no trust between them anymore, as he couldn't tell if he was acting, so he'd rather not look or believe. Yi Yuxiao wondered if his efforts meant anything, as everything he did for him was seen as the actions of an unscrupulous bastard. Thinking this, he grabbed Fan Jin's chin, asking why he kept pushing him like this. Since he thought he understood his true nature, he should guess what he would do next. With that, he pushed Fan Jin onto the hospital bed. Fan Jin warned him this was a hospital and told him not to go crazy. But Yi Yuxiao leaned down, telling him to treat him like a madman. Then he pressed down on his neck and restrained his hands. Then he opened his mouth wide and bit his neck. He really hated him a little now. Fan Jin closed his eyes and screamed in pain. Yi Yuxiao felt so tired, he didn't want to continue anymore. Since nothing he did mattered, he might as well forcefully possess him, keep him firmly by his side. At this moment, Fan Jin called out Yi Yuxiao's name with hatred. With that call, Yi Yuxiao slowly came to his senses, seeing the bite mark on Fan Jin's neck. He reached out and asked if it hurt, then asked if he could now understand a bit of how he felt. Pointing at his heart, he asked Fan Jin what would satisfy him, if he needed to cut out his own heart. Then Yi Yuxiao dejectedly turned and left the room. To him, Fan Jin was actually the cruelest person. At this time, Zhong Siyuan also arrived at the hospital because Fan Jin hadn't explained anything. He could only rush over, hoping Fan Jin was alright. Suddenly, he saw Yi Yuxiao walking out. Seeing this, he quickly dodged behind the door. After he passed by, looking at his dejected figure, Zhong Siyuan fell into deep thought. Ruan's assistant also rushed over, apologizing and blaming himself for going to the TV station instead of staying with Ruan at the hotel. But Ruan told Fan Jin to consider this matter over. He would change hotels and avoid overlapping with his future promotions. Zhong Siyuan first asked about Fan Jin's condition, then asked what exactly had happened. After calming down, Fan Jin also felt Yi Yuxiao had no reason to do this, but once it involved him, he would become impulsive. Thinking about how Yi Yuxiao strongly emphasized it wasn't him, Fan Jin thought perhaps this matter really wasn't related to him. Meanwhile, Yi Yuxiao was also troubled. He had tried every possible way, unsure what to do with Fan Jin now. He suddenly realized that right after he promised Fan Jin to leave Ruan alone, this incident happened. Wasn't it too coincidental? Looking at his phone, he wondered if this was staged by that woman, or if he had overlooked something. Regardless, he needed to eliminate security risks. With this in mind, he called to request reviewing security footage with the hotel manager. Since Fan Jin hadn't figured out this matter, he didn't explain it to Zhong Siyuan. After expressing understanding, she asked if he was free on the weekend. Fan Jin told her he had no scheduled plans and asked what she had in mind for tomorrow. Zhong Siyuan brought Fan Jin to a villa. Looking at the person who came to open the door, Fan Jin was stunned. It was the former national-level actor Zhong Yi. Seeing Zhong Siyuan finally bringing a friend home, Zhong Yi was very welcoming. Fan Jin wondered why Zhong Siyuan never mentioned that her grandfather was Zhong Yi. She replied it was because he never asked. Then, Zhong Siyuan offered to help with the yard work, but her grandfather exposed that she never liked manual labor since childhood and might damage his precious plants. At this point, Fan Jin had already put on gloves, offering to help if they didn't mind. He said he was a fan of Grandfather, and Grandfather mentioned he had watched Fan Jin's dramas that Zhong Siyuan showed him, praising his potential. Watching from the side, Zhong Siyuan felt that every time she saw Fan Jin, he showed her a new side of himself. She began filming Fan Jin doing farm work, explaining that she always filmed to show their relatives who lived far away. At this moment, Fan Jin was pulling weeds, and due to using too much force, he fell sitting on the ground. He quickly turned to ask Zhong Siyuan if she had captured that moment on camera, but she just held up her phone, smiling without saying a word. Fan Jin asked if she would delete it. Zhong Siyuan smiled and said it's hard to say, as it's precious material. Grandfather told Fan Jin that Jung Si-Eun appears shocked on the surface, but she's actually sly. He asked how young people describe it. Fan Jin said it's called being secretly frisky. Jung Si-Eun awkwardly asked if they were deliberately speaking so loud, as she could hear from so far away. Seeing Fan Jin holding the water hose unsure how to use it, Jung Si-Eun volunteered to teach him, but unexpectedly sprayed his face directly. She quickly explained she wasn't good at gardening, but he felt she was getting revenge for calling her secretly frisky earlier. How childish. Just then, he suddenly had a good idea. He took advantage when she wasn't paying attention and sprayed the hose at her. Seeing Jung Si-Eun couldn't dodge in time, Fan Jin laughed happily. Grandfather watched the two playing around and remarked that young people indeed have energy. Jung Si-Eun took out her phone to film again, saying seeing Fan Jin in good spirits triggered her professional instincts. Fan Jin then realized she was worried about him being troubled by the hospital incident and deliberately let him play with water. He was very touched by this. Thinking about it, he continued playing happily and even discovered he had created a rainbow with the spray. Watching all this, Jung Si-Eun felt the real Fan Jin was more complex and interesting than all the movies she had filmed. But it also brought new worries, making it hard for one to remain just a bystander. After playing, Fan Jin came out after showering, drying his hair, and thanked Jung Si-Eun for lending him clothes. Right after speaking, he couldn't help but sneeze. She handed him a cup of hot tea, saying if this were an idol drama, he would now catch a cold and collapse. Fan Jin was shocked she watched idol dramas. While asking where Grandfather went, Jung Si-Eun told him someone rang the doorbell and Grandfather went to answer it. Then they heard Yi Yuxiao telling Grandfather it had been a while since he visited. He greeted Grandfather warmly. Grandfather then asked Jung Si-Eun why she didn't tell him Yi Yuxiao was also involved in the Westlake project. Looking at the person before him, Fan Jin didn't know why he appeared, wondering if it was because he knew Fan Jin was here. He froze, but the other person completely ignored him. Instead, he hugged Jung Si-Eun, saying he just happened to be free. Fan Jin felt this person seemed somewhat unfamiliar today. At the dinner table, Yi Yuxiao told Grandfather he was tired from taking over the company, but Grandfather thought he should experience some hardship. Meanwhile, Yi Yuxiao kept ignoring him. Although this was what he wanted, it shouldn't happen after that incident. Was it because elders were present? Or was he deliberately letting him know he was angry about that incident? Fan Jin warned himself not to think about Yi Yuxiao anymore. Then he started focusing on the food in his bowl. At this time, Jung Si-Eun put a piece of meat in his bowl, telling him to feel at home. Yi Yuxiao sat across, coldly watching the two. Then Grandfather asked if he and Fan Jin were in the same company and if they got along well. Hearing this, both of them paused for a moment. Then Yi Yuxiao told Grandfather they got along well, as Fan Jin was their company's valuable talent. Fan Jin stiffly replied that President Yi took good care of him at work. Grandfather advised them not to be so formal, saying young people should interact more. He mentioned Jung Si-Eun, who then told Grandfather and Fan Jin that she cherished their time together. Watching all this, Yi Yuxiao accidentally knocked his teacup to the floor with his arm. That was Grandfather's favorite cup. Yi Yuxiao quickly apologized, and Grandfather helplessly said he was clumsy. Yi Yuxiao hurriedly crouched down to clean up the glass shards on the floor. Then he picked up a piece, saying it means peace year after year. He said he would take the shard back as a lucky charm. Seeing how he always had an explanation, Grandfather could only agree with a smile. After dinner, Jung Si-Eun told them to rest in the living room while she cleaned up. Fan Jin offered to help her. Yi Yuxiao stood nearby, coldly watching their interaction. At this time, Grandfather came over and invited him to watch TV together in the living room, leaving Jung Si-Eun and Fan Jin alone to clean up in the kitchen. In the living room, Grandfather said he thought Fan Jin was nice and asked Yi Yuxiao's opinion, but he was clearly distracted. Grandfather felt Jung Si-Eun had good taste, saying many directors have their favorite actors. Besides acting ability, there's also fate. Simply put, it's destiny. In the kitchen, Jung Si-Eun told Fan Jin she had planned the shooting locations for their previous script discussion. She invited him to join tomorrow. Hearing this, Fan Jin agreed, saying he was also very interested. Seeing them so compatible, Grandfather was very happy. Yi Yuxiao said he was a bit envious, while tightly gripping the cup shard in his hand. If that's the case, he would take Fan Jin somewhere no one could find. Then no one could take him away. That night, Zhong Siyuan wanted them to stay over. But Yi Yuxiao said he and Fan Jin needed to return to the hotel to check their upcoming schedule. Fan Jin knew he was lying and guessed he had something else to say. Hearing this, Zhong Siyuan could only tell them to be careful on their way back and confirm tomorrow's meeting with Fan Jin. On the way back, they remained silent in the car until Fan Jin couldn't help coughing. Then Yi Yuxiao asked the driver to close the windows, then asked if he had caught a cold. Fan Jin told him no. Yi Yuxiao said he had checked the hotel surveillance, but the person who left the delivery box deliberately avoided the cameras, so their face wasn't captured. Fan Jin finally realized that he had followed him here today, specifically to explain this matter. Then Fan Jin's gaze fell on his hand, wondering when he had gotten hurt. Back at the hotel, Fan Jin lay in bed. He hadn't rested well these days because of the razor blade doll incident, but today he could temporarily forget about it. With a flushed face and feeling drowsy, he thought perhaps he had wrongly blamed Yi Yuxiao before. The next day, Fan Jin opened his eyes feeling unwell. After getting ready, while coughing, he prepared to go out to meet Yi Yuxiao, who was already waiting outside his door. He heard him asking why he looked so pale. Fan Jin answered he hadn't slept well while asking what he was doing here. Yi Yuxiao put his hand on his forehead and demanded to know why he didn't realize he had a fever. Then he picked Fan Jin up, and when he struggled, Yi Yuxiao quickly warned him not to move. After entering the room, he put Fan Jin on the bed, telling him to lie down while he went to ask hotel staff to bring up some medicine. Fan Jin felt his fever wasn't serious, and he could endure it. Plus, he had plans to view locations with Zhong Siyuan. But Yi Yuxiao felt that for the sake of meeting Zhong Siyuan, he was disregarding his own health. Fan Jin immediately sat up. He didn't want to argue with him now, just asking him to leave first. However, this attitude angered the other person, who pushed him down onto the bed. Yi Yuxiao wouldn't let him go find Zhong Siyuan, then asked Fan Jin if he could be more obedient. Yi Yuxiao didn't understand. He had really tried his best. Why did the other person have to push him? Just as Fan Jin was about to say something, before he could speak, the other person supported his head with his hand and lifted him up, then kissed his lips. After the kiss, Yi Yuxiao declared dominantly that he wouldn't let anyone take him away. He could only belong to him alone. But Fan Jin felt dizzy at this moment, without any strength, and could only lay on Yi Yuxiao's shoulder. Noticing something wrong, Yi Yuxiao quickly called out to Fan Jin, but he gave no response. The scene changes to the hospital, where Fan Jin lay unconscious on the bed. The doctor told Yi Yuxiao that the fever would break soon after the injection, and asked him to prepare some light food. After the doctor left, he sat by the bed, quietly watching the person lying there. Slowly reached out to touch Fan Jin's cheek. He had wanted to do this for a long time. These past few months had been really tiring. Every day, he wanted to be closer to Fan Jin, wanted to see him all the time, to touch him. He was tortured by these thoughts every day, but he was afraid of doing something that Fan Jin would hate. Now he finally didn't have to be so anxious anymore. He softly asked Fan Jin if he remembered their promise to see the sea together. He had prepared a house where they could move in together. He hoped Fan Jin wouldn't look at others and would stay in his world forever. After speaking, Yi Yuxiao leaned down and kissed his forehead. Yi Yuxiao quickly packed their luggage in the hotel, then took out Fan Jin's phone and sent a message to Zhong Siyuan. After doing all this, he turned back to look at Fan Jin, still quietly sleeping on the bed, completely unaware of what was about to happen. Meanwhile, grandfather knew Zhong Siyuan was supposed to go out with Fan Jin and asked why he hadn't left yet. Looking at the cancellation message on his phone, he told grandfather Fan Jin couldn't make it due to something coming up, so he prepared to take grandfather fishing. But grandfather didn't want him hovering around all day. Asked him to ask Fan Jin what happened and if he needed help. Zhong Siyuan knew grandfather was right, but was very mindful of boundaries. It wouldn't be good to ask abruptly, so he decided to ask later. Seeing him like this, grandfather was truly disappointed. Meanwhile, Yi Yuxiao was washing himself with cold water, trying to clear his mind. He knew this was the best chance to take Fan Jin away. Fan Jin had no strength to resist now. But once he took this step, the other person would never forgive him. He clutched his chest, feeling it wasn't much different from now anyway. After all, there was no turning back. He knew there was another way, to let him be with someone else. Let him be happy. He had always understood but refused to admit it. Now, there were two voices in Yi Yuxiao's head. One said Fan Jin was his alone. The other reminded him he had promised not to hurt Fan Jin again. One said he couldn't live without Fan Jin. The other said rather than torturing each other, better to let go. Yi Yuxiao smashed the glass with his fist, wanting both voices to shut up. At this moment, he finally came to his senses. Seeing Fan Jin wake up, Yi Yuxiao quickly walked over with a cup, handed him the water, and asked if he wanted to sleep more. After Fan Jin finished drinking and helped him lie down, just as Yi Yuxiao was about to leave, Fan Jin grabbed his hand. Yi Yuxiao was extremely nervous, not knowing if he would mention stopping him from seeing Zhong Siyuan or the forced kiss. Unexpectedly, Fan Jin, in his unclear state, just held his hand and concernedly asked how he got hurt. Yi Yuxiao was stunned, then heard him urging to go treat the wound. After saying that, he fell asleep again. Yi Yuxiao watched Fan Jin with tears in his eyes, wondering how he could be so foolish. Everyone in their circle said he was stubborn and strong-willed. That's what made him curious about him in the first place. Now it seems they were right. Even knowing how dangerous he was, he still cared about him. With someone like this, he really didn't know what to do. Yi Yuxiao didn't know what to say at this moment, could only apologize while crying. He kissed Fan Jin's hand, apologizing repeatedly, because at this point, no words could express his regret. How wonderful it would be if everything could start over. He would never do anything to wrong him, would definitely make him the happiest person. Unfortunately, there are no ifs in this world. After realizing this, Yi Yuxiao called Xiao Zhang, telling him not to prepare the house anymore. Scene changes. When Fan Jin woke up again, it was already night. Looking out the window, he realized he had slept all day. Then, he saw Yi Yuxiao sleeping on the sofa. Had he been watching over him all this time? Looking at the sleeping person, Fan Jin hesitated whether to go over. After thinking for a moment, he still took a blanket and walked to Yi Yuxiao's side. Meanwhile, seeing Fan Jin appear on TV, grandfather was very excited, while Zhong Siyuan was still wondering if he could contact Fan Jin now. He kept editing and re-editing the message, feeling that asking directly seemed too blunt. Suddenly, looking at grandfather beside him, he had a good idea. At the same time, Fan Jin received a message from Zhong Siyuan. It was a photo of grandfather. Zhong Siyuan told him grandfather was watching Ling Huchuan. After using grandfather to start the conversation, Zhong Siyuan began asking Fan Jin if things went smoothly today. At this moment, Fan Jin's phone rang. As soon as he answered, he heard his assistant chattering about Ling Huchuan's broadcast, as if he hadn't spoken for ages. At this point, Fan Jin finally reacted. He didn't understand what they meant by saying Mr. Ye's efforts weren't wasted. Seeing his confusion, the assistant told him that Mr. Ye had handled all pre-broadcast arrangements and resolved promotional issues, and said that in Mr. Ye's heart, Ling Huchuan was most important. A few days ago, he even had his secretary note down the same figurine that just came out. Hearing this, Fan Jin connected all the information and finally understood what the box he saw was. Thinking of when Yi Yuxiao painfully asked him what he needed to do to make him satisfied, Fan Jin gripped the bedsheet. Although the other person had hurt him before, he had also hurt his heart. He wondered when the debt between them would finally be settled. Meanwhile, having not received Fan Jin's reply, Zhong Siyuan was distracted in everything he did. Whenever he heard a phone vibrate, he quickly looked at it. However, grandfather told him it was his own phone message and told him not to get excited. Hearing this, Zhong Siyuan was extremely embarrassed. Fan Jin opened Yi Yuxiao's computer. He didn't know how the other managed to handle company matters while spending time with him during the day. Looking at the files on the computer, he finally realized how much the other had done for him, yet never mentioned any of this pressure. Looking back at Yi Yuxiao sleeping on the sofa, he went forward and adjusted the blanket covering him. So love really could completely change a person. Just as he was about to get up, Yi Yuxiao opened his eyes, then suddenly grabbed his wrist and placed it on his face. He thought Fan Jin had come to his dream again. He quickly closed his eyes, begging Fan Jin not to go, not to leave him. After coming to his senses a moment later, Yi Yuxiao quickly released his hand. Fan Jin also awkwardly withdrew his hand. Afraid of angering him, Yi Yuxiao quickly apologized. Just as he was about to explain, Fan Jin said he had slept all day, telling him to eat something first. After the food was set out, seeing Fan Jin still sitting there with his head down, Yi Yuxiao told him to eat while it's hot. However, Fan Jin said he had something to say. Then he told Yi Yuxiao that regarding what happened at the hospital last time, he had thought carefully about it these past few days. Before he could finish, Yi Yuxiao interrupted him, asking to speak first. Then he told Fan Jin that he was leaving C Department. Hearing this, Fan Jin couldn't immediately understand what it meant.